This story opens on a city absolutely wrecked, burning under a blood-red sky, where a mysterious gunslinger calmly lights a match with a flick of his thumb. Just then, a pair of massive, bloodied feet slams down into the rubble, belonging to a steaming giant who coughs out a threat to make him pay. This thing is barely on its feet, clutching a knife and screaming in pure rage, but it still takes a moment to compliment our boy's bravery, which is a new one. Unimpressed, the gunslinger tells the creature to pass a message to the demons. Then he just blitzes forward, unleashing a flurry of deadly red slashes. As the monster falls, he calls out the name of who sent it, Sutton. With the job done, he rides off alone under a full moon, a true lone wolf. Turns out he is holding a deed to a place called Burroughs Homestead, and his new official quest is literally just to retire. Yeah, that will go smoothly. His reward is a dilapidated shack in the middle of a barren wasteland, but it seems the property already has a tenant aiming a crossbow from the window. Without a word of warning, the hidden archer just lets a bolt fly, scoring a direct hit right in our guy's chest, a classic welcome to the neighborhood gift. The shooter steps out, declaring the town off-limits to bandits, while our hero looks completely unfazed by the arrow sticking out of him. He just clenches his fist, which starts glowing with some serious power, then raises his hands with a smirk, saying, "I think you have got the wrong man." He introduces himself as John Sutton, here on official business from the Eternal Flame, but the crossbow-wielding sheriff is clearly not buying this very official-sounding story, so he apologizes, assuming Sutton's just some lost war hero, a label our boy does not correct, and the sheriff, George, just points him toward the village of Fairford, prompting a polite tip of the hat from Sutton as they finally exchange names, followed by a firm handshake as Sutton says he will be seeing him around, to which George mutters, "Hopefully not, so glad everyone's getting along already." Sutton soon rides into Fairford, which looks like your standard dusty frontier town, trotting right past a giant, imposing statue of some local big shot, while from a high vantage point someone watches him, thinking he has found his man. And a couple of other locals give him the stink eye as he passes by, but our guy just rides on through the main street, ignoring all the hostile stares, as even a pair of kids stop in their tracks to watch the stranger arrive, and he finally reaches the massive building that serves as the village leader's office. Inside, the leader examines the deed, which now has a very noticeable crossbow hole in it. But he is more impressed by the official seal of the Eternal Flame, which you do not see every day, while Sutton just casually mentions the tough crowd he met on his way here, which gets a hearty laugh from the leader, who says he will get used to the frontier welcome. Then he finally introduces himself as the man in charge, Jonas Halden, and Sutton immediately points out he looks nothing like the statue, while Jonas sharpens a knife. Jonas clarifies the statue is his dad, who passed away a few years back. They just share a name, and he then pegs Sutton as a fellow Mage Wars veteran, just like his old man was. Showing some real concern, Jonas offers to find him a spot in a much safer village nearby, but Sutton just gives him a hard stare, insisting he can handle himself just fine. Jonas just shrugs it off, agreeing to get our boy settled in since he is so insistent. And as they ride out of town, Sutton asks how the old man managed to become village leader. Turns out his dad was a military scout who managed to survive the Battle of Torrens Plains, a feat Sutton immediately calls BS on, since supposedly no one survived that massacre. Jonas explains his dad's genius survival tactic, faking his own death to float away on a log, classic. He is glad magic is outlawed, but then reveals his father was the first to die of mysterious causes. Sutton just remarks that the old man was lucky to get discharged since they were summoning anyone they could get. His eyes drift to the horizon as he mutters, "Here is hoping it is a nice farm." They finally arrive at the property, only to find a small crowd already gathered there, and Jonas immediately starts sweating bullets trying to explain the uninvited guests. Yeah, this is awkward. Down below, a woman is firmly telling some guy that she is not interested in his boss's deal, prompting Jonas to yell out her name, Ellie, as the man starts getting aggressive. This goon insists she will not get a better offer, while another local rushes in to help her out, which is when the main thug grabs her by the collar, asking if she feels threatened now. With pure ice in her eyes, she replies that she just feels nauseated, actually. And Jonas finally finds his voice, screaming at the thugs to leave her alone. This lead thug immediately starts trash-talking Jonas, calling him a Nepo baby living off his dad's name, and that is when Sutton strolls in, asking what this welcome party is doing on his property. Scoffing, the goon claims he is just handling unfinished business, completely dismissing the newcomer. So Sutton's eye starts glowing as he gives them 2 seconds before he turns them into lawn gnomes, a very specific threat. He then turns to Ellie, playing the gentleman and asking if she is in any trouble here, but she nervously denies it, clearly trying to avoid making the situation even worse. Our boy just tells them to carry on while he unpacks, acting like they are a mild inconvenience at best. His opponents are left standing there, completely baffled by the whole lawn gnome thing, when suddenly a kid's voice cuts through the tension, demanding to know where his cows are. This outburst clearly startles the goons, who seem to recognize the little guy immediately, and the boy, Ben, accuses them of stealing their cows last week, exposing their whole racket. His sister immediately clamps a hand over his mouth, trying to shut him up before he gets them all killed. It is too late, though, because Sutton's eyes narrow. He has heard everything he needs to. All the thugs can do is stare back, wondering what this mysterious stranger is going to do now. Ellie quickly tries to backtrack, begging Sutton to forgive her brother for his outburst, while the lead thug tries to play it cool, laughing it off and saying kids just make up stories. Getting right in his face, Sutton says he heard the kid perfectly clearly, so that excuse is not gonna fly. He then asks point blank what happened to the cows, and the thug just smirks back at him, bad move. In response, Sutton grabs the guy's hand and crushes it with a sickening crunch. And as the thug screams, our boy whips out a glowing scythe, ready to get some real answers. This scythe vanishes as Sutton just slams the thug against the wall, no magic needed for this part. And leaning in close, he repeats the kid's simple demand, "Return my cows," then gives the terrified goon a 3-day deadline because he is a reasonable guy, you see. A cloud of dust is all that is left as the thugs make a very, very hasty exit. And just like that, the welcome party is over, leaving the homestead in sudden silence. Inside, Sutton's already settled in with a book, completely ignoring Ellie and her brother in the doorway, while little Ben is freaking out, asking his sister if this new guy is about to make them homeless. Ellie gently tries to shush him, her own anxiety clearly showing through, and she puts on a brave face, promising her little brother that everything will be okay. But the kid is not buying it, terrified of going to Jonas and pointing out this new guy as a soldier. Still not looking up from his book, Sutton finally addresses them, calling out Ellie's name, and she jumps, completely startled, meekly answering him while bracing for the worst. He gets straight to the point, asking how she ended up squatting here since Jonas never mentioned her. And her explanation is simple. The original owner, Burroughs, died, so someone had to tend the farm. Jonas apparently took pity on them after their whole town was destroyed by the Leperian army, which finally gets Sutton's attention. He asks if she means their army, since he was not told about that. As he thinks, a tiny flame just materializes over his cup, a little sign of his power leaking out. And that same fire reflects in his eye as you can see the gears turning in his head. It is a flashback to a burning city, with Sutton standing right in the middle of the destruction. Looks familiar, does not it? And Ellie just stares out at a destroyed landscape, the very same devastation he might have caused. Ellie's flashback is pure terror, a face of horror amidst the rubble of her destroyed home. And back in the present, Sutton quietly processes this, the weight of her story hanging in the air. He just snuffs out the candle with his bare fingers, ending the heavy conversation without a word, then gets to his feet looking like he has just heard the worst news of his life. Sutton heads over to the stove, his hand glowing faintly as he seems to get an idea. With his face hidden in shadow, he offers to be the one to leave and find an inn for the night. But Ellie quickly offers to leave instead, promising she will find a new place with Jonas tomorrow. Insisting the property is his and that her family's presence will only attract more bandits. Grabbing her brother's hand, she is already heading for the door, ready to just vanish into the night. But Sutton stops her, suggesting she at least stay and think it over. What a gentleman. Completely stunned by his kindness, all Ellie can do is stammer out a hesitant agreement. Next thing you know, a pot of stew is bubbling away. Apparently that was his big plan. He pops the lid on and shoves it in the oven, a true master of post-thug beating hospitality. And there he waits, looking more like a seasoned homesteader than a demon hunter. Then he calls them over to eat, telling them not to be shy, which is pretty rich coming from him. This stew itself looks surprisingly legit, simmering with vegetables and meat. And Sutton serves them himself, a plate for Ellie and one for a very hungry-looking Ben. While they eat, he goes right back to his book, because multitasking is key to a successful retirement. So they have a quiet meal together, the kid absolutely inhaling his food in the candlelight, and Ben finishes his plate, declaring it was amazing before asking where Sutton learned to cook. Sutton gives the most unconvincing answer ever, claiming he learned to cook from books, and Ben immediately calls him out, pointing to the title, How to Farm, Busted. This kid then roasts him for buying a farm with zero skills, while Ellie looks absolutely mortified. Hiding his face, Sutton just mutters that farming cannot possibly be harder than being a soldier. Now totally hyped, Ben runs around asking what kind of soldier he was, full of energy. His reply is ice cold, the kind that lived long enough to quit, before asking how Ben can read. Turns out his sister Ellie taught him, though the kid thinks books are a waste of time. Impressed, Sutton listens as Ellie explains her special grandma was the one who taught her. He just closes the book with a knowing look, saying everyone has their little secrets. As he clears the table, Sutton mentions he misses the smell of books, a rare commodity out here. He notes they are in short supply, a quiet moment of shared understanding with Ellie. After dinner, the plates are sparkling clean. Our boy is a surprisingly good homemaker. Sutton then announces it has been a long day and he is heading off to bed for the night. This farmhouse settles into a quiet, rainy evening under the dark, cloudy sky, but sleep is not coming easy for Sutton, who lies awake, staring at the ceiling and thinking. In another room, Ben is fast asleep, but Ellie is just as restless and wide-eyed. Sutton's paranoia kicks in, wondering if he can really trust these two strangers he just met. Meanwhile, Ellie is thinking the exact same thing. This guy is way too nice, so what is the catch? His mind races with possibilities, considering they could be thieves or even spies. Ellie, however, remembers the eternal flame seal, realizing he is no ordinary soldier. Sutton and Ellie are both wide awake, convinced the other is about to murder them in their sleep. Deciding to investigate, Ellie quietly slips out of bed while her brother is passed out. Of course, Ben immediately rolls off the bed with a loud thud, so much for being sneaky. This noise instantly alerts Sutton, who grabs a candle, his soldier senses on high alert. He starts creeping down the hallway to find the source of the disturbance because rest is for the weak. Hearing his footsteps, Ellie assumes the worst, thinking he is finally making his deadly move. They then run right into each other in the hallway, a perfect recipe for a midnight heart attack. A sudden gust of wind snuffs out his candle, plunging them into even more dramatic darkness. Sutton just asks what she is doing up, trying to sound way more casual than he feels. He follows up by asking if everything's okay, playing the concerned landlord after hearing the crash. An incredibly awkward silence hangs between them as they both try to read the other's intentions. Ellie nervously laughs it off and Sutton just tells her goodnight, deciding not to press the issue for now. Back in her room, she is still wide-eyed, lying next to her blissfully unaware, snoring brother. Sutton is also failing at sleep, just lying there with a whole lot on his mind. He is sweating and clenching his eyes shut, clearly not having a good time in dreamland. His nightmare throws him back into his old life, standing over a pile of bones as a demon hunter. Jolting awake with glowing red eyes, the terror of his past is still terrifyingly fresh. And a system window pops up, giving him a doom point because the apocalypse is getting closer. Fantastic. This next morning, Ellie is already up and in the kitchen, trying to start the day normally. She gets to work slicing some bread, the quiet morning doing little to ease the tension. She prepares a simple breakfast, sprinkling some kind of seasoning over the bread and veggies. But as she does, her eyes glow with a faint green light as she visibly strains. And the food itself starts sizzling with that same weird energy, which is definitely not normal, leaving her completely winded just from trying to cook a simple meal over the stove. This whole ordeal triggers a nasty coughing fit, making her look seriously unwell. Right as Sutton strolls in with a massive yawn, totally oblivious to her secret magic breakfast, he casually notes she is up early and she just stammers out a nervous good morning. Before little Ben bursts onto the scene, a ball of pure energy demanding to know what is cooking. Ellie tries to play it off, saying it is just leftovers and garden scraps for their guest, but Sutton picks up on her cough, asking if she is okay, and she quickly brushes it off. She gives a super vague explanation about a recurring illness before telling him to sit down. And being a surprisingly good host, Sutton offers up his own ingredients from the pantry. She politely refuses, insisting she salvaged enough from the garden as she serves him a plate. And our boy gives the breakfast a suspicious look, clearly thinking something is up here. His eyes narrow, inspecting the meal with the intensity of a bomb disposal expert, which makes Ellie gulp, obviously worried he has figured out her secret ingredient is magic. After a tense moment, he finally spears a piece and takes a bite, the moment of truth. And so begins the most awkward breakfast in history, with the three of them just munching away. To break the tension, Ellie offers to show him around the property while Ben is just hyped to feed the horse. And Sutton actually cracks a smile, agreeing to the tour. Maybe this will not be a total disaster after all. Sutton's plate is absolutely spotless. Guess the magic breakfast was not poisoned after all. And wiping his hands, he is ready for the grand tour of his new, slightly used farm. So they head out to the barn, a tiny trio against a vast, empty landscape. With Ellie presenting the structure, which looks like it has seen better decades, let us be honest. She points out the hole in the roof, admitting they were a bit too busy surviving to do home repairs. But Sutton immediately gets to the point, asking if this is where his stolen cows used to live. She confirms they were milked here before the thugs, led by a guy named Whale, took them. And not only that, they also ransacked the garden and stole the bull. Total professionals, these guys. He then asks about the bull, and Ellie promises to show him the pasture later, leading him past a fence that looks like it could not stop a determined squirrel. And here is the garden, a patch of dead weeds that is just depressing to look at. As Ellie explains, they could not get much to grow, which is the understatement of the century. Turns out the Mage Wars poisoned the land, a lovely little parting gift from the conflict. Prompting Sutton to ask how long the fields have been fallow, her answer is a bleak 3 years. With a sigh, she admits they just could not find anyone to help them plow the land, so he tells her to take care of herself, which she immediately takes as a threat naturally. She instantly offers to pack up and leave, promising to be gone by noon. Talk about an overreaction. Grabbing Ben, she is already walking away, ready to become someone else's problem. While Sutton just watches them go, his expression a perfect mix of pity and "are you serious right now?" He just pinches his nose, clearly realizing his quiet retirement is already a complete disaster. But just as they are walking off, Sutton calls out for them to wait. And Ellie and Ben turn around, looking completely baffled by the sudden reversal. He just calmly states that they are going to need a new plow, so much for kicking them out. She suggests they can find one in town, but Sutton seems to have a different plan. Admitting he knows nothing about farming, he offers them a deal. They can stay if they help him. Ellie is absolutely stunned by this, asking for a moment to think it over, while Ben is immediately sold, promising to feed the horse every single day with pure joy. His sister is still trying to process the offer, but the kid is already living his best farm life. She finally agrees, but with one condition: he has to protect them from the bandits. With a firm handshake, Sutton seals the deal, officially ending his 2-day retirement. His first order of business is to head into town and get that plow. At the mention of town, both of them get super nervous, which is a great sign. Sutton immediately asks what is up, wondering why they are suddenly so reluctant to go. Ellie tries to be vague, mentioning some incidents that have made them avoid the place. Ben, however, spills all the beans about creepy murders where bodies are found tied into pretzels, and Sutton just takes a moment to process that because pretzel murders is a new one. This kid continues, saying the townsfolk are blaming it all on a witch or a mage. Then he almost reveals why the town is hostile to Ellie specifically, starting to explain, before she clamps a hand over his mouth, insisting it is not important, which is not suspicious at all. Sutton just listens, his expression unreadable as he absorbs this new, deeply weird information. Sutton puts the plow on the back burner, announcing he is off to gather food for his new housemates. And Ben is absolutely ecstatic, shouting his thanks while Ellie just beams with relief. Out in the woods, the birds are cawing, setting a perfectly normal, non-magical scene, as our boy wanders through the forest looking for game and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere, until his eyes start glowing and he realizes the mana in this forest is unusually strong. Immediately, he starts powering up, a swirling red aura erupting all around him. Floating orbs of pure power surround him as he calmly absorbs the energy, so much for being a simple farmer. This guy is practically a mana battery, just soaking it all in like it is a day at the spa. This power sizzles along his arm, clearly a familiar and welcome sensation for him. While his eye throbs with a menacing red glow, the demon hunter's side coming out to play. He notes that this pure mana is perfect for easily restoring his own power reserves. A massive upgrade from the corrupted energy he is used to from the war-torn wastelands. With a quick clench of his fist, he is fully charged and ready to find some food. And nearby, an unsuspecting deer is just minding its own business, completely oblivious. Suddenly, a blur of motion tears through the clearing at impossible speeds, revealing Sutton, who intercepts the animal with a casual flame-wreathed hand. He grabs it by the antlers with a huge grin, cheerfully greeting his future meal. This deer, understandably, is having the worst day of its entire, very short life. A heavy thud signals the hunt is over and dinner has been officially secured, and he smugly notes his own power is way better than the eternal flame as a stat screen confirms he is a level 99 mage. Soon, the smell of roasted meat fills the air over the farm. Dinner is officially in progress. As Sutton gets right to work preparing the deer, no time wasted. And Ben runs in, absolutely floored that he managed to catch something so fast. Our boy just plays it cool, saying he has had lots of practice, which is the understatement of the year. Before the kid asks if he is dangerous like the other Eternal Flame soldiers his sister warned him about. In response, Sutton just gives a little knife-throwing demonstration. Actions speak louder than words, and naturally he sinks the blade dead center into a wooden target with a satisfying thud. Ben is now a full-on fan, asking if Sutton's a class holder and wanting to become one too. So Sutton explains he'd need to go through a ceremony to become a rogue, all while sheathing his knife. This kid, completely missing the point about danger, immediately begs for a turn, and Sutton actually hands him the knife, warning him that his sister was right about soldiers. With unearned confidence, Ben promises he has got it, ready to show off his non-existent skills, which is immediately followed by the sound of shattering glass, a predictable disaster. Leaving the kid horrified at his instant failure, a true oh no moment. Sutton just looks at the broken pane, calmly adding replace the window to his to-do list. A bit later, he finds Ellie working outside and asks if she needs any help, revealing he has been reading a how-to-farm book because a level 99 mage needs a manual for this. And she is just surprised he is back already, assuming he came back empty-handed. He casually informs her the deer is already prepped and in the smokehouse, much to her amazement. Then tells her it is their house now, and if the Eternal Flame has an issue, they can take it up with him. Ellie gives him a look that is pure, unadulterated doubt, clearly not buying his plan, and she sarcastically asks if he really learned how to be a soldier from a book too. He just admits the army gave it to him and he has only just reached the gardening chapter. So she snatches the manual right out of his hands. No more studying for you. Instead, she hands him a shovel and some seeds, telling him to get planting. Our boy immediately panics, admitting he has not actually finished the relevant chapter yet. He just laughs it off, confessing he might be in a little over his head here, and she is quick to ask how exactly he planned on running this place without her. Sutton tries to butter her up, offering her more books since Ben told him she loves to read. He promises they are not all about farming, and suddenly her eyes are sparkling. He has found the way to her heart. As the sun sets, she admits he is not like any of the other soldiers she has known. He just points at her, saying it is probably for the best that he is not a soldier anymore. She then points out that his so-called retirement looks an awful lot like hard labor, and he confesses he just did not expect farming to be so repetitive, a true warrior's lament. So she decides to take charge, whipping out a notepad to make a to-do list for the farm. First up is fixing the barn, and Sutton seems totally on board with the plan. She starts rattling off the supplies they will need, like wood and a new plow, but Sutton chimes in with a smirk, adding a new window to the list. Ellie is totally confused, having no idea what he is talking about, until he points to the barn, where Ben's knife-throwing practice has clearly gone horribly wrong. Ellie finishes up the to-do list, confirming she has got everything down, but Sutton's eye is drawn to a strange purple mark on her arm, asking if it is a burn. He asks what happened, and her face immediately darkens, definitely a sore subject. She completely dodges the question, just handing him the list and walking away. Looking it over, Sutton decides he will take a crack at getting wood for the repairs tomorrow. And with a fiery transition, the next day rolls around, time for some good old-fashioned lumberjacking. Out in the forest, our boy holds an axe, genuinely wondering if this is how average people do things. He gives the tree a mighty swing, which barely even scratches the bark. This is not going well. Staring at the pathetic little chip he made, he is clearly unimpressed with the whole effort thing, and a glint in his eye says he is about to remember he is a level 99 mage. Because some things just work better without tools, like punching a tree with a flaming fist. This entire trunk shatters and comes crashing down, so much for keeping a low profile. He then proceeds to lift the whole massive log onto his shoulder like it is a pool noodle. Strolling back to the farm, he greets a shell-shocked Ellie and Ben with a casual howdy. Both of them are just staring, their minds completely blown by this impossible feat of strength. Sutton just smirks, telling Ben this is why he needs to drink his milk, then sends them off to work. Ben is now a full-on convert, vowing to drink so much milk to become a class holder too. Watching them go, Sutton actually thinks this whole situation might not be so pointless after all. He gets to work on the barn roof, thinking he can fix the place up and then finally get his peace and quiet. Meanwhile, Ellie and Ben start clearing the overgrown fields, a tiny bit of hope returning to the farm. Sutton gets to work patching up the barn, doing some good old-fashioned manual labor, while Ellie and Ben are absolutely crushing it in the fields, celebrating with a high five. Our boy, however, is already gassed, taking a quick break on a hay bale. Farming is hard, okay. This kid's walk in announcing they are done, only to find their super strong landlord completely wiped out. He quickly sits up and apologizes, trying to play off the fact that basic chores just kicked his butt. Ellie is just impressed with the repairs, admiring the new roof and saying it looks beautiful. Looking at his to-do list, Sutton says he is not finished yet and still has to get more supplies. She is confused, asking what more he could possibly add since the stalls already look perfect. He just gives her a dead serious look, as if the answer should be painfully obvious to everyone. And with pure dramatic flair, he announces the one thing a farm absolutely needs: the cows. A quest screen then confirms his retirement package included cattle, which are currently missing. His eyes glow with menace as he mutters they have one day to return his cows before things get ugly. Ben literally feels the temperature rise from Sutton's simmering rage, a totally normal farm thing. Sutton just brushes it off as summer, smoothly changing the subject back to planting season. He then tells the kids to get ready because they are finally heading into town for that plow. So the trio sets off in their wagon, rolling into the very place the kids were terrified of. Once there, Sutton hops off his horse, telling them to meet him later while he finds the blacksmith. Ellie points him in the right direction, looking a little less than thrilled to be there. With determined steps, our boy makes his way toward the blacksmith's shop, ready for business. He walks in and asks for a plow, and the blacksmith, Jarrett, confirms he has come to the right place. Jarrett the blacksmith greets Sutton, who introduces himself with the totally believable alias John. This blacksmith mentions recent unpleasantness, and Sutton immediately asks if he means the murders or the bandits love a town with options. This gets a surprised look from Jarrett, who admits he tries not to scare off the new blood. Our boy just shrugs it off, asking how bad a little crime could possibly be in a small town. Jarrett answers with quite, dropping rumors about a witch and the townsfolk wanting to call in the Royal Knights. He even has a flyer detailing 9 ritual murders with the eternal flame forbidding any mention of magic. After Sutton confirms he is staying for good, Jarrett gives him a friendly warning to watch his back. This blacksmith then brings up the local gossip about Sutton's run-in with Wolf King's gang, much to our boy's annoyance. Apparently, things were quiet until some so-called adventurers rolled into town recently. Sutton correctly pegs them as ex-soldiers looking for trouble, a type he knows all too well. Getting back on track, Jarrett says the plow will take about a week to get ready. So Sutton rattles off a massive shopping list for farm repairs, including that new window for Ben's knife practice. Meanwhile, Ellie and Ben are getting harassed by a local woman telling them to get out of town, who even throws something at them, screaming about not wanting their blood money here. Sutton rolls up now with a cool hat and asks what the hell is going on, and Ben is absolutely fuming, blurting out that the townspeople think his sister is a witch. A light bulb goes off for Sutton, who smirks and tells them to follow him, promising a few tricks of his own. With a little ding of a bell, they walk into the shop of the woman who was just harassing them. He strolls right up to the counter, kids in tow, and asks if there is a problem here. But the woman just doubles down, declaring that witches and anyone with them are not welcome. Sutton slaps a seal on the counter, pulling the ultimate "I need to speak to a manager" move. And the woman's jaw just about hits the floor when she recognizes the crest. He is a royal knight. He just asks if the seal is a liar, and suddenly she is tripping over herself to apologize profusely. Before her husband, the actual shopkeeper, runs out, thrilled to ask if he is here to kill the witch. Sutton shuts that down immediately, clarifying he is here for an apology and for them to fill the kid's order. So the shopkeeper stammers out an excuse, trying to blame the town murders in Ellie's past. Our boy flashes the seal again, reminding the guy she is under official protection now, so maybe think twice. And Ellie steps in, telling him to keep her history out of his mouth and just get the supplies. A little while later, they are loading up the wagon with tons of food, and Ben is officially his #1 fan. But on the way back, Ellie thanks him while saying he does not need to do that again, much to his confusion. She knows exactly what a royal knight is, the elite, the mage killers, not some random grunt. So he just tips his hat, hitting her with the classic "I am retired" line, which nobody ever believes. She immediately asks if his old boss sent him to kill her, but he denies it, saying he knows she is no witch. Then admits he wanted to try building something for once, and he bolted from the army ASAP. A tense silence hangs between them as she processes this unexpected confession. Ellie finally breaks it, asking if he is done because she and Ben can take it from here. So he tells them to stay out of trouble while he checks out one last place before they head home. She just gives him a look, refusing to make any promises, fair enough given the day they have had. And as he walks away, Sutton sarcastically thinks the confrontation went about as badly as possible, heading for the saloon. Inside, he figures he can check in here while he finds a new place to live, still not committed to the farm life. Sutton compliments the bartender on his inn, who credits the local sheriff for keeping things safe. And that name rings a bell, with the bartender confirming it is Sheriff George Wells, a regular. Our boy smirks, looking forward to a little reunion with the guy. Just then, a group of loud-mouthed adventurers calling themselves the Red Coral Team barges in. Their leader asks Sutton for directions, but he just deadpans that he is new here too. So when the guy gets pushy, Sutton hits him with a stone-cold "I only answer to the Emperor," what a flex. This adventurers storm off, grumbling, just as the actual sheriff walks through the door. And what do you know, it is Sheriff George, who takes a seat right next to Sutton. He thanks John for handling the troublemakers, and Sutton just says he hates lawless types. The irony is thick. George mentions those guys are always asking about a mage tower, an old local rumor. Getting to the point, Sutton reports his stolen cows, naming the Wolf King's gang, and the sheriff knows exactly who he means. But when asked about pressing charges, Sutton implies he'd rather deliver a more personal lesson. The sheriff gets the message loud and clear, unofficially pointing him toward the Wolf's Den Bandit hideout. He warns him that the leader, Haver, is a titled tamer class holder, so maybe do not go in half-cocked. George also points out that his farm is an easy target if he starts a war with these guys. With that friendly neighborhood warning delivered, the sheriff heads out to keep an eye on the adventurers, and the saloon doors swing shut, leaving Sutton to ponder his next move. He asks the bartender about the Wolf King, who confirms the guy commands thousands of wolves. Suddenly, a commotion outside makes the bartender yell, and Sutton realizes Ellie is in trouble. Outside, those same adventurers are throwing rocks at the kids, with Ellie desperately shielding Ben. Sutton's eye glows with pure rage. Okay, so much for a quiet retirement. These adventurers are leading a whole mob of kids in throwing rocks at Ellie and Ben. With a furious swing of her staff, Ellie deflects the stones, telling them to back off. And these brilliant children immediately assume it is a curse because of course they do. Ellie spots Sutton and begs him to stay out of it, probably fearing he will just escalate things. But the lead adventurer is already mid-swing, ranting about cleansing the world of magic. Our boy can only watch in horror as the situation goes from bad to way worse. And a rock cracks Ellie right in the side of the head, drawing blood. That is it, gloves are off. Sutton blurs into action, moving to put himself between the kids and their attackers. This zealot just doubles down, accusing him of defending a witch against the eternal flame. In a flash, Sutton grabs the guy's sword hand, calmly telling him who is really in charge here. Then twists the guy's arm, warning him the war on magic is over, so maybe pick his words carefully. A swift kick sends the adventurer flying headfirst into a nearby water barrel, perfect form 10-10. Standing over the barrel, Sutton gives him one simple instruction: run. This other kids immediately get the message, scrambling away while stammering apologies. Hiding behind a fence, the kids wonder who this guy is, recalling that the shopkeeper is a class holder. Sutton turns to help a stunned Ellie, while the barrel man struggles to escape his wooden prison. But the adventurer is not done, throwing a dagger and screaming they are going to pay for this. Sutton shoves Ellie to safety just as the guy comes charging in with his sword drawn. This zealot is completely unhinged, yelling that his cause is righteous as he goes in for the kill. Bloodied but defiant, Ellie tells the zealot that while he might have fooled Sutton, she is not falling for it. This adventurer just screams that she will be the last death this town sees, completely unaware of Sutton right behind him. With a fist glowing red, Sutton absolutely demolishes the guy's face, so much for a calm retirement. This zealot's first thought after getting decked is a curse, because of course it is. Another brutal punch sends the guy reeling as Sutton shuts him up mid-rant. His sword goes flying as the adventurer gets launched completely into the air by the sheer force of the blow. Landing in a heap, the guy is still clutching his rock and muttering about demons, talk about commitment to the bit. He scrambles away, still screaming about cleansing the world for his eternal flame, but not before throwing one last stone, which Ellie expertly blocks from hitting her. Sutton snatches the next rock and crushes it, telling the guy to keep Ellie's name out of his mouth. This adventurer's face goes pale as Sutton threatens to take what is left of his jaw. Standing over the pathetic zealot, our boy just tells him to get lost while he still can. Then he grabs the guy's head, casually reminding him that skulls are way more fragile than rocks. Suddenly, all that righteous fury is gone, replaced with desperate, pathetic pleas for mercy. Our boy responds with a swift backhand because he is clearly not in a merciful mood. A heavy stomp on the chest punctuates his point, pinning the adventurer to the ground. Sutton uses him as a public service announcement, letting the onlookers know this behavior will not fly. This kids who started this mess watch in terror, getting a very direct lesson about throwing stones. But just then, a woman screams for Sutton to get his foot off her husband, and it is the shopkeeper's wife running in to defend the very guy who was just trying to murder a teenager. Sutton sarcastically calls the zealot a lovely fellow for encouraging kids to throw rocks at a supposed witch. This shopkeeper's wife screams at him, accusing him of nearly killing her husband. Priorities, lady. With his foot still on the guy, Sutton coldly retorts that a real witch would have finished the job. He then paints a lovely picture of curses that melt flesh from bone, really selling the horror. This wife is left speechless as he tells her she is lucky Ellie is not what they claim she is. Walking away with the kids, he gives her one last warning to keep her husband on a very short leash. With the public lesson over, they head back to the relative safety of the hotel. Inside, Sutton tends to Ellie's wound, admitting that bringing them to town was maybe not his best idea. She winces as he cleans her head, guessing the ugly rumors have only gotten worse. Our boy just asks her to elaborate on what has been going on. Ben pipes up, spilling the tea that townsfolk blame Ellie for a death and for seducing the village leader. Ellie quickly tries to shut him up, but the cat is already out of the bag. Sutton puts the pieces together, asking if it is true the village leader has his eye on her. As he bandages her head, she asks if he is not worried about what people are saying. He scoffs at the rumors, revealing he can sense mana and knows for a fact she is no witch. Sutton then apologizes for not having healing magic, just some basic field medic training from the war. She is genuinely surprised, remarking that she thought royal knights were only good for destruction. Changing the subject, he pulls out a bag, saying he has got gifts for them before he goes cow rustling. He hands Ellie a knife for protection, even offering to give her some lessons. But when Ben gets excited, Sutton shuts him down, citing his past window breaking and giving him something else. Instead of a knife, Ben gets a hammer, and he looks absolutely bewildered by this consolation prize. Sutton immediately lays down the law: if the kid breaks anything, he is not fixing it. Tough love. A new day dawns on the inn, but there is no time for rest. Our boy wakes up with a massive yawn, declaring that today is the day for some cow retrieval. Ellie tries to get him to eat breakfast, but Sutton's already on his way out, saying time's up for the rustlers. She warns him that these bandits are no joke, but he just promises to be back before his eggs get cold. With a tip of his hat, he heads out, leaving them to worry about his overconfidence. Ellie is clearly not convinced, thinking he has no idea what he is walking into. Ben delivers a sick burn, questioning Sutton's intelligence for a guy who can read, ouch kid. Meanwhile, Sutton makes his way over to the stables to gear up for his little excursion. Briefly considering a horse, he decides that running is just plain faster for him. What a flex. He cracks his knuckles, smirking that while he is no farmer, he is great at slaughtering chickens. And he was not kidding about being fast, blurring through the forest like a man possessed. This guy is literally parkouring up a mountain, showing off some serious superhuman agility. Making a grand entrance at the bandit hideout, he casually asks the guards where to find Whale. A very large guard immediately stops him, demanding to know who he is and what he wants. Sutton just smiles, lying through his teeth that Whale is expecting him about some cows. This guard is not buying it, warning him he is lucky the Wolf King is not around to feed him to the pack. As one guard goes to check, Sutton coolly reminds them his breakfast is getting cold, the clock is ticking, and we get a look at the Wolf's Den, a full-on wooden fortress, not just some backwoods camp. A guard questions Sutton's quiet demeanor, and our boy just says he is an old friend of Whale's. This guy tries to intimidate him with tales of visitors becoming wolf food. Sutton's response is a dry shame. Just then, Whale himself stomps out, annoyed that someone's here when he was not expecting company. His face drops when he sees who it is, and all he can manage is a pathetic little "oh." Sutton tips his hat with a chilling smile, asking the cow thief how he has been doing lately. Whale stammers in disbelief as Sutton shakes his hand, reminding him it has been exactly 3 days. With a death grip, he gets right to the point. He is here for his stolen cows, you clown. Whale tries to laugh it off, calling him a jokester who thinks he is tough for breaking one hand. But the fake bravado fades as he realizes Sutton is either incredibly brave or just plain suicidal. With a snap of his fingers, Whale decides to call in his backup for some moral support. A whole gang of goons appears as Whale accuses Sutton of trying to steal their cows. The audacity is breathtaking. Unfazed, Sutton compliments the crew before casually asking about some recent murders in the area. Of course, Whale and his boys play dumb, laughing like they have never heard of such a thing. One of the bandits finally connects the dots, identifying him as the new farmer making threats. Suddenly, a much bigger dude steps out, impressed that Sutton actually had the guts to show up. This new guy offers him a choice: crawl away with broken legs or get kicked away with broken legs. What a deal. Sutton just ignores him, asking if the Wolf King's boss knows where his cows are. That question earns him a massive punch, with the big guy yelling he is not getting any closer. But Sutton catches the fist with one hand and buries his own glowing red one right into the guy's gut. This giant bandit crumples to the ground in agony while Sutton just stands there, completely unimpressed. One of the goons steps up with an axe and a truly terrible pun about his intentions. Before the guy can even finish his swing, Sutton's already got his hands around his neck, and with a glowing fist and a deadpan good pun, he snaps it clean in half. Leaving the body on the ground, our boy just casually asks who wants to be next. Two more geniuses try their luck with spears, which Sutton catches mid-thrust, then promptly uses their own weapons to turn them into human shish kebabs. One of the remaining bandits can only stare in horror at his freshly perforated friend, and immediately decides that mercy is a much better option than fighting, trying to make a run for it. But Sutton's right there, offering to assist him with his departure, by which he means throwing the dude straight off the side of the mountain. His only comment on the matter is a simple, chilling oops as the rest of the crew panics. Another bandit thinks he can get the drop on Sutton from behind, yelling that he has got him. Which is adorable because Sutton catches both his arms without even turning around. He then asks if this is seriously their best effort while casually dislocating the guy's everything. Suddenly, a much bigger dude lands, telling Sutton to pick on someone his own size, and our boy finally looks interested, realizing he is up against an actual class holder. This giant announces he is a barbarian in serious mountain mode, whatever that means. He boasts about his mana reinforcement, thinking it makes him completely untouchable. Sutton just picks up a steel rod, his hand glowing, and suggests a little test of durability, and the barbarian's charge is met with a single punch that makes him regret every life choice. That steel rod hits the ground completely bent out of shape, so much for mana reinforcement. Using the now customized weapon, Sutton swings it right at the barbarian's head. It connects with a brutal crack, and the big guy's face is a perfect picture of regret. With the bandit down, Sutton just stands over him, completely unimpressed by the performance. He turns to a horrified Whale, casually asking if they can get back to their conversation. All that bravado is gone, replaced with the cold, sweaty panic of a man who knows he is next. In fact, he is so terrified he literally wets himself, a truly dignified end for a bandit boss. Sutton's grin is pure menace as he asks one more time about his missing cows. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Ben is already asking if he can claim Sutton's breakfast. Ellie, looking deeply concerned, asks the kid if they have made a terrible mistake. Ben just stares back, mouth full of food, completely oblivious to her existential crisis. She points out that Sutton is an ex-royal knight for the enemy who is now picking fights with bandits. But Ben just shrugs, figuring Sutton's probably dead anyway since the Wolf King is stronger. Thanks for the support, kid. After Ellie clarifies he is retired, Ben decides he must just be very tired then, which is just flawless logic. Their debate is cut short by a sudden knock at the door, putting them both on edge. Opening it, Ellie finds a man named Jonas and she does not look happy to see him. This guy gives her a creepy smile, saying he just wants to have a little discussion. She immediately tries to shut the door, telling him she is not moving in, but he forces it open. He accuses her of letting Sutton stay just to avoid him, refusing to take no for an answer. Then Jonas pulls his trump card, reminding her he is the village leader who can clear her name. Jonas tells her to stop being difficult with strangers, which is rich coming from him. Ellie points out he is also a stranger, while Ben delivers a brutal, "My sister thinks you are ugly." While Jonas reels from the insult, Ben just innocently claims he is trying to help. What a legend. This village leader then changes his tune, claiming Ellie just does not understand the situation. He sits down to Sutton's breakfast, explaining that people do not retire from war unless they actually enjoy killing on some level, delivering his armchair psychoanalysis with a fork. In a twisted bit of logic, he says if Sutton's a killer and she is a witch, they are perfect for each other. Not having any of it, Ellie threatens that Sutton will kill him for stealing his eggs. This guy just mockingly offers his condolences, saying being a leader is too hard for him to cook. Fed up, she lunges for the plate, yelling at him to get out of her home. This entire table goes flying as she flips it over in a fit of pure rage. Jonas finally backs off, hands up like he is the reasonable one in this situation. With a final threat, he reminds her that he is the only one who can make the rumors go away. He urges her to reconsider his creepy offer as she slams the door in his face. Alone again, Ellie admits he has a point. Sutton must enjoy fighting to some degree. She cannot understand that mindset, especially after everything she has been through. A sudden flashback throws us into a burning village littered with the dead. We see a younger Ellie desperately climbing through the smoldering wreckage. She finds a strange red object in the rubble, clutching it with a look of relief. But her relief is cut short when a projectile zips right past her head. This projectile came from a crossbow-wielding fanatic who now has a younger Ellie cornered in the flames. This woman is absolutely unhinged, cackling that she only answers to some eternal flame, great a zealot. Ellie pleads with her, saying there is nothing left to take, but the attacker is on a mission from on high. And that mission is to leave no mage standing, as she aims her weapon with a chilling smile. A bolt flies straight for Ellie's chest while she screams that they are only civilians. But someone else takes the hit, and the killer just scoffs that civilians are simply target practice. Blood splatters across Ellie's face as she holds the sword of the man who just saved her. Her eyes are wide with pure, unadulterated terror as the reality of the massacre sinks in. This attacker just reloads her crossbow, ready to finish the job while Ellie is completely frozen. With a final, cold click, the trigger is pulled for what should be the killing blow, and we snap back to the present where a shaken Ellie has dropped a cup, thinking of the royal knights. She is convinced that anyone who follows orders like that has to be a bloodthirsty killer. Hearing a noise outside, she nervously calls out for John, probably expecting trouble. Instead, she finds Sutton on the ground, baby-talking his newly retrieved cows. The tonal whiplash is insane. He just gets up and dusts himself off like he went for a brisk walk, not a one-man fortress assault. Ellie is stunned he is back so fast, and he just says Whale was very cooperative, the understatement of the century. He then asks if Jonas gave her any trouble, adding that he told the creep to get lost permanently. At that moment, Ben runs up with a harness, cheerfully interrupting the very heavy post-massacre vibe. This three of them start fitting the harness onto the cow, looking like a perfectly normal farm family. Sutton's already planning their next move, deciding to pick up a chain for the plow later. Now that the cows are back, Sutton asks Ellie for a quick lesson on milking, priorities, people. His technique is apparently terrible, as Ellie immediately has to correct his form. While he is struggling, she suddenly spots some nasty-looking burn marks on his hands. Sutton just brushes it off with a laugh, claiming he is clumsy, a truly terrible lie. Deftly changing the subject, he asks what her story is, turning the tables on her. Ellie starts to open up, explaining her town was burned to a crisp by the Eternal Flame himself. Then, on the Eternal Flame's command, his royal knights arrived to finish off any survivors. In the end, she and Ben were the only two people to make it out of their village alive. This revelation hits Sutton hard, and he asks in disbelief if the knights really targeted civilians. Her expression hardens as she confirms it, her eyes glinting with a new resolve. Pulling out a sword, she declares that one day she is going to get her hands on the Eternal Flame. And with a look of pure, cold hatred, she finishes her thought: she is going to kill him. Suddenly, a system window pops up announcing quest complete for retiring, and his doom points drop. His stats reveal he is a level 99 mage with everything maxed out, leaving him to wonder what to do with a new skill point. Looking at his doom points, he wonders what the hell happens when that bar actually fills up. He mentally curses whoever designed the system, questioning why none of the locals can even see it. A new quest to grow wheat pops up, leaving him completely baffled about his supposed cow farm retirement. Flashing back 15 years, we see him in a modern city, still completely lost about the system. Back then, he was out camping with some friends who tease him for never leaving his room. One of his buddies dangles a worm in his face, and he has to pretend he loves the great outdoors and bugs. Sutton's friend calls him out for trying to sneak a game console on their camping trip. His buddy immediately tackles him for breaking the no games rule while their other friend just laughs. Annoyed, Sutton calls them clowns as he heads back to the tent, his gaming plans totally foiled. Inside, he shoves the console in his bag, grumbling that brother time is completely overrated anyway. Suddenly, a massive purple magic circle erupts around him, and he yells out to his friends in confusion, and gets ice-kai'd right into the middle of a brutal, bloody battlefield. What a vacation. Right in front of him, a guy gets impaled by a massive ice shard, and Sutton can only stare in horror. This victim's friend is in disbelief, asking how someone could just shoot ice through a person's chest. With his last breath, the dying man explains he's been summoned here to fight for a losing side. Sutton tries to play hero with first aid, but the guy just laughs, revealing he was summoned 2 years ago. This dying man then hands Sutton a red scroll, saying it is what everyone's fighting over and might help him survive. Panicked, Sutton asks if there is a way out, but the man confirms there is no escape from this world. Just as the guy dies, a new player in a cowboy hat shows up, casually pointing out that Sutton killed him. This newcomer tells him not to worry since they are all just summons in a game, and demands the scroll. Sutton is furious, realizing people are dying for this thing, but the guy warns him it is priceless. This moment he touches it, a system window appears. He has just learned a basic fireball spell. Now with flames dancing in his hands, he warns the other guy to stay back, completely freaked out. He just stares at his own hands, trying to process how he is suddenly a fire mage. This cowboy hat guy is impressed, offering to mentor him since he just killed a man, not a character. His recruitment pitch is all about conquering the kingdom, but Sutton is clutching his chest as ice crystals start forming on him. Reluctantly agreeing to the deal, Sutton shakes hands with the smug cowboy. He is clearly out of options. But the moment they touch, a fiery energy surges from Sutton's hand into the other guy's. This cowboy's smug grin vanishes as he realizes something is terribly, terribly wrong. And he is immediately engulfed in flames, screaming as he is burned alive. Talk about a hostile takeover. Sutton just watches him burn, getting a flood of level-up notifications for killing what he thought was just an NPC. Snapping back to his room, Sutton mulls over Ellie's revenge quest when a knock interrupts him. It is Ellie, who complains it is getting hot and asks to open a window, completely unaware of the reason. Meanwhile, our boy is having a full-on power flare-up, debating if he should help her find her target. His vision flashes to a burning village with Ellie standing right in the middle of the destruction. She snaps him out of it, asking if he is okay, clearly worried by his sudden zoned-out state. He plays it off as meditation to restore his mana, which is the most high-fantasy way to say, please ignore my PTSD. Changing the subject, Ellie says they need to go to town for a plow, cheekily adding his persuasion might be useful. On the way, he decides to keep his past a secret while they chat about the locals. Ben then chimes in about the local grim inspectors, but Ellie immediately shuts him down. Sutton, however, is all ears, asking the kid to tell him more about these supposed monsters. Ben gives a terrifyingly specific description of kid-eating giants and forest ghosts he swears are real. They arrive in town to meet a blacksmith, with Sutton having completely tuned out the monster lecture. This blacksmith, Jarrett, proudly shows off the new plow he has made for them. After thanking him, Sutton cuts the chat short, saying they have other errands to run. He leaves Ben to guard the cart as they pull up to the general store for supplies. Inside the general store, the locals are giving them some serious side-eye, clearly terrified. Ellie jokes they look like they have seen a ghost, but Sutton says it is more like a witch and a knight. Despite the teamwork, she tells him not to get used to her asking for help. On the way back, Sutton's new plan is to plant wheat, which Ellie points out is a terrible idea for winter. His confidence comes from a farming book he is reading, because of course it does. Ben brings out the bull and Sutton gets ready to put his book smarts to the test. He promptly names the bull Ferdy, and the two seem to be bonding instantly. After sending Ben off to help Ellie, Ferdy gives him a big all lick on the face. Sutton figures if mana worked to bribe the cows before, it'll work for plowing too. He crystallizes a mana stone and offers it to Ferdy, who is very interested. This bull slurps the mana stone right up, proving that even livestock are suckers for magic. With Ferdy now supercharged, Sutton decides it is time to hook up the plow. What could go wrong? This bull immediately bolts, dragging a screaming Sutton across the field at Mach speed while Ellie watches. This mana-powered beast carves up the entire field in seconds, leaving a chaotic mess of furrows. Hearing the commotion, Ellie runs outside, wondering what fresh hell is unfolding now. Sutton and Ferdy return, with our boy proudly announcing that the plowing is done. Ellie just points out that all the furrows are completely crooked and useless. She sighs that she guesses this is her job now, cleaning up after his brilliant ideas. Sutton gets a little defensive, asking if she is really calling his hard work unsatisfactory. With a deadpan stare, she confirms his work was, in fact, very unsatisfactory. Ellie takes over the plowing, ready to show Sutton how it is actually done with Ferdy in tow. From a distance, they share a quiet moment, with Sutton just wishing he could keep this peace a little longer. A calm day passes on their new farm, a stark contrast to the chaos of their pasts. Later, Sutton's actually getting the hang of milking, much to Ellie's mild surprise. He then realizes they have way too much milk and no plan for it. Great foresight, dude. Ellie explains no one will buy it because of her witch reputation, leaving them with a surplus problem. Their only option is making cheese or butter, but she is worried it'll spoil before she can process it all. She admits she is surprised he has taken to farming since he does not seem like the type at all. Sutton just asks what kind of type he seems like, genuinely curious about her read on him. With a knowing look, she says he seems like someone who would hate retirement and never wanted to be a soldier. He confesses he had no choice, adding that this quiet life is way harder than any war he fought. When she asks why, he explains that war was simple and predictable, you just lived or died. After the fighting, he was just terrified, living in a constant state of uncertainty that never seemed to end. But now he gets to build things, a sentiment immediately shattered by Ben yelling that the sheriff is here. Unfazed, Sutton just grabs a bucket and says he will take care of it, ever the cool customer. Outside, he comes face to face with Sheriff Wells, who is clearly not here for a social call. The sheriff awkwardly notes that Sutton got his cows back and our boy just plays it cool. Needing to talk, the sheriff asks to speak somewhere private and Sutton leads him inside. Sutton even offers the guy some fresh milk, which is politely but firmly rejected. Finally, the sheriff reveals why he is here. He gave Sutton a location, not a license to go full-on warlord. Sutton plays dumb, asking the sheriff what he could possibly mean by warlord. This sheriff lays it out. The cow thieves were found strung up naked on poles. Unfazed, Sutton just says they should not have stolen his cows, but the sheriff adds that bodies were also found nearby. Getting right in his face, the sheriff demands a reason not to arrest him, while Sutton just blames it on an inside job. He then offers the sheriff a drink, playing the humble farmer card so hard it is a miracle he does not start yodeling. And the sheriff actually takes a long swig, apparently willing to be persuaded by a wooden cup of something. After a moment, he decides to blame the deaths on the Wolf King, a convenient scapegoat for everyone involved. He warns that this Wolf King will not be happy about his men, especially with the famine making every farmer valuable. This whole lecture ends with a warning for class holders to show restraint, thanking Sutton for taking out the trash on the side. With an unofficial endorsement, the sheriff says he is off to handle other troublemakers, already putting in an order for future cheese. He heads out the door, leaving Sutton to deal with the aftermath of his very unsubtle message. Sutton just gives a casual salute, crisis averted through sheer, unadulterated sass. Later that night, under a crescent moon, the farm seems peaceful again. Ellie comes out asking what that was all about, and Sutton spins a tale about his old friend George wanting milk and cheese. This gets her thinking about business, saying they will need a cellar and a bigger tub to start making cheese to sell. As they talk about what to make the tub from, we see their current cheese-making setup hanging from the rafters. Ellie decides stone is their best bet, since iron is way too expensive and would take forever to get. She even knows where to find some, mentioning an abandoned stone mine she heard about from Widow Brown. Hearing this, Sutton immediately declares he will be right back, ever the man of action. When Ellie asks where he is going, he just says he is off to get a bigger tub, problem solved, one fetch quest at a time. And just like that, Sutton is off to the mine, blazing a trail through the woods. He is using his fire magic for some seriously extreme parkour because walking is for peasants. Landing on a rocky outcrop, he is making this whole mountain climbing thing look way too easy. Another fiery dash sends him scaling a sheer rock face, just a total show-off. At the summit, he looks out over the massive quarry, admitting the view is pretty killer. Looking down into the vast chasm, he is just completely in awe of the sheer scale. So naturally, his next move is to just leap straight down into the massive pit. A fiery landing announces his arrival, ready to get this fetch quest over with. Inside the mine, he quickly spots a giant, perfectly shaped boulder. Looks like his luck is in. Powering up his flames, he gets ready to do some high-level magical masonry. A clean slice from a fire blade cuts right through the stone, no chisel required. Stone fragments fly as he carves out his prize with explosive precision. In the aftermath, a perfectly carved stone basin sits ready, mission accomplished. Then it hits him, he completely forgot to ask Ellie for the dimensions, a minor detail. As he is contemplating this epic fail, the ground begins to shake beneath his feet. A sudden noise makes him realize his little construction project might have woken the neighbors. And by neighbors, I mean two massive stone giants with glowing purple eyes. His mind flashes back to Ben's warnings, finally connecting the dots to the grim. These do not quite match the kid's description, so he wonders if they are smart enough to talk. With a flaming hand up, he tries diplomacy first, declaring he comes in peace, good luck, buddy. Sutton tries to de-escalate, telling the giant rock monsters there is no need to fight. But one of them immediately opens its maw for a roar, so much for peaceful negotiations. As the grim lunges, our boy feigns disappointment that he has to resort to violence. He easily dodges the massive stone fist, using his fire to stay light on his feet. Dropping the act, Sutton powers up a fireball, saying there is no need to pretend anymore. And he blasts the grim right in its rocky face with a point-blank fire attack. This fiery punch connects with a massive impact, staggering the stone creature for a moment. Landing smoothly, he admits he has missed this kind of action and wants to end it fast. These two giants seem to murmur to each other, probably complaining about the new neighbor. Now they are both ready for a fight, basically daring him to try something else. Our boy is more than happy to oblige, charging up a massive fireball he has been itching to use. He unleashes the giant sphere of fire, sending it hurtling towards the grim. One of the stone monsters raises its arm to block, which seems like a terrible idea. Its hand makes contact with the fireball, a truly brilliant defensive strategy, which immediately results in a massive explosion that sends rock shrapnel flying everywhere. Sutton just watches the chaos unfold, completely unbothered by the giant explosion he just caused. This grim is blown to pieces, its stone body shattering from the sheer force of the blast. Amidst the falling rocks, he lands perfectly, ready for whatever's next. He finds himself surrounded by the remaining grim who have him completely boxed in. With a cocky grin, he calls their little trap cute while charging up another world-ending fireball. He drops a massive fireball from above, ready to turn these rock monsters into gravel. But the attack triggers a sudden, jarring flashback to a ruined city and a desperate face. His fiery attack connects with a huge impact, but the result is not what he expected. Sutton hesitates, thinking he should just burn them all, but then realizes they are just living here. One of the grim is just holding the flame, staring at it with total fascination. This light bulb goes off, they do not want to fight, they just think his fireballs are neat. He smirks, thinking about how terrified Ben was of these things, and a plan starts to form. With a casual snap of his fingers, he decides to test this little theory. A tiny spark of fire ignites in the darkness, a simple little party trick. and the Grimm go absolutely wild for it, scrambling over each other like kids after candy. Seeing their reaction, Sutton's like, okay then, ready to become the fire bringer. He gives each of them their own personal flame, which they hold gently in their rocky chests. Our boy stands before his new pupils, smugly noting that teaching them about fire was easy. He then starts negotiating, offering more mana if they can make this whole thing worth his time. And just like that, the terrifying Grimm are now his personal moving crew, carrying the stone basin. As a thank you, one of them even brings him a giant, mysterious treasure chest. Sutton holds out a flame, casually asking what they have got for him in their little box. He straight up offers them a deal, his mana in exchange for the chest's contents. This Grimm eagerly accepts, clutching the flame like it is the best gift it has ever received. With a satisfied look, Sutton is just glad he figured out how to turn a boss fight into a trade deal. Sutton lays down his final offer, 2 mana stones in exchange for the box. This Grimm accepts the deal, slotting the shiny red gem right into its chest cavity. With the transaction complete, the giant rock monster hands over the mysterious chest. Our boy immediately pops the lid, ready to see what kind of loot he just scored. Inside is a single glowing flower, a rare monografted plant that only mages can create. This gets his gears turning. If mages are nearby, that would explain why these Grimm know how to trade. But he dismisses the thought, figuring any other mages would have found him after his flashy entrance. Thanking his new rocky pals for the prize, Sutton prepares to head on home. He even tosses them a few more mana stones, but his generosity just earns him a doom point. No good deed, huh? By the next morning, he has finally made it back to the farm with his oversized souvenir. Ellie steps outside to find him passed out cold inside the giant stone basin. Peak performance, truly. She wakes him up and he is so out of it he cannot believe it is already morning. When she asks if he was out all night getting the tub, he just gives a tired yes. She immediately calls him out for not measuring it, and he just shamelessly admits he did not think that far ahead. With a heavy sigh, Ellie just wonders what in the world she is going to do with him. She offers him a blanket, noting he sleeps outside a lot, but he just blames it on overworking. Seeing right through his excuse, she tells him to come inside because breakfast is ready. At the table, Sutton soaks in the peaceful scene, realizing he has things he has lacked for 15 years. A quiet domestic moment unfolds as Ellie gently wipes Ben's face clean after his meal. But his guilt crashes down, feeling he is just as bad as the mages who dragged him into their wars. His mind spirals, seeing his new family as skeletons he could obliterate in an instant. This vision twists Ellie's face into a flaming skull, her dinner invitation turning into a nightmare. Sutton sees his magic as a curse, terrified he is just paving the way for another apocalypse. Even Ben appears as a burning effigy, the peaceful breakfast now a vision straight from hell. Shaken, he tells them he will be right back, needing a moment to deal with his own head. Outside, he carefully plants the glowing mana flower he got from the Grimm. He sits with his creation while Ellie watches from a distance, the tension slowly fading. Looking at the flower, he seems to find a sliver of calm in this simple act of creation. She comes over and compliments it, breaking the heavy silence with a gentle word. With a grim smile, Sutton notes how fragile life is, a real party starter, this guy. Ellie agrees, countering that everything is fragile, not just life itself. She then shares her own wisdom, the strongest things often need the most support. They just look at each other, a quiet understanding passing between them. And then she leans against his shoulder, a simple gesture that says a whole lot. This two of them sit together by the flower, a fragile new beginning taking root. Later, with the new tub, Ellie's ready to go full-on cheese mogul and Sutton wants in. He insists on learning the trade, saying he wants to be a proper farmer if he's going to do it. His plan is to fix the farm and eventually leave, so he feels he owes it to her to pull his weight. But she tells him some things just take time and patience, directly challenging his whole vibe. Sutton says of course, then immediately lights a fire with magic because patience is for people without fire fingers. Ellie is understandably freaked out when Sutton lights the cheesemaking fire with a casual fireball. He rushes over to make sure she is okay, looking genuinely worried for a hot second. But she just brushes it off, telling him to grab a stirrer so they can finally get to work. As she explains the slow process, our boy immediately asks if they can just crank up the heat. She talks about her grandma and all the hard work on the farm, a clear lesson in patience. When Sutton asks about her, Ellie reveals her grandma died protecting their village when it burned. This lesson continues with cutting the curds, another step that requires a whole lot of waiting. Next, she is draining the whey, again emphasizing that there are absolutely no shortcuts here. A generous amount of salt is added to the curds, another crucial part of the process. Then it is time to load everything into the press, which needs to sit for 2 whole days. Sutton actually gets into it, having fun with the press until he learns it ages for 2 months. He tries some finished cheese and loves it, but still complains about the wait time on the battlefield. This whole thing sparks an idea. He offers to build them a proper cellar and safe house. His simple cellar plan quickly escalates into a full-blown bunker, but Ben interrupts with bad news. This kid runs up in a panic, claiming the farm's bull is dying. Sutton's reaction is priceless. All 3 of them sprint across the field to find the bull just lying motionless on the ground. Seeing the massive animal, Sutton calmly tells Ellie and Ben that he has got this handled. He even uses the moment to remind Ellie to practice her self-defense moves for their town trip. With a smug look, he reassures them this silly cow is going to be just fine. As he approaches the bull alone, Ben asks the million-dollar question, what if it dies? Kneeling down, Sutton offers the dying bull a mana stone, correctly guessing the animal's true ailment. This bull's eyes practically pop out of its head with excitement. It is a mana junkie. Without a second thought, the giant animal just slurps the gem right out of his hand. Sutton is absolutely disgusted by the slobber, but the bull is just happy with its snack. Seeing an opportunity, he offers a deal: more mana stones in exchange for some proper plowing. Fueled by the crystal, the bull goes full-on beast mode, tearing through the field like a mana-powered tractor. In no time, the entire field is perfectly plowed, and Sutton is genuinely impressed. As promised, he tosses the bull another stone for a job well done. But the moment it gets the reward, the bull just bolts, leaving Sutton standing there completely baffled. It sprints off into the wilderness, having pulled off the perfect dine and dash. Deep in the woods, the bull meets up with a friend, clearly up to something suspicious. After a bit of searching, it starts headbutting the ground with a determined snort. This animal seems to have found exactly what it was looking for, digging at a specific spot. Having followed the runaway plow, Sutton shows up demanding to know what it is hiding. With glowing eyes, the bull stands guard over a patch of dirt, ready to defend its secret. A strange, wriggling green plant with glowing nodes emerges from the hole in the ground. Sutton is stunned, recognizing the plant has a mana signature he has never encountered before. He immediately realizes the bull has been feeding his mana crystals to this weird thing. When the plant recoils from him, Sutton grimly accepts that even nature sees him as a monster. But his curiosity takes over as he finds what the bull's been eating, hoping it has no side effects. Sutton gives the bull one last mana stone for the day's work, a real model employer. With the farm finally plowed, he heads back to the house to check on the others. He walks in to find Ellie and Ben blindfolded and armed, not the welcome he was expecting. Before he can even brag about his mana-powered tractor, the ambush is sprung. Ellie grabs him by the collar with some seriously impressive speed, and just straight-up judo flips the legendary Mage over her shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Our boy hits the floor with a solid thud, completely outmaneuvered by a farmer. Then Ben jumps in, whacking him with a broom and screaming for his death. It is a family affair. They remind him he was the one who told them to practice self-defense for their trip. Looking thoroughly humbled, Sutton admits they need work, while Ellie roasts him about taking on the eternal flame. He tries to play it off as a test, but she knows he just wanted revenge for getting his butt kicked earlier. Later that night, the three of them finally head into the nearby town, where a couple of drunkards are celebrating some witch getting what she deserved. One of these guys, a swordsman, is being stalked by a very familiar shadowy cowboy. Sutton follows the man down a dark alley, clearly looking for a private chat. With a casual howdy stranger, he makes his presence known, startling the drunk swordsman. This guy nervously asks why he is lurking in the shadows at night, and Sutton just says he is here for a quick hello, which never ever means anything good. Trying to regain some liquid courage, the swordsman tells him to hold on. Then he draws his blade, bragging about being an ex-royal knight, completely unaware of who he is talking to. Sutton's shadow form flashes a terrifying grin, asking if the knight really gets the situation. This ex-knight swings wildly, but Sutton just taunts him that no amount of prep can save him now. With a single shadow-clawed hand, he smashes the guy's face into the ground. Fight's over. This alley goes quiet again, another problem solved with extreme, off-the-books violence. And there is the result: one ex-knight with a glowing mana sword permanently lodged in his back. This story then cuts to a funeral for some guy named Tanner, a grim reminder of life in this town. Back at the farm, a shovel hits the dirt, kicking off a whole new project. Sutton is digging that cellar he promised, and by cellar, he means a crater the size of a house. From a safe distance, Ellie and Ben just watch the one-man excavation crew at work. He proudly declares the giant pit deep enough, because subtlety is not in his vocabulary. Ellie brings him a drink, asking if the legendary Mage needs a 5-minute break from manual labor. He scoffs at the idea of resting, then immediately asks for cold milk like a tired kid. While Ben eagerly asks how he can help, Sutton agrees that milk would be perfect. Ellie just tells Ben to try not to break any more windows, which he insists was a one-time thing. Putting the kid to work, Sutton tells him to grab a hammer and start building cheese shelves. This next step in his grand design involves finding some big rocks for the foundation. Of course, a quick scan of the area reveals a distinct lack of anything resembling a boulder. His solution is simple: recruit Ferdy the bull for a little field trip to find some. Meanwhile, Ellie reassures the other cows that Ferdy is perfectly safe with John, Sutton's new farmhand name. Ben, on the other hand, is struggling hard with his shelf-building task, planks flying everywhere. Sutton's new mana-powered bull is so fast he is struggling to keep up, making him rethink this whole arrangement. Their little road trip ends at a field of giant boulders, perfect for his over-the-top construction project. Back at the farm, Ellie is just tending to the cows, having no idea John is about to remodel with magic. Ben, meanwhile, is locked in a battle of wits with a hammer and some planks, and he is losing badly. To get smaller rocks, Sutton just unleashes a series of explosions, much to the bull's absolute horror. He then smirks at the animal, sarcastically asking if it has never seen someone use fireballs for landscaping before. With the cart now loaded with perfectly sized stones, phase 1 of the bunker is complete. Ferdy the bull immediately starts complaining, clearly not a fan of this new manual labor gig. When the bull protests that a rock is too heavy, Sutton just lifts the giant thing himself. Problem solved. Its eyes start glowing as our boy offers another mana stone, the only payment this bull accepts. While carrying the massive boulder, he warns Ferdy not to get used to these magical treats. They arrive back at the farm to see Ben still pondering the ancient art of shelf building. Sutton then slams the foundation stone into the ground with enough force to register on a seismograph. This gets Ellie's attention, who looks over completely bewildered by the sudden tremor. In a classic case of DIY disaster, Ben promptly smashes his own thumb with the hammer. Both of them rush over to check on the kid, who is clearly having a very bad day. His genius conclusion from this incident is that he just needs to drink more milk for stronger bones. Ellie suggests calling it a night, but Sutton, ever the workaholic, promises to have it done by morning. As darkness settles over the farmhouse, the construction continues under the moonlight. Down in the pit, Sutton works alone, laying the stone floor for their new and improved cellar. With the foundation laid, Sutton gets right back to work, using some kind of sizzling red magic on the stonework. This next morning, however, a lone rider approaches the farmhouse, immediately putting Sutton on alert. This newcomer is rocking a sheriff's star, and he walks up to the house with a clear purpose. He stops himself mid-knock, already knowing who he is here to see. Inside, the sheriff tells John to let the others rest, trying to start things off friendly. That friendly vibe vanishes as he gets right in Sutton's face, demanding to know what is up. When Sutton plays dumb, the sheriff immediately calls him out on his nerve. Our boy just stands there cool as a cucumber, asking if there is a problem. Oh yeah, there is a problem, a big one according to the very tense lawman. This sheriff is clearly done with the games, asking if they're just going to stare at each other all day. Sutton keeps up the charade, insisting he has absolutely no idea what this is about. With a grim look, the sheriff cuts to the chase. He and Ellie need to run now. He reveals the victim was the ex-knight Sutton dealt with, but our boy's just like, is not there always a murder? Sutton's sympathy meter is at absolute zero. He straight up says he will not miss the guy. Then the sheriff drops the real bomb. The town thinks they did it, and Sutton's just like, of course they do. He asks why this guy is so special, pointing out that Ellie's been dealing with rumors for ages. Turns out the victim was a beloved family man in public, but had some shady bandit connections on the side. Despite the warning, Sutton makes it crystal clear he is not running from anything or anyone. Getting on his horse, the sheriff gives one last piece of advice: watch your back. As the lawman rides away, Sutton just sighs, wondering if he will ever get a single normal day. This next morning, a strange wind swirls around the farmhouse after a long night of work. Inside, the noise wakes Ellie up, but Ben is still completely passed out. Sutton finally walks back to the front door, looking like he has pulled an all-nighter. He calls for Ellie, who immediately asks if the legendary Mage ever actually sleeps. When she presses him on what is wrong, he just says it is complicated and he has to show her. He leads her out to the giant hole, which is now a fully finished, fortified cellar entrance. Down in the bunker, he casually drops the news that the town thinks they are murderers. But he tells her not to worry because he built a bomb shelter, a totally normal solution. He even gives her the grand tour, pointing out the beds and a secret escape tunnel. Then he clarifies he built all this asterisk before the sheriff's visit just on pure paranoia. Ellie has to admit it is a pretty sweet setup, and he is just smug about being prepared. Getting serious, Sutton vows he will never let her go through what the eternal flame did to her. He promises her that monster cannot hurt her here, not while he is around. Touched by his fierce protectiveness, she quietly agrees that those days are over. Then, to lighten the mood, she mentions she has a little gift for him too, and it is a handmade cow-patterned sleeping cap, the perfect gift for a workaholic. Sutton is just baffled, asking if this is her subtle way of telling him to take a nap. She just smiles, calling it perfect, and he seems to accept his fate. A little later, he is actually taking her advice, napping outside against Ferdy the bull, and he is rocking that ridiculous cow hat, finally getting some rest after all the chaos. Sutton's quiet day is ruined when he finds the mana-infused flower has been stolen. His first thought is to go chat with the Grim, but Ellie's voice interrupts him. He tells her he is in a rush and will be back tomorrow, already heading out. She asks if he is skipping dinner, reminding him they were waiting for him. Ellie looks genuinely hurt, asking if her cooking is not important, a critical hit to the heart. He quickly promises to be back by breakfast, which she reluctantly accepts. With that sorted, he is off like a rocket, red mana flaring from his boots. Our boy is just blazing through the forest at a speed that is not normal for a farmhand. He leaps through the trees, a blur of motion, on a mission. Then he dives straight down into a massive chasm, using magic platforms to break his fall. At the bottom, he finds a bizarre shrine with a stone statue holding a blue flame. Next to it is the stolen flower, a shovel, and a bottle, a very weird offering. This statue is of him, making him question if he is really that intimidating to people. He picks up a broken piece, completely stunned by the craftsmanship. His attention then shifts to a solid stone chest sitting in the cave. Upon closer inspection, he realizes someone, probably the Grim, already tried to open it. So he gives the lock a little magic poke and it just explodes into pieces. Inside are some old mage robes and a book secured with a powerful magic lock. He recognizes the tome as the kind used for some seriously destructive spells. Forcing that lock should have destroyed everything, making him wonder who was strong enough to open it. Holding the mysterious tome, Sutton hopes it is the instruction manual this world desperately needs. He quickly dismisses that thought, realizing this is not a game and forbidden spells are permanent. Looking at the statue of himself, he decides no one should have access to that kind of destructive power. After all, the whole point of the New World Order was to stop mages from wrecking everything. Still, he is impressed by the Grimm's intelligence and is actually excited to meet them. His new goal is to use their knowledge to create mana-resistant wheat, a very practical apocalypse prevention plan. With that settled, he grabs a stone and jets off to get supplies for his cheese cellar. This story then cuts to a town at night where the atmosphere is anything but welcoming. From the rooftops, Sutton spots a couple of locals already whispering about his arrival. Down on the street, he cannot help but feel the town's paranoia is a little excessive. He walks up to a shop with a pickaxe and shovel sign, the door creaking open, and is immediately greeted by a terrified guy with a knife telling him to stay back. Sutton, completely unfazed, just holds up his shopping list, insisting it is business as usual. He then casually warns the guy that trying to use that knife would be a very, very bad idea. Suddenly, a woman bursts in, scolding Gary for threatening her best customer, but Gary insists Sutton's a killer. She just shoves the terrified apprentice aside and cheerfully takes the list from our boy. After he explains he is just building a cheese cellar, she calls him ambitious as always. When she asks about Gary staring, Sutton just says he will get used to it while Gary glares daggers. She then warns him the murder victim was friends with the Wolf King, so he better be careful. As Sutton leaves, Gary frantically asks if the rumors are true, but she just tells him to shut it. Sutton heads out, completely ignoring Gary, who is still convinced he is a killer witch. But the shopkeeper fiercely defends him, telling her apprentice to shut it because the murders started way before Sutton arrived. Back at the farmhouse, Ellie wanders the halls, wondering if her new farmhand ever made it home. He has actually just gotten back, muttering to himself about being too plagued by nightmares to sleep. At that moment, Ellie knocks on his door with a plate of food, asking if he is awake. Our boy is caught totally off guard but plays it cool, claiming he was just meditating, a likely story. His deep meditation is immediately broken by the smell of breakfast, asking if those are pancakes. With a knowing smile, she confirms they are fresh and hot, totally seeing through his act. Over breakfast, she finally gets to ask what was so important that he had to miss dinner. In response, Sutton pulls out another glowing blue flower, explaining he found one with magic in it. This flower then erupts in a dazzling display of blue energy, leaving Ellie and Ben completely speechless. Ellie realizes it is just like the one that vanished, so Sutton suggests planting this one safely in the new cellar. But their quiet morning is shattered by a sudden, loud knock at the front door. Sutton opens it to find a shadowy visitor waiting on the porch. And it is a whole welcoming committee, a tough-looking crew flanked by two massive wolves asking for him by name. He calmly confirms his identity, then immediately asks if their leader is the Wolf King. This newcomer just smirks, sarcastically asking if the giant, snarling wolves gave him away. He even gives Sutton props for staying so calm since most people are terrified of him. One of the wolves gets right in his face, but Sutton just stares it down, hoping the pets do not make their owner nervous. Cutting through the tension, Sutton gets straight to the point and asks why they are here. This Wolf King smirks, pretty sure Sutton already knows exactly what this is about. With his wolves snarling, he makes it clear he is not here for a friendly chat. Sutton, with Ellie and Ben behind him, just tells the guy to enlighten him zero fear. This newcomer compliments the farm, circling Sutton with his crew like a predator. Our boy just asks, considering what? Not taking the bait for a single second. This Wolf King implies Ellie could not have fixed this place, so Sutton must be special. Playing dumb, Sutton insists he has absolutely no idea what is going on. Then he flips the script, accusing the Wolf King of murder and stealing his cows. This accusation completely catches the guy off guard, who just spits in disbelief. Laughing it off, the Wolf King claims everything at Wolf Den is his property anyway. He then adds that he is also missing a woman and a boy, making the threat crystal clear. Sutton's eyes narrow as he asks where he might find this missing pair. And then he just lunges, telling the guy to back the hell off. This Wolf King dodges easily, calling the attack brave while casually petting his giant wolf. But Ellie steps up, telling John that she will show them what brave really is. She screams at the whole crew to just leave them alone, completely fed up with the intimidation. In response, the Wolf King just dangles a piece of meat for his pet, a total power play. As the wolf eats, he calls Sutton and Ellie murderers, but not very scary ones. His goons laugh, and the Wolf King admits he is glad Sutton killed the knight, calling him weak. Sutton just laughs back, reminding the guy he had to rescue his sun-toasted men from a pole. This Wolf King's goon immediately apologizes, clearly terrified of his boss's reaction to the insult. But Ellie is not scared, shoving the guy and telling him she will show him what weak really is. One of his men tries to intervene, but the Wolf King just waves him off with a smug smile. He gives them 3 days to return his cows and get out of town, or else. Sutton steps up to defend Ellie, coolly asking what the or else part entails. In response, the Wolf King just snaps his fingers with a dramatic flair. His giant wolves appear, and he casually mentions they are pretty hungry after their trip. Our boy just smirks back, betting he'd be a pretty tough meal for them to chew on. Impressed by his guts, the Wolf King still reiterates that this valley is his territory. Then he makes a charming little choking gesture, just to make the threat perfectly clear. With his point made, he calls his crew and they all snap to attention, ready to leave. Ellie asks what got into him, and Sutton admits he has just had it with guys like the Wolf King. After she agrees, he decides he will stick around a bit longer to deal with the bandits. Later that day, Sutton is reading at the table with Ellie and Ben, looking totally relaxed. She brings up the 3-day deadline, asking him what the plan is now. He calmly asks if she is suggesting they should actually give the cows back. Sutton then lays out his philosophy on 2 types of people, those who fear control and those who do not. Coming all this way for a cow chase, he argues, proves the Wolf King is actually afraid. Closing his book, he confidently states it makes no difference whether the man comes back or not. As the sun sets, the 3-day ultimatum hangs heavy in the air. With the Wolf King's deadline looming, Sutton is just peacefully tending to his crops. His quiet day is interrupted by a man calling for Ellie, a voice he seems to recognize. It is the Wolf King of all people, playing host and introducing a merchant named Gottfried. John explains that Gottfried runs the local caravan while Sutton is the new owner of the farm. But the merchant is just staring at Sutton, a look of dawning horror and recognition on his face. He stammers out Sutton's full name, almost revealing a title before catching himself. And then the guy just completely loses it, having a full-on fanboy meltdown on the porch. Trying to get rid of everyone, Sutton asks Ellie to show Jonas some of their new cheese. He pleads with her, reminding her of all the hard work they put into the cheese cellar. She reluctantly agrees but makes it crystal clear that he owes her big time for this. As they walk off, Sutton is left alone with the merchant, who is still completely starstruck. This friendly farmer persona vanishes in an instant as Sutton's eyes go ice cold. This merchant immediately drops to his knees, begging for forgiveness like his life depends on it. He is now fully prostrated on the ground, hailing Sutton, a totally normal reaction to meeting a farmer. Suddenly, Sutton's aura flares up, surrounded by flaming skulls as he conjures a ball of fire. Holding the flame, he cuts right to the chase and demands to know who sent him. This terrified man swears he was not sent, explaining he only knows him because Sutton saved his life. He recounts the Battle of Hiereth Hills, where our boy rescued him from a powerful mage. Sutton tells him to get up and shut his mouth, warning him that his identity must remain a secret. He then asks the merchant if he knows why he is still alive, since only dead men know his true title. Sutton lays down the law. The merchant will be his supplier, but his identity stays a secret. This merchant immediately loses his mind, asking if this is some kind of holy mission. After a moment of pure agony, Sutton just gives in and agrees anything to make this stop. As the guy celebrates, Ellie walks up and Sutton mutters they will need to work on the whole shouting thing. She is completely lost, asking what on earth the eternal flame is supposed to be. Gottfried just laughs manically while Sutton looks like he'd rather be anywhere else on the planet. This merchant then launches into a full-blown sermon about how Sutton is his hero who will cleanse the world, but Ellie cuts right through the worship, reminding him his hero is a mass murderer. Gottfried argues that gods are supposed to be feared, but she shuts him down. Sutton is not a god. This mood plummets even further when she reveals she lost her own family. And just as things get impossibly awkward, Ben arrives with a plate of cheese to save the day. This wolf king of all people tries a piece and admits it is actually pretty good. He then pressures the starstruck merchant to try some, who nervously agrees. So Gottfried takes a bite, with the entire weird little group just staring at him. John asks for his review, clearly enjoying this little power play. Of course, the merchant goes completely over the top, praising the cheese like it is a divine gift. As he begs for more, Sutton tells him to cool it. It is just cheese, man. He gives all the credit to Ellie and even pitches their future aged cheddar. This just sets the merchant off again, now freaking out over the concept of cheddar. Desperate to escape, Sutton says he is getting a shopping list and leaves them to it. Sutton returns with a shopping list and a very clear warning for the merchant to behave. Trying to recover, Gottfried immediately pivots to business, asking Ellie about selling her cheese. She explains they will not have any product for a month, but they do plan to sell it locally. Gottfried jumps at the chance, offering to buy her entire stock himself, a very subtle business move. He then launches into a whole speech about being a cheese connoisseur, really laying it on thick. This guy continues his passionate review, predicting her cheese will have a fantastic aged flavor. He even suggests they could market it as a high-end, exclusive product for a premium price. But Sutton cuts him off, handing over the list and saying they have to get back to work. Gottfried accepts it like it is a holy relic, promising to return from town as soon as possible. Watching this, the Wolf King mutters about what a fanboy Gottfried is, while Ellie just looks done. He then asks Ellie for a private word, claiming he needs to get away from the suck-up. Oh, the irony. As they walk, she asks why he did not say something earlier, and he blames his fascination with her cheese tour. His tone shifts dramatically as he reveals there has been another murder in the village. When Ellie asks who it was, he says it was the shopkeeper, the one he saved her from. He then drops the bomb that the townsfolk and her husband think Ellie is the killer. Leaning against the wall, he trails off, hinting that he knows who the real culprit is. Getting closer, he accuses her very own John Sutton of being the murderer. Ellie fiercely denies it, but he presses her, asking if she can really be so sure. In a seriously creepy move, he offers to protect her if she will just let him. She immediately slaps his hand away, telling him in no uncertain terms to leave. This Wolf King throws his hands up in mock surrender, telling Ellie fine, as if he is being the bigger person. But then he declares it is now his personal mission to track down the witch responsible for everything. With a seriously twisted smile, he promises this witch a public execution with absolutely no mercy. He then looks her dead in the eye, adding he will do it even if that witch turns out to be her. Meanwhile, Gottfried asks Sutton what Ellie's deal is, still calling him Mr. Flame until he is corrected. Our boy just stares him down, demanding to know exactly what he means by that question. This merchant explains that she clearly harbors an intense hatred for the eternal flame. In a flash, Sutton grabs his collar, asking why on earth she should not hate him after what he did. He then twists the knife, reminding Gottfried that these were his asterisk actions, not some abstract titles. Getting right in the guy's face, Sutton just tells him to shut his mouth. The friendly farmer is gone. Gottfried immediately starts groveling, promising he will be better while shaking in his boots. Sutton is not buying it for a second, calling his words empty promises from someone totally feckless. He then asks if the merchant could possibly understand what it is like to lose everything in an instant. Continuing his rant, he describes the all-consuming fire of emptiness that drives him to do anything to feed it. Backing down completely, Gottfried admits he is just a merchant who only knows how to sell things. Sutton lets him go, coldly advising him to stick to discussions he can actually comprehend. Just then, Ellie and John return, and the merchant stammers that they are ready to wrap things up. His focus immediately shifts to Ellie, as Sutton asks if she is okay after her chat with the Wolf King. She tries to play it off, claiming they were just discussing cheese logistics, the worst lie in history. Ellie finishes her cover story, saying she has decided to handle distribution herself and no one is buying it. Ellie immediately shuts Gottfried down, telling him if he wants to do business, it is on her terms. She completely rejects his sell-high-go-small plan, declaring it is against her values, so it is her way or the highway. Both Sutton and the merchant are just stunned into silence, not expecting her to take charge so forcefully. This Wolf King pats Sutton's shoulder, smirking about how fiery she is, which just leaves our boy confused. Jonas then shakes her hand, respecting her decision before casually calling her Mrs. Sutton, a masterclass troll move. Both of them immediately get flustered, tripping over their words to explain they are absolutely not a thing. With a final wave, the Wolf King and Gottfried head out, leaving a very awkward silence in their wake. As they leave, Sutton quietly mutters about maybe killing the merchant, which Ellie definitely overhears. He tries to play it off like he said nothing at all, but she is clearly not buying his innocent act. To change the subject, he just comments on the beautiful sunset, letting the weirdness hang in the air. Later that evening, Ellie is washing dishes in the kitchen, clearly lost in thought about the day's events. That Mrs. Sutton comment is still ringing in her ears as she cleans a plate, looking pretty conflicted. Her thoughts then turn darker, wondering if Sutton is still loyal to, well, that part of his past. This next morning, Sutton greets her cheerfully, and she asks for an update on all the planting. He reports that all 25 acres are planted with wheat and asks her what the expected yield is per acre. She cheekily tells him to check that farming book of his, so he pulls it out to find the answer. After reading the yield numbers, his attention is suddenly drawn to her face, noticing something out of place. He points out she's got a little something on her cheek and gently reaches over to wipe it off for her. As his fingers touch her cheek, she gets flustered and insists she can get it herself, but he just says it is no trouble. For a brief moment, they just stare at each other, the air suddenly thick with some serious unspoken tension. Sutton is blushing over his farming book, thinking he should not be lying to her while she sits across from him. He then asks what a bushel is, and Ellie explains they use a barrel in the barn to measure it. Our boy is still confused, thinking it is a weight, but she clarifies it is a measure of volume, which he finds fascinating. To break the tension, he grabs a cookie and comments on how good they are. But their quiet moment is shattered when Ben slams the door open, announcing he found wolf tracks. His priorities immediately shift, though, as he points out Ellie said they were all out of cookies. The betrayal. Both of them are caught red-handed mid-crunch, having clearly lied about the cookie supply. Ellie tries to play it cool, insisting they asterisk are asterisk out now, and tells the kid there are none here. Ben is absolutely fuming, giving them a death glare that could curdle milk. She then points to the single, solitary cookie left on the table, asking what about that one. In a flash, she snatches the last cookie right off the table before Ben can even react. She then shoves it in Sutton's mouth, claiming it is his reward for working so hard, a masterclass deflection. Ben is not having it, complaining that he works hard too, feeding the horse every day. Trying to get back on track, Sutton asks him to tell them more about those wolf tracks. But Ben is a master negotiator, saying if he did not see cookies, then Sutton did not see wolf tracks. Sutton immediately pulls out a bag of candy, countering that if there are no tracks, there is no candy. This kid's principles vanish in an instant as he screams that he definitely saw wolf tracks. With the deal struck, Sutton gives him the candy and tells him to go show him where the tracks are. As Ben runs off, Sutton's tone gets serious, telling Ellie he has been thinking about the murders. He suggests they do some detective work, but she is doubtful anyone would believe them even if they found the truth. Ellie's already on the case, starting a suspect list with Haver right at the top. Sutton agrees to the plan, telling her to work on it while he and Ben check the wolf tracks. Out in the misty woods, Ben explains the tracks are fresh, no older than a day. This kid then gets all nervous, clearly building up to a deeply awkward question. And there it is, Ben asks if Sutton and his sister are, a thing, complete with finger twiddling. Our boy is completely blindsided, just stammering like he is short-circuiting. Seeing he broke the man, Ben immediately pivots, pointing out the deadfall traps to save them both. Sutton is genuinely impressed with the trap, which Ben proudly says he learned from Ellie. Offering to teach him some improvements, Sutton gets a very enthusiastic yeehaw in response. This two of them continue their trek through the seriously atmospheric forest. Changing the subject, Sutton asks if Ben is scared of Haver. Ben scoffs that he is not scared at all while visibly sweating, a master of deception this one. And right on cue, a twig snaps loudly under his foot, setting the stage for pure panic. This kid absolutely loses it, screaming about a wolf while Sutton just stands there unimpressed. Sutton then has to break it to him that his terrifying monster was, in fact, just a stick. Trying to recover his dignity, Ben claims he totally knew that, a likely story. He even doubles down, insisting it was a test to keep Sutton on his toes, which is just adorable. Desperate to move on, Ben finally spots the actual wolf tracks up ahead. Having fulfilled his end of the bargain, Ben immediately asks about more candy, but Sutton shuts that down. Kneeling by the prince, Sutton confirms there are 4 sets of tracks, definitely Haver's wolves. Ben gets all fired up, asking if they can build a massive deadfall trap to stop Haver. Sutton gently shuts that down, explaining Haver is unfortunately a little too smart for that. Their conversation is punctuated by a shot of a lonely, imposing mountain in the distance. While carrying a log, Sutton reveals traps were crucial in the war, taught to him by an old hunter. He then gives Ben a practical lesson, setting up a massive deadfall with a huge rock. As he works, Sutton reflects on how peaceful this valley is, a stark contrast to the war-torn world. But that peace is shattered when a flock of birds suddenly erupts from the trees in a panic. A grim smirk crosses Sutton's face as he mutters that maybe this place is not so different after all. His hand instantly goes to his knife, drawing the blade with deadly purpose. Telling Ben to get home, Sutton declares he has some wolves to go hunt. Back at the house, he announces to Ellie and Ben that it is time to survey the perimeter. Opening his bag reveals a shocking arsenal, a longsword, a warhammer, and other tools of the trade. Ben is absolutely stunned, asking where all this came from, while Ellie looks completely unfazed. This kid immediately asks to hold the sword, and Sutton warns him it is a heavy two-handed weapon. Struggling with the blade's weight, Ben gets a lesson on longswords for armored knights. Sutton then pulls out a dagger, explaining that in his experience it is often the more useful weapon, and what is better than one dagger, he holds up a second one because of course he does. He hands a knife to Ellie, checking if she has been practicing, and she quietly confirms she has. Ben immediately complains about not getting one, but Sutton reminds him he is already a menace with a hammer. Heading out into the misty dusk, Sutton tells them to lock the windows and that he will be back soon. Under the night sky, Sutton notes the full moon, how perfectly fitting for a hunt. A sudden rustle in the trees sends a flock of birds scattering into the darkness, and there is our welcoming committee. Haver and his crew, complete with a wolf, are ready to rumble. His companion, Rosalie, seems to think this is overkill, asking if they really need a whole squad for one farmer. But Haver corrects her, snarling that this so-called farmer is actually a class holder. This just makes her laugh, asking if they are really scared of one measly little knight now. Haver points out this little knight wiped out an entire gang, though the big guy behind him scoffs at the achievement. This big guy just calls the dead man trash, earning a sharp enough from Haver. Rosalie immediately starts sweet-talking the big guy to calm him down, complete with a pink, sparkly background. Yikes. Meanwhile, Sutton is watching this whole soap opera from a tree, reminding himself not to underestimate this crew. He realizes Haver actually believes he is the killer, which ironically eliminates Haver from his own suspect list. Deciding he has seen enough, Sutton leaps down to find a better battleground since the forest is perfect ambush territory. As he sprints through the trees, he wishes he could just torch the whole place, but that would be a dead giveaway. And right on cue, one of the wolves starts barking, having definitely picked up his trail. This crew hears the commotion, but the big guy's expert analysis is that it is probably just a squirrel, top-tier security. Getting bored, Rosalie decides to scout ahead with her wolves as Haver yells at her not to engage him alone. Haver is just left fuming because of course she is not going to listen. This big guy worries she will get in over her head, but Haver coldly states that if she fails, he will kill Sutton himself. Sutton continues to race through the forest, trying to draw them into the open. But then he pulls up short, sensing a mana signature nearby. Another class holder is here, and there is the class holder, a cowboy-looking dude with a very unique sword. But surprise, it is actually Rosalie, chilling in a tree and calling him handsome. She introduces herself, saying John the farmer was surprisingly hard to track down. Sutton immediately asks if she is with the Wolf King, and she is like, "You could say that." Then she tells a charming story about another John she carved up for the wolves, total psycho move. Landing on the ground, she calls him Jorgen, and he just has to correct her, bless his heart. She could not care less, lunging forward with her twin blades ready to slice. Our boy easily blocks the attack, their weapons clashing in a blur of motion. He gets a little nick on the cheek but just smirks, impressed with her speed. Rosalie is equally into it, saying she likes a man who can keep up with her. She then taunts him, asking why he will not show her his skills. Sutton just coolly replies that he does not think that will be necessary. But she insists, saying it is only fair since she already showed him her swords. With a sigh, he grips his weapon and says, "If you insist." She reveals Haver wanted him, but she is not sharing, to which Sutton gives a dry "that is a shame." He then calls her out for risking her life over some cows, what a waste. With that, Sutton leaps into the air, bringing his sword down in a powerful arc. Their blades meet with a massive clang, the force of the impact echoing through the woods. Rosalie is absolutely loving this, a wild grin spreading across her face. As Sutton lands, his weapon starts glowing, kicking up a storm of leaves as he prepares his next move. This fight's a blur and Sutton loses her, frantically trying to pinpoint her location. His blade sings through the air as he dodges, but it turns out she is not just one person. Oh, it is a clone jutsu. He is caught in a web of attacks from multiple Rosalies at once. With clones closing in from all sides, he prepares to defend against the coordinated assault. He manages to parry a strike, his blade a blur of motion against the clones, and now he is deflecting projectiles, batting them away with his sword like a pro. But of course, the clones were just a distraction. The real one pops up right behind him. Tapping his shoulder, she asks if he wants to dance, which is just villain for get stabbed. Without missing a beat, he swings his sword back, warning her that is a good way to lose a hand. His swing misses completely, embedding his sword in the ground as he grumbles about getting rusty. Two daggers come flying out of nowhere, but he is quick to add he is not that asterisk rusty. Using his sword as a vault, he flips into a handstand, letting the daggers harmlessly thud into the ground. He is just chilling upside down on his sword as the clones regroup for another attack show-off. He deduces she is a high-level rogue, realizing he cannot track her visually but can pinpoint her with mana sense. With a new plan in mind, he closes his eyes, deciding to rely on his mana sense alone. Rosalie is absolutely livid, screaming about how she got all dolled up just for him to close his eyes, the disrespect. With his eyes closed, his mana sense paints a picture, revealing all the fakes and one glowing, real target. He pinpoints her exact location in the chaos, a confident there escaping his lips. Now facing the real one, he thinks to himself that he could kill her, but something holds him back. Instead of going for the kill, he simply blocks her incoming strike with a solid thwack. He decides against finishing her off, not wanting to give the local sheriff any more trouble. But just then, he spots Haver and the rest of the crew arriving in the distance. So much for a quiet night. Sutton casually tells Rosalie she was not fast enough since her boss is already here to see her fail. Haver strolls in with his goon squad, giving a smarmy howdy like he owns the place. This villain immediately gets down to business, demanding to know where his cows are. And in a seriously creepy turn, he asks where his Ellie is. Oh, it is on now. Mocking Sutton, he says any real bandit would care more about his injured friend than some livestock. He then calls Rosalie nothing more than a tame dog, which is just peak management style. She tries to warn him to be careful, but Haver just barks at her to shut up. With a look of pure terror on her face, Rosalie is promised a punishment after he is done with Sutton. Getting all dramatic, Haver asks if Sutton knows how he earned his title, his eyes glowing with power. This whole crew surrounds our boy as Haver unleashes a swirling vortex of energy right at him. Sutton's response is legendary, a simple tip of the hat and a do not particularly care. From his vest, Sutton pulls out a small, unassuming device that starts to glow. It activates into a blazing Magitech shield, easily deflecting the attack's surprise. Rosalie is absolutely floored, realizing he was holding back this entire time. Even the big guy recognizes the super rare tech from the war, something only one person could make. Sutton just smirks, asking if they are interested in his little toy. Furious, Haver orders them to attack, vowing to pry the shield from his cold, dead hands. And with that, the wolves lunge forward, charging straight at Sutton's new glowing defense. Sutton wades into the wolf pack, quipping that he hates to kick a dog, but business is business. A brutal kick then sends one of the wolves sailing through the air, so much for animal cruelty concerns. Before he can even recover, another wolf lunges for his back, jaws wide and ready to snap. He just pivots and delivers a fiery Magitech punch right to its face, problem solved. From the sidelines, Rosalie clutches her side, complaining that her ribs are on fire from their earlier fight. Suddenly, the big goon grabs her from behind, demanding to know where she is running off to. Clamping a hand over her mouth, he reminds his tamed dog that her only job was to attack. Sutton, meanwhile, is a blur of motion, now dual-wielding daggers against the last of the wolves. Expertly catching one mid-lunge, he taunts Haver from across the clearing that he has got his pet. Holding up the bleeding wolf, he notes that Rosalie's broken ribs do not seem to slow her down. What a charmer. In response, the big goon just uses Rosalie as a human shield, earning a well-deserved coward from Sutton. As the goon threatens her, Sutton tells him to back off, his patience clearly wearing thin. Vaulting over the last wolf, Sutton redirects the fight, telling the big guy to face him directly. With Rosalie tossed aside like garbage, she is left writhing in pain on the forest floor. This real duel begins, their weapons clashing as the big guy mocks Sutton's strength. Swinging a massive, icy club, he taunts that Sutton will have to do a lot better to win. From the ground, however, Rosalie tells Sutton to hold him in place. She's got a plan. A powerful parry creates the perfect opening, with Sutton trusting her to follow through. Of course, her plan is to put a sword to his back, calling it payback for her ribs, classic betrayal. Now he is trapped, with Rosalie claiming she is saving the big guy's life. What a team player. Sutton easily dodges the big guy's ground-shattering punch, grabbing the traitorous Rosalie midair. Holding her tight, he reminds her this is the second time she has pulled a stunt like this, and he is not amused. This big guy gets into a 4-point stance, snarling that Sutton will not escape him. Then he charges forward like a rabid animal, his wolves right alongside him. Sutton just gives him a lecture, saying that taming animals does not mean you have to act like one savage. This goon literally tries to bite Sutton's Magitech hand, who quips that he is a tough meal. So Sutton just swings him around like a ragdoll, using him to clear out the other wolves. After tossing him to his own pets, Sutton scolds him with a firm no biting. He is literally training the guy. From the sidelines, Haver watches this absolute circus unfold, commenting on the chaos. Rosalie is stunned, admitting to the axe wielder that Sutton is just as unhinged as their boss. She begs the other goon Gemmel for help, but he just calls her a coward for her earlier betrayal. Haver, ever the supportive leader, screams at his puppy to get on a leash and throws an ice attack. Our boy just casually catches the guy's chainmace mid-flight, barely even trying. This big guy unleashes a massive ice storm, but Sutton looks completely unfazed. Using the chain, he swings the goon straight into a tree, calling it a cute party trick. He follows up by slamming him into the ground with a massive wham, ordering him to sit. This big guy is just left groaning on the forest floor, completely wrecked. And for the final humiliation, Sutton pats him on the head and calls him a good boy. He then points out the dropped weapon, telling him to fetch. This is just psychological warfare now. Defeated and broken, the big goon just lies there drooling, his will completely shattered. This axe wielder Gemmel is actually impressed, saying no one's ever survived to see his favorite trick. A purple aura explodes around him as he stands flanked by two very angry-looking wolves. Their eyes are glowing with pure malice, clearly juiced up on some nasty tamer magic. Sutton immediately clocks it. Gemmel is a high-level tamer, pumping his own mana into the wolves. At his command, the supercharged pack leaps forward, ready to tear Sutton to pieces. Our boy is already moving, but the wolves are way too fast and swarm him instantly. One of them gets a solid hold, sinking its teeth right into his leg with a nasty chomp. A second wolf immediately latches onto his arm, trying to pin him down for the kill. In seconds, he is completely swarmed, with the entire pack latched on and trying to drag him down. Holding up his glowing shield, Sutton calmly reminds the wolf about the no-biting rule he just established. Gemmel just laughs, revealing his little trick. The wolf is a living bomb that will explode on removal. Our boy processes this new, very explosive development with a deadpan explode. This psycho gleefully explains he is torturing them with mana, and biting Sutton is their only focus. He is told that if he does not do something, they will just keep gnawing right through to the bone. With a smug grin, Gemmel offers him a choice in how he wants to go out. What a gentleman. Sutton just scoffs, calling the whole living bomb thing completely ridiculous, even for a war veteran. He knows he could just incinerate these things, but that would blow his cover as the eternal flame. Instead of panicking, Sutton points out the obvious flaw: Gemel's weaker now that he has powered up his pets. This just sends Gemel into a fit of laughter, finding it hilarious that a guy being eaten alive is calling him weak. He says he'd love to watch the show, but just then one of the wolves goes flying with a loud thud. Haver chimes in from the sidelines, blaming Sutton for all this trouble over some stupid cows. He then calls over his axe-wielding goon, Gemel, who immediately snaps to attention. This order is simple: clean up the mess once the boss is done playing with his food. With that, Haver strolls forward to handle things personally, leaving Gemel to watch. Gemel mutters that even he is scared of the boss, wondering what Sutton did to push him this far. Promising a quick end, Haver looms over Sutton and the still-biting wolf pack. Sutton decides he is done playing nice. He is just gonna drain the mana right out of them. Grabbing the wolf by the jaw, his hand erupts in flames, ready to get to work. This poor thing does not even have time to yelp as the mana is ripped right out of it, and just like that, the wolf is tossed aside, a smoking empty husk. Gemel is absolutely stunned, realizing this is no ordinary farmer he is dealing with. Oh yeah, the secret's out: Sutton is a full-blown mage, and he is not hiding it anymore. Sutton calmly apologizes, explaining that now he cannot exactly leave any witnesses. But Gemel finds his courage, declaring he is not afraid of monsters like Sutton. Powering up, he vows to go down fighting a mage with the blood of millions on his hands. Okay, dramatic much. He charges in, screaming about devils and swinging his giant axe for the kill. Sutton just casually blocks the massive blade with one hand, not even a flinch. Gemel loses his mind, now accusing Ellie of being a witch for shacking up with a monster. His follow-up punch is caught just as easily, completely shutting him down, and a swift kick to the stomach sends the big guy flying. So much for that heroic last stand. Gemel hits the ground hard, completely winded from that last kick. But Sutton's not done, warning him to keep Ellie's name out of his mouth. That is a hard line. He even offers the guy a chance to stand up, wanting to do this properly. What a gentleman. Gemel's eyes just burn with pure unadulterated rage, not a hint of surrender in him. Gripping his axe, he starts channeling that purple tamer energy again for round 2. With a defiant roar, he powers back to his feet, apparently ready for more punishment. He leaps through the air, bringing that massive axe down for a finishing blow, or so he thinks. And Sutton just catches the blade with his bare, flaming hand, admitting he is a no-good bandit, while also pointing out he is not a murderous warmonger, which is a pretty low bar to clear. This axe blade literally starts to melt under the sheer heat of his grip. So much for that weapon. Gemel's face is a perfect mix of shock and "I am still in this fight" delusion. Sutton coolly asks if he is done yet, already preparing his own counterattack. A single, clean slice from his sword cuts right through the goon's chest. Game over. Gemel just stands there, completely stunned, as Sutton casually walks past him. With the fight settled, our boy declares they are done here, leaving the axe-wielder to collapse. But then he realizes something's wrong. He cannot feel Haver's aura anywhere. This horrifying thought hits him like a truck, his eyes blazing with fury. The farm. Thinking of Ellie and Ben, he unleashes a massive vortex of fire and wind, his rage boiling over. He swears to leave nothing but ashes if they have been touched, and the system dings him with more doom points. Without a second to waste, he blasts off into the sky like a human rocket, heading straight for home. Sutton tears through the forest at full speed, his Magi-tech boots leaving fiery trails. His feet barely touch the ground, kicking up dirt with every superpowered stride. Finally breaking through the trees, he gets a clear view of the farm, which looks eerily calm. One of the farm bulls stands guard, watching his frantic approach with suspicion. And this is not just any bull, its eyes are glowing, horns wreathed in flame, ready to charge. Our boy's expression softens slightly, recognizing his own superpowered livestock. Raising his hands, he tries to calm the demonic-looking cow, calling it by its very normal name, Ferdy. This rage just melts away, replaced by the face of a very happy, very large puppy. While petting his guard bull, he asks if anyone came by while he was gone. This two-headed bull just nuzzles him affectionately, which is a whole other thing to unpack later. He gives the good boy a pat, thanking him for protecting the farm and telling him to rest. This absolute unit then opens the gate by itself, leaving Sutton to wonder what he has been feeding it. Yeah, he has definitely gotta watch what he is feeding his animals from now on. Back at the house, Ellie cautiously approaches a closed door with a knife, checking on everyone inside. This door creaks open to reveal Sutton, and she is shocked, mentioning the door had been blocked. His first question is if she is hurt, but she reassures him that she and Ben are safe. But then Sutton stumbles, the adrenaline from the fight finally wearing off. He collapses to his knees with a thud, Ellie rushing to his side in a panic. His eyes flare red with uncontrolled power as he growls for Ellie to get back. He is losing it. Pushing her away, he insists he is fine and tells her to go inside, but she is not leaving him. He tries to play it cool, telling her it is just his mana burning from overuse. Needing a moment alone, Sutton sits on the porch with a heavy sigh. But then Ben pops his head out the door, absolutely thrilled to see him back. This kid immediately starts asking about the Wolf King, completely hyped for the war stories. Sutton shuts that down with a very firm bed. Now, clearly not in the mood. Properly intimidated, Ben just wishes him a quick good night and vanishes back inside. Ellie then comes out, noticing he is still in pain and offering to make him some tea. He quietly accepts, watching the night sky from the porch steps. She gently teases him, asking if he wants his usual bucket of honey with it. His tough guy facade cracks for a second as he quietly asks for just a spoonful. Internally, he is spiraling, realizing he did not fix anything. He just brought the apocalypse 2 steps closer. He is terrified of his own power, wanting to get away before he burns everything down again. but leaving is not an option because he knows Haver will just come back for Ellie and Ben as she brings him the tea. He is convinced he just makes everything worse wherever he goes. She hands him the cup, playfully calling him Mr. Longface to lighten the mood. Trying to distract him, she suggests they do some stargazing, pointing out a constellation. She shares some wisdom from her grandmother about the Great Hunter and the Great Bear, one representing want, the other need. Sutton seems genuinely interested, asking what made this legendary hunter so great. Ellie explains the hunter never missed his prey, while the bear only used its strength to survive. They sit in comfortable silence as she shares more of her grandmother's wisdom about listening to the world. Sutton leans back, teasing that her grandma taught her to listen but clearly skipped his lesson. Not missing a beat, Ellie flicks his hat, insisting her grandma did indeed teach him. She lists off the lessons: plants, runes, and being wary of strange men, which he has to concede is solid advice. This mood shifts as she reveals she lost her grandmother the day her entire village burned down. In a flashback, her grandma is trapped inside a burning building as the roof starts to collapse. This text reveals the cause: the eternal flame attacked without warning, leaving no time to evacuate. A younger Ellie tries to save her, but her grandma just begs her to run and save herself. With a massive crash, the structure gives way, throwing Ellie back from the blaze. All she can do is scream for her grandma as the inferno rages on. A single burning hand is the last thing seen before the flames consume everything. And then the twist: Sutton is standing right there in the fire, watching a younger Ellie weep. He was a survivor of the tragedy he himself unleashed upon her home. Back in the present, she asks him what the eternal flame is like, completely unaware she is talking to him. The irony is brutal. Sutton just stares into his cup, describing the legendary figure as strong and fearsome. His haunted reflection appears as he adds the final word, broken. Ellie notes that sounds a lot like him, even joking that he could be a murderer for all she knows. He flatly admits he is killed, but she counters with her grandma's wisdom that soldiers are just tools. She then asks him directly if he enjoyed the killing, and his answer is a simple, quiet no. Continuing her story, she explains her preference for the Great Bear, who only fights to survive. He seems to understand her point, and for a moment she looks at him with a hopeful smile. Ellie suggests he should at least write a letter to his family, but Sutton says that is impossible. When she asks if it is because they are too far, he just vaguely agrees yeah. Something like that. Deciding to give him his space, she wishes him good night and heads back inside the house. Sutton reflects that his whole life here has been constant fighting, wanting to be more like the Great Bear. Staring out at the mountains, he hopes to find a way to get what he wants without more killing. But then the existential crisis hits. He does not even know what it is he truly wants anymore. This scene then flashes forward to the sharp clang of blades crossing in a bright spark, and it is a training session with Ellie actually sparring against Sutton in broad daylight. She lunges forward with a surprisingly quick slash, putting some real force behind the move. He of course just parries her knife with his sword like it is absolutely nothing. A quick twist of his blade sends her knife flying, much to her obvious frustration. He tries to reassure her that it is a tricky move as she nurses her hand. Sutton then says she is almost ready to fight the eternal flame, and she tells him to stop patronizing her. Ellie declares she has to at least try to get revenge, to inflict even a little of the pain he caused. Her hope is that it'll make him understand his actions and stop hurting people. Oh, the irony. With a heavy heart, Sutton quietly asks what she'd do if he already understands his mistakes. She just scoffs at the idea, insisting a tyrant like that could never feel remorse. He turns away, talking about the lies people tell themselves to survive trauma. Sutton then tells her to just admit the truth to be free. Peak hypocrisy, my dude. Internally, he is in agony, knowing he cannot keep lying, but terrified the truth will destroy everything. This next morning, Ellie lays down the law: no breakfast for dirty cowboys, and Sutton, the legendary warrior, immediately scrambles to go wash up like a scolded kid. Meanwhile, Ben is outside happily digging for worms as Sutton yells at him from the window. Back inside, Ellie asks if he is planning on leaving the farm anytime soon. She suggests they get some chickens, mentioning an old woman named Widow Brown who could help. As Sutton agrees to the trip, Ben proudly displays a worm he is about to eat. Kids are gross. Before they leave, Sutton puts Ferdy the bull on guard duty, which is a totally normal thing to do. This bull then stands on its hind legs and salutes, leaving Ellie completely speechless. They arrive at what looks less like a town and more like a heavily fortified compound. Sutton jokes that she is preparing for war, but Ellie warns him the woman just hates visitors. At the door, Ellie gives a secret code phrase about strawberries being out of season. A series of heavy locks and bolts can be heard rattling from the other side, and an old woman cracks the door, finishing the code with, "But we are planting them anyway." She greets Ellie warmly, holding a massive spear like it is a walking cane. Her friendly vibe evaporates as she instantly shoves that spear right at Sutton's throat. He tries to play the harmless farmer card while Ellie teases him about her sweet old woman description. Ellie vouches for him, saying he is no longer with the eternal flame, but the widow is unconvinced. Sutton swears he is retired, even flashing some kind of emblem to prove his good intentions. Finally, Ellie steps in, telling the woman to chill out because they are just here for chickens. This widow's mood flips on a dime, declaring it is perfect timing to sell her flock. Widow Brown explains her hurry to leave. Another gruesome murder has the whole area on edge. She is selling everything and getting out of town, even inviting Ellie to come with her for safety. But Ellie politely declines the offer, saying she just wants to buy some chickens for now. This widow quotes an absurdly high price, which Ellie immediately calls out as total gouging. Ranting about highway robbery, she blames the eternal flame, forcing Sutton to awkwardly defend his own tax policies. She gets right in his face, telling him not to dare defend the man who betrayed his own knights. Tired of arguing, Sutton just agrees to pay, holding out the gold to get this over with. After snatching the coins, the widow smirks and says the chickens are theirs if they can catch them. These birds are apparently escape artists, with one in particular enjoying life on the roof. Widow Brown then conveniently invites Ellie inside for tea, leaving Sutton to do all the work. And suddenly it is a video game, complete with a quest board ordering him to find chickens. He is not impressed. He snags his first squawking victim, and a counter pops up to track his progress, 1 of 12. With the widow watching, he realizes he cannot use his powers, and has to do this the humiliating, normal way. Shoving a chicken into the coop, he slams the door shut, sarcastically calling this a treat. Another one is spotted on some crates, and the counter slowly ticks up to 2. From the window, Ellie and the widow watch Sutton's frantic chase as his count jumps to 5. A bird dive bombs his face in a flurry of feathers, but his score still climbs to 8. Now covered in dust and feathers, he looks around, wondering where the last one is hiding. This counter hits 11 out of 12 as he finally spots the final target way up on the roof. And there it is, the rooster, staring down at him with the cold, hard eyes of a final boss. Sutton grumbles about having to climb a ladder, wishing he could just use his powers. Once on the roof, he tries to sweet-talk the rooster, a truly terrible idea. This chicken immediately dive-bombs him, pecking him right on the head for his efforts. This thing goes absolutely feral, flapping and clawing at him in a feathery rage. Utterly defeated, Sutton can only curse the evil chickens as his foe stands triumphant. This rooster then makes a break for it, leading him on a frantic chase across the yard. Their pursuit ends deep in the woods, with Sutton completely winded and outmatched, and his opponent just puffs out its chest, radiating pure, unadulterated final boss energy. Deciding he has had enough, Sutton summons a bit of mana to finally end this farce. This chicken just gives his magic a blank stare, entirely unimpressed with the light show. It then pecks the mana orb right out of his hand. This bird fears no god. Finally capturing his target, the quest board dings 12-12, and he breathes a sigh of relief. But the chase has left him lost in the woods, staring at a strange grave marker in a pond. Getting closer, he sees it as an emblem for a royal knight he does not even remember. Widow Brown appears out of nowhere, startling him before introducing herself as Kara. She explains the grave belongs to her love Jenny, who died fighting in his war. As she laments the high cost of the Eternal Flame's peace, Sutton offers a hollow apology. He then speaks to the grave, apologizing for his part in the tragedy that unfolded. Ellie suddenly runs up, telling the widow to leave John alone. Unfazed, Kara just gives Ellie a hot tip on where to buy some cows cheap. Kara gives Sutton a firm handshake and a friendly death threat if he lets anything happen to Ellie. As they leave, Ellie asks what that was all about, and he just plays dumb, saying he must remind her of someone. Later that night, Sutton is at the table sketching out some kind of blueprint by candlelight. Ellie finds him still at it, commenting on how hard he is working, and he just smirks back. When she asks what he is building, he dodges the question, reminding her they have to buy cows in the morning. She tells him not to stay up too late, and they share a quiet, almost domestic goodnight. Once she is gone, he snuffs out the candle, plunging the room into darkness. This long day finally catches up to him, and he passes out right on top of his mysterious plans. His sleep is immediately invaded by a nightmare of a flaming monster accusing him of mass murder. Sutton jolts awake in a cold sweat, absolutely terrified by the vision. Alone in the dark, he is left to grapple with the crushing weight of his past sins. This guilt finally pushes him to a decision. He has to start setting things right. Without a second thought, he grabs his spear and bolts out of the house into the woods. He then proceeds to leap down a massive chasm because walking is for normal people. Landing at the bottom, he smashes through a rock wall with a fiery punch, revealing a hidden tomb. Inside, he carefully uses his magic to unseal a heavy stone sarcophagus. He stands before the remains of someone named Gemel, vowing to honor the dead to keep his humanity. But his somber moment is cut short by a massive stone golem activating right behind him. Great timing. Instead of attacking, the golem just holds up a single, glowing blue flower. This stone guardian then offers the flower to a stunned Sutton, a peaceful gesture in a place of death. Sutton launches the heavy stone lid out of the chasm, calling it a fitting send-off. Back on the surface, he is digging a proper grave for Gemel's remains. This whole skeleton is laid out as he finishes digging the plot, a grim but respectful task. He then picks up the skull, having a quiet, dramatic moment with his fallen knight. Carefully, he places the skull back into the sarcophagus, giving it a final resting place. With that done, he begins to fill the grave, finally laying the man to rest. Kneeling before the new headstone, he leaves the golem's blue flower as an offering. Sutton stays there for a moment, head bowed in a silent, personal apology. By morning, his guilt seems to have settled into a new, determined resolve. Tipping his hat, he decides it is time to go buy those cows from Old Man Keller. Meanwhile, Ellie is back at the farm, having a heart-to-heart with Ferdy the bull. She asks the bull for life advice, and Ferdy offers a profound moo, truly insightful. Apologizing for being silly, she confesses she's been thinking about leaving the farm. She tells the bull that something about John just feels off, knowing his ties to the eternal flame. Even though he has been nothing but kind, a deep sense of unease just will not go away. As Ferdy licks the feed, she remembers Kara's warning about a knight's unwavering loyalty. She wonders if anyone can truly escape their past, admitting she certainly has not escaped hers. But then she considers everything he has already done for them, her doubt warring with her gratitude. Ferdy, completely unbothered by her existential crisis, just starts munching on the greens. While feeding him, she seriously considers taking Widow Brown's offer to join the caravan to the capital. Ellie admits to Ferdy that Sutton would never agree to her leaving with the caravan. Watching Ben play, she realizes she and the boy might just have to leave on their own. Meanwhile, Sutton arrives at his destination, a rustic little spot called Keller's Place. Old man Keller offers him the cows for free, but of course there is a catch involving a flooded mine. This deal is simple: bring back 10 gold worth of ore and the livestock is all his. When Sutton asks for tools, Keller hands him a single bucket, peak farmer hospitality. He is also told to be a great swimmer because this mine is basically an underground lake. Keller's final words of encouragement are a threat not to die and tank his property value. After a quick negotiation, Sutton also agrees to buy the entire farm for another 15 gold. And of course, another quest board pops up because his life is now a video game. As our boy heads into the mine, Keller confidently tells a cow that he is a dead man. Inside, Sutton stands in waist-deep water, realizing this bucket plan is completely insane. So he just says screw it and unleashes a massive fire blast to boil the whole place dry. With the mine now empty, he casually calls himself a walking torch. Gotta love the perks. He immediately spots a rich vein of glowing ore along the cavern wall. A few superpowered punches later, he is breaking off huge chunks of the good stuff. His bucket is quickly filled to the brim with more than enough shiny ore. Stepping out of the mine, he is greeted by a completely gobsmacked old man Keller. This old man is overjoyed, handing over the deed to the farm and the cows. Sutton then rides off with his new herd, bribing them with mana crystals like a pro. From the window, Ellie spots John riding back over the horizon. He arrives with way more cows than she expected, and she is already panicking about where to put them. Sutton just smiles, casually mentioning his grand plans to expand the barn and hire help. She watches him herd the cattle, thinking no one has ever been this passionate about barn construction. Inside, he is already planning to build a stable farm so they will never go hungry again. But his real goal is to leave once they are safe. First, he has to figure out the bandit problem. Elsewhere, a new guy with a red headband finds a completely scorched patch of woods. He is clearly on a mission, wondering where his comrade Gemel has gone, and then he finds it, the brand new grave Sutton just dug for his fallen knight. Gripping his axe, he wonders if this mysterious John is responsible for all this. Back at the farmhouse, Ben bursts through the door in a total panic, yelling for everyone. Sutton and Ellie mid-meal look up from the table, knowing this cannot be good. This kid screams that a rooster named Sigvald is trying to fight Ferdy the bull, and sure enough, Ferdy is getting absolutely launched by a surprisingly aggressive chicken. This demon bird dive-bombs the poor bull like a feathered missile of pure rage. Ferdy looks completely unprepared for this level of poultry-based violence. This rooster lands a solid thwack right on the bull's head, who is not having a good day. It then lands on his back, asserting total and complete barnyard dominance. Then it is just a flurry of pecks, turning the bull into a living, mooing punching bag. Finally, Sutton runs out shouting enough, ready to break up this ridiculous brawl. He grabs both brawlers by the neck, declaring himself the pinnacle of the farm's pecking order. With a slam, Sutton threatens to cook and eat both of them if they so much as scratch each other again. This man demands to know if they understand, while Ferdy cries and the rooster just gives him side-eye. Defeated, the two animals finally walk away from each other, their beef officially squashed by a dinner threat. When Ben asks what he said, Sutton just casually replies that he established who the boss is. He then clarifies he'd eat them, which makes Ben realize he might be on the menu too. Later, Sutton tells Ellie his plans to sell cheese and buy supplies for a new barn. But she completely derails things by saying she is leaving with the caravan tonight. Our boy is just stunned silent, his grand farming plans coming to a screeching halt. Internally, he decides it is for the best, thinking she is safer away from him anyway. He then offers to be the one to leave, insisting he has somewhere else he can go. Ellie immediately panics, telling him of course he can stay after all the work he has done for them. Mounting his horse, he says he is heading out, leaving their goodbye hanging in the air. He gives her a final tip of the hat, telling her to stay safe in a very final-sounding way. As he rides off into the distance, Ellie is left to watch him go, believing it is really over. Sutton makes his way into town, heading straight for the main saloon. Inside, the place is a classic dusty bar with a few patrons scattered around. This bartender greets him, and Sutton admits he has been better but notes the place is busy. Apparently, business only picks up for a few days after a murder, a truly comforting local fact. To lift the mood, Sutton offers up Ellie's special cheese, suggesting it as a limited-time sale item. This bartender is absolutely sold on the cheese, declaring it a new menu item on the spot. A town elder then apologizes for suspecting Sutton was the murderer, admitting the trouble started long before he arrived. His mood turns grim, lamenting how everyone in town is just waiting to be the next victim. This guy is clearly at his breaking point, saying the constant fear just wears a person down. Buying Sutton a drink, he talks about the horror of recovering the bodies, a sight no one gets used to. Sutton relates it to his time in the war, explaining he retired because he just could not handle it anymore. With a shared drink, the elder admits he is looking forward to that day himself. Our boy warns him that peace is fleeting, because life always finds a new way to throw a wrench in things. Unfazed, the elder chugs his ale, telling him he will find a new source of happiness eventually. Sutton just smirks, accepting that he does not really have a choice in the matter, does he? Meanwhile, back at the farmhouse, Ellie stands in a room with all their belongings packed and ready to go. Ben walks in holding a piece of paper, looking completely bewildered by the scene. He asks the million-dollar question, why is everything packed in bags? When Ellie says it is not safe, Ben fires back that they are safer with Sutton than they have ever been. To prove his point, he whips out Sutton's secret blueprint, revealing the plan to build him his own room. This kid immediately realizes he has just spilled the beans, a classic oops moment. Ellie takes the plans, finally understanding what Sutton was working on all night. Ben then excitedly lays out the entire vision, rooms for them and a whole bunkhouse for farmhands. She is left speechless, holding the proof of his commitment to building them a future. Elsewhere, Old Man Keller is helping Sutton load up a cart, telling him to take all the ore he needs for his project. Sutton asks Keller how he can just say goodbye to the only home he has ever known, and Keller's answer is simple. For 25 gold, he'd tell this place so long, suckers. As a parting gift, Sutton hands him an expensive-looking knife for self-defense on the road. But it comes with one condition: he has to protect Ellie and Ben if he sees them in the caravan. Back at the farm, Sutton's ready to pull an all-nighter to get this new barn built, when suddenly he hears Ellie calling his name from the half-finished construction site. He is completely shocked, wondering why in the world she is still here after their big goodbye. Turns out she and Ben decided they could not just let him build the whole thing by himself. Ellie even jokes she had to supervise to make sure he did it right, a classic power move. With Ben proudly showing off his new hammer skills, a touch Sutton tells them to get some rest. Watching them leave, he admits to himself he is glad they stayed, even if it complicates everything. Ellie takes a look at the foundation, realizing just how badly the old place was falling apart. And by sunrise, a brand new, fully constructed barn stands tall against the sky. Sutton immediately faceplants from exhaustion, earning a doom point for his trouble. Wait, what? Lying there, he just sighs because of course nothing in his life can ever be easy. Later, Ben is banging on the bathroom door, needing a bath after another run-in with Sigvald the demon rooster. He complains that Sutton's been hogging the tub for hours after his all-night construction project. This kid is now doing the universal "I gotta go" dance, clearly losing his patience. Finally giving up, he decides to go wash in the bowls, drinking water, a truly terrible idea. Just then, Sutton emerges, fresh from his bath and hoping he never has to take a cold one again. Sutton tells Ellie his next project is building a shower, planning to scavenge parts from the mine he just bought. She is still processing the fact he bought a whole mine, let alone this magical shower concept. But before he can start his grand plumbing quest, Ellie asks him to run some cheese into town. Our boy just rolls with it, calling it one last side quest before he can finally get clean. So he rides off, a man on a mission to deliver dairy products and revolutionize bathing. Arriving at the saloon, he tells the bartender Sven he's got the cheese delivery ready to go. Sven is ecstatic about the cheese, but then awkwardly offers condolences about Ellie leaving with the caravan. After explaining she stayed, Sutton asks where the town elder George is, since he is usually around. This bartender reveals George is hiding out in the inn, convinced someone was watching him at his home. As they unload the cart, Sven adds that the old man was too shaken up to even explain what happened. He suggests Sutton go visit, thinking a friendly face might help, and gives him the room number. Sutton agrees, figuring a little free cheese cannot hurt, a decision that will age terribly. He heads upstairs into a hallway that is practically screaming "turn back now." And just to complete the horror movie checklist, George's door is already slightly ajar. He gets no answer after knocking, only a deeply unsettling silence from within the room. Pushing the door open, he announces his cheese delivery to the darkness like a doomed pizza guy. This moment he steps inside, his foot kicks over a candle with a sinister green flame. It is a trap. His face contorts in pure shock as he finally sees what is happening in the room. George is suspended in midair, trapped in some kind of dark ritual with glowing candles on the floor. Sutton immediately draws his weapon, confronting a shadowy figure and demanding they show themselves. Sutton instantly recognizes this as dark magic, hoping to God he is not dealing with a necromancer. Without a second thought, he sprints back downstairs, yelling for Sven about what he just found. He grabs the bartender by the arm, practically dragging him upstairs to see the horror show for himself. And one look is all it takes for Sven to completely break down, just whispering no. While Sven has a full-on meltdown in the hall, Sutton remains calm, already processing the scene. This poor guy is about to be sick, which feels like the only sane response to a floating corpse. Immediately taking charge, Sutton demands to know who has been in and out, insisting they lock the place down now. But Sven absolutely loses it, screaming that he is not getting locked in here with the killer, because everyone's a suspect. Sutton tries to get a grip on the situation, but Sven helpfully points out they do not have a sheriff to call. Then he points to the room and clarifies that the floating dead guy asterisk was asterisk their sheriff. Suddenly, Sven's trying to push Sutton out the door, warning him that the whole town is going to pin this on him. And right on cue, two other guys wander into the hall, asking what all the commotion is about. Sven does not mince words, flatly telling them that Sheriff George has been murdered. And just like that, the entire saloon is about to erupt into absolute chaos. Downstairs, Sutton tries his best to de-escalate, but one guy immediately starts screaming that the new farmer is the murderer. This accusations escalate, and suddenly he is dodging flying spoons, the preferred weapon of any angry mob apparently. He dives out of the way as the chaos intensifies, with tables and chairs starting to fly. With no other choice, he flips a table on its side, using it as a shield against the angry townsfolk. An entire mob of furious people charges him, ready to tear him apart on the spot. Even Grandma gets in on the action, lunging with a knife, but Sutton just casually catches her wrist mid-stab. He calmly tells the mob he is not here to hurt anyone while holding a Grandma at bay. But that peace treaty lasts all of 2 seconds before he is kicking a guy square in the jaw. Another dude on the ground pulls a dagger, screaming for him to die because that works so well for Grandma. With a brutal stomp, Sutton just breaks the guy's arm, ending that particular threat immediately. Now he's got 3 more goons blocking his escape route, all armed and ready to go. Just then, a new crew rolls in, asking if they should join the party. Oh good, reinforcements for the lynch mob. Their leader recognizes Sutton as the rude new guy, trying to explain this is all a big misunderstanding. When asked why he is so beat up, the guy claims he lost a fight to a rat, a truly legendary rat apparently. This town elder just smirks, seeing this chaos as a very convenient opportunity for his own agenda. Suddenly, a dart zips past his head, embedding itself in the wall behind him. In the confusion, everyone realizes Sutton has completely vanished, a classic smoke bomb exit without the smoke. Our boy is already on the rooftops, using some kind of magic platforms to make his grand escape. He laments his terrible luck, getting caught up in a murder at the worst possible time. And right on cue, a posse is after him, screaming that the sheriff killer cannot escape. Now on horseback, he knows he has to shake these guys before they follow him home to Ellie and Ben. Spotting a huge barrel of water, Sutton pulls up short, a brilliant, terrible idea forming. His hands ignite with fire magic as he prepares to give that water a serious attitude adjustment. He then plunges his flaming hands into the barrel, instantly superheating the contents. A massive geyser of steam and water erupts, creating the perfect smokescreen for his pursuers. And the posse is completely blinded and thrown into chaos, their horses freaking out from the sudden blast. Having successfully ditched the posse, a winded Sutton finally makes it back to the farm. He immediately kicks the door open, not exactly making a subtle entrance. Ellie and Ben look up from their meal, wondering what fresh hell has just arrived. From inside, they hear his urgent warning that they need to prepare for trouble now. Sutton starts pulling out weapons, explaining there has been another murder at the inn. He then drops the bomb that the victim was Sheriff George, their one-time ally. Ben is absolutely terrified, realizing the killer struck right in the middle of town. To make things worse, Sutton tells them the whole town thinks he is the murderer and they need to hide. But Ellie's not having it, refusing to abandon their home and insisting she will fight alongside him. She then tells Ben to be a good kid and stay safe in the shelter, a plan he immediately hates. Ben throws a full-on tantrum, plopping on the floor and declaring he is old enough to fight. With zero time for this, Sutton just grabs the flailing kid to haul him to safety. He carries a protesting Ben over his shoulder straight towards the cellar door. Down in the shelter, Sutton gives him the fighting is dangerous talk, explaining he is too young for this. Leaving him there, Sutton tells him to stay put, which Ben acknowledges with a defiant pout. Furious at being sidelined, the kid kicks a nearby shovel in frustration. Then a light bulb goes off. A shovel means he can just dig his way out, a truly flawless plan. Outside, the lynch mob has arrived, torches lit and chanting, "Kill the witch," because of course they are. Sutton and Ellie stand on the porch, armed and ready to defend their home from the angry townsfolk. He calls out to the mob, questioning their idea of justice, playing judge, jury, and executioner. This mob is in full-on accusation mode, screaming that Sutton's a monster who was at the scene of the crime. With his sword drawn, Sutton gives them one chance to back off, saying he came to retire, not to fight. But he warns them with a cold smile that if they force his hand, it is their own damn fault. Naturally, one guy with a farming tool yells they're not scared, a classic pre-beat down line. Ellie wants to fight alongside him, but Sutton tells her to stay inside and let him handle it. This mob's ringleader just sneers at their young love, thrilled at the prospect of a 2-for-1 kill. Standing beside Ellie, Sutton quips it is time to see if he is a better self-defense teacher than a farmer. This whip-wielding idiot lunges forward, screaming for the villain to die. Sutton just casually blocks the attack with his sword, looking bored already. A quick yank on the whip sends the attacker flying through the air like a cartoon character. He follows up with a brutal pommel strike to the face because he did warn the guy. As the first goon hits the dirt, another one charges in to take his place. This downed man tries to get up, only to find Ellie standing over him, dagger at the ready. He takes a swing at her, calling her an evil witch, because that is just good manners. Ellie easily catches his arm and delivers a swift, punishing kick to his side. At the same time, another genius with a pitchfork tries to skewer Sutton, who catches the weapon inches from his face with almost zero effort. He then uses the guy's own pitchfork to give him a brand new piercing. A final kick sends the freshly ventilated farmer sprawling to the ground. But more villagers are pouring in, still chanting to kill the witches because this town is just delightful. One guy charges with a flaming spear, screaming about the eternal flame, a line Sutton finds deeply unimpressive. Our boy just disarms the fanatic with a swift slash because he has zero time for this nonsense. This whole front yard is a chaotic brawl, with Sutton and Ellie fighting back-to-back against the mob. Even Ellie gets to show off her new skills, easily blocking a whip attack with her dagger. She stands her ground against multiple attackers, proving she is not just some damsel in distress. And she is silently thanking Sutton for the 2-dagger tip as she takes down an archer. Just as she finishes one, another genius tries to bash her from behind with a flaming stick. Her eyes go wide, realizing she is not going to be able to dodge this one in time. But Sutton's there, catching the burning weapon with his bare hand like it is absolutely nothing. He then immediately follows up by decking another villager square in the jaw. After that save, they share a quick badass thanks, standard date night activities. Unfortunately, the mob is still chanting about burning witches and their numbers are not dwindling. Another group of furious villagers charges forward, ready for round 2 of this disaster. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracks and gives way. It is a pitfall trap. Several of the attackers plummet into the hole, their charge coming to an abrupt, hilarious end. Sutton is just as confused as everyone else, pointing out those traps definitely were not there earlier. Of course, the remaining villagers just assume it is more evil magic from the mage scum. Then, from the darkness, a mighty moo echoes as a cow charges into the fray. And Ferdy the cow proceeds to absolutely launch a guy into the air, best backup ever. To top it all off, a giant demonic-looking chicken swoops in to join the party. This giant demonic chicken immediately goes for the face, pecking one guy into submission. Meanwhile, Ben is riding Ferdy into battle like a tiny, adorable harbinger of doom. He proudly yells that he told them he could fight, earning an impressed smirk from Sutton mid-brawl. With the farm animals providing an excellent distraction, Sutton lets out a sharp whistle to halt the chaos. He calls for a ceasefire, pointing out that this pointless brawl could go on until sunrise. Sutton then appeals to their memory of the sheriff, saying this is not the kind of justice George would have wanted. He urges them to go home and protect their families because the real killer is still on the loose. One guy is still suspicious, arguing that Sutton's two supposed alibis conveniently bolted before vouching for him. Trying a different angle, Sutton says he is just as angry as they are about the murder. He warns them that their pitchforks are completely useless against the kind of dark magic he saw upstairs. His final advice is for everyone to just go home and lock their doors for the night. And amazingly, his words start to sink in, with the ringleader admitting he got carried away. Another villager agrees, saying they should honor George by upholding the law, not becoming a mob. As they leave, someone points out that if Sutton and Ellie were truly evil, this fight would have been over already. Watching from the shadows, a heavily armored man calls Sutton a sly dog, clearly impressed by the performance. This next morning, Sutton's back to farm work, admitting last night got way out of hand. He finally cracks open a mage book, hoping to find something to protect his family. Looking back at the house, he is determined to find a way to keep them safe when he is not around. He channels his magic into the book, which seems to be resisting his touch. A flaming seal erupts on the cover, and Sutton really hopes this thing is not a bomb. This flaming seal on the book clicks open, finally letting Sutton see what is inside. Instead of spells, he finds a journal, which is a huge asterisk let down for our guy. It flashes back to a once beautiful tower, setting a pretty ominous tone for this story. We see the journal's author, a young mage, standing with her robed colleagues and a grim-looking elder. Her entry reveals their tower master suddenly canceled all their research projects, not a good sign. All efforts were redirected to developing a forbidden spell, the kind that got banned for killing thousands. This tower master, Kelvis, successfully unlocks the spell, creating a massive magical vortex. But just as everyone celebrates, Kelvis refuses to hand it over, turning the power on his own people. This led to 6 mages attacking the tower, and Kelvis only managed to save the journal writer. Sutton realizes this all went down just a month before the Third Mage War, classic power grab. This journal explains Kelvis then destroyed the tower himself to fake the loss of the forbidden spell. He tasked the writer with hiding in a cave to continue their work, letting the world think she died. A year passes and she is still waiting for Kelvis to return, which he never does. Now she is just trying to survive, noting the ruins are a constant war zone and she needs to grow food. She has supplies but no sunlight, so she turns to a mana stone for a solution. After burning through 20 mana stones trying to create a mini-sun, she is getting desperate. Then she has a brilliant idea: why make a sun when you can make plants that eat mana instead? Sutton connects this to the flowers Grimm gave him, realizing this could help his mana-resistant wheat. Frustratingly, the rest of the journal is completely unreadable, leaving him hanging. He then connects the dots. This must be the Mage Tower the Red Coral Adventurers were after. Sutton puts it all together. The Red Coral Adventurers must be after that forbidden spell. He knows all too well that people would gladly kill for that kind of world-breaking power. Rushing back to the house, he decides he has got to keep an eye on them no matter what. At that moment, the doorknob starts rattling and the tension spikes all over again. Inside, Ellie and Ben are braced for the worst, with Ellie holding a knife at the ready. This door swings open to Sutton's cheerful morning, which gets interrupted immediately by Ellie pressing a blade to his throat because her nerves are understandably fried. She and Ben are completely shocked to see it is him, calling out his alias. John, mortified, she apologizes for the welcome home stabbing, but Sutton gets it after last night. He gently takes the knife, promising he will make sure they are never in danger again. Ben then asks how the sheriff could die, forcing Sutton to give him the hard lesson that nobody's invincible. A sudden knock at the door sends the whole family right back into high alert mode. This time, Sutton approaches the door cautiously, ready for another fight. But it is just Gottfried the merchant, who almost blows Sutton's cover by using his real name. This merchant announces he has brought the goods they ordered, some gifts, and a new friend. This friend is Thomas Little, a guy Gottfried apparently bonded with over a shared love of cheese. Thomas extends a hand, formally introducing himself to Sutton. They shake, and our boy immediately notes the man's incredibly firm grip. Meanwhile, Gottfried is laying on the charm, calling Ellie Mrs. Sutton while gifting her some fine fabric. Thomas then asks to meet the missus, only for Sutton to bluntly shut him down. She is not his. Ellie opens the door to check on John, completely unaware of the tension brewing outside. Thomas smoothly explains Sutton's just giving him a warm welcome while also calling him a guard dog. He then introduces himself directly to Ellie, with Sutton watching his every move from the doorway. This guy immediately lays on the charm, kissing her hand and praising her cheese as Sutton's face just screams murder. Thomas claims he is from out of town and just looking for some honest work, a likely story. Before Ellie can even consider it, Sutton steps in with a hard absolutely not, shutting the whole thing down. She is confused, pointing out they could use the help, and Ben accidentally mentions her new room. This kid immediately panics, realizing he just let slip they have been snooping around. With a gentle smile, Sutton tells Ben it is all right, diffusing the kid's worry instantly. He then suggests taking Thomas to the barn for a tour, which is clearly code for interrogation. Meanwhile, Gottfried keeps Ellie busy by asking to see her famous cheeses, splitting up the group perfectly. And so the two men head off to the barn for their very private, very tense conversation. Inside, Sutton drops the act, demanding to know why Thomas is really here. His hand bursts into flames as he threatens to burn Thomas and the merchant if the ecclesia knows his location. Thomas throws his hands up, swearing nobody told him, but points out that Sutton's holy cheese is not exactly low profile. Turns out, this is Sutton's right-hand man who roasts him for his terrible attempt at hiding. We get a flashback to Sutton's resignation, a sticky note on a throne because that is how you quit running an empire. Thomas calls him Eternal Flame, telling him he cannot run from his past, especially when his cover is this flimsy. This big question comes out: do Ellie and the boy have any idea who he really is? Sutton extinguishes his flame, saying the man he knew was not a liar, but Thomas counters that the man he knew was a monster. Thomas hits him with some philosophy, asking why he'd run from a world that worshipped him. But Sutton just could not be that person anymore, explaining the system gave him an escape. He then lays down the law: Thomas can stay, but if the ecclesia comes, everyone burns. Sutton offers him a luxurious hay bale for a bed because hospitality is clearly his strong suit. Changing the subject, our boy asks about Thomas's arm, wondering if the new one is finally done. His friend shows off a brand new prosthetic built to Sutton's own design specifications. Sutton's first question is, of course, can he milk a cow without accidentally making it explode? He then threatens to kick Thomas out if he does not learn the farm life and fast. Thomas just gives the cow a friendly pat, completely unfazed by his former commander's threats. Soon, the mighty warrior is reduced to raking hay while Sutton kicks back with a book. These two most dangerous men in the world are now just a couple of dairy farmers. Later, Thomas is stuck tilling the fields under Sutton's watchful and very unhelpful eye. Ellie brings them some cheese, asking how they met since Sutton seems so suspicious of him. He immediately corrects her, saying he trusts Thomas more than anyone after the war. She points out neither of them knows a thing about farming, which Sutton cannot really argue with. From the field, Thomas calls them out, asking if they are gonna help or just watch him suffer. Sutton just smirks, telling him he is enjoying the show and is not paying him to talk. With a salute, Thomas snaps back into military mode, only for Sutton to tell him to shut up. Ellie asks if he was a royal knight, but Sutton clarifies they were just in the same unit. Thomas yells from across the farm, complaining that Sutton is giving out his class info for free. Ellie makes small talk, asking if Thomas is retired just like her John, but Thomas casually drops a bomb, saying he misses their old boss, the Eternal Flame. His gaze then lands on the scars covering Ellie's arms, getting way too personal, and Sutton immediately gets defensive, warning his old friend to back the hell off. A shadow falls over Ellie's face, that title clearly digging up some very bad memories. She walks away, coldly stating she has no reason to miss the Eternal Flame after a run-in with his unit. Yikes. Sutton is completely stunned, demanding to know what she is talking about and if he was the one who hurt her. He tells Thomas they need to talk somewhere private and the friendly reunion is officially over. Out in the woods, Thomas calls him out for lying, but Sutton says he learned to survive from the best. Thomas counters that there is no danger here, so Sutton is just lying because he wants to. That is the last straw. Sutton lunges with a flaming fist, screaming that Thomas knows nothing about Ellie. His old friend effortlessly catches the punch, admitting he is right about that. But he knows Sutton right before he flips our boy clean over his shoulder. Sutton gets tossed through the air but manages to twist his body mid-flight. Using his fire magic as a booster, he launches himself off a tree to counterattack. Thomas meets him head-on, leaping down from above for a brutal strike of his own. With a fiery block, Sutton stops the kick, the impact shaking the whole clearing. His two former comrades are now locked in a furious, high-speed exchange. Realizing this is a stalemate, Thomas reaches for a weapon strapped to his back. But Sutton's one step ahead, manifesting a glowing energy blade from his bare hand. Things just got real. Thomas casually catches the energy blade, roasting Sutton for getting rusty in his retirement. But Sutton explodes with a fiery kick, insisting he is not the same man he was before. Thomas easily dodges, hitting back with the hard truth: Sutton abandoned an entire empire that needed him. He then asks if our boy has any clue what kind of wars will start now that the world thinks he is gone. Sutton fires back a massive fireball, arguing their so-called peace was built on a mountain of corpses. Their clash intensifies as he questions whether all the looting and death was truly worth it. Thomas reminds him they ended a 300-year war, but Sutton admits he just saw everyone as NPCs in a game. Back then, he did not care who died because to him, they were not even real people. But now it is different. He knows for a fact that his actions led to the destruction of Ellie's village. He screams that her grandmother is dead because of him, demanding Thomas finally fess up. With a blade to his throat, Thomas points out that Ellie wants the Eternal Flame dead, and frankly, she has every right. Sutton insists his friend does not get it, only for Thomas to throw the exact same accusation back at him. This whole new life is just a lie, Thomas argues, and it is hurting Ellie whether she knows it yet or not. He calls him out for pretending to be normal when he is anything but a walking apocalypse trying to be a farmer. That finally breaks him, and Sutton just roars for his friend to shut up, his eyes glowing with rage. He launches himself forward, reminding Thomas of the countless people he has killed without a shred of remorse. At first it was horrifying, but eventually killing became as routine to him as eating breakfast. He lands, asking how in the world he is supposed to explain his past as a genocidal warlord to anyone. Thomas calmly states the obvious: she's going to find out one day and it'll be way worse coming from someone else. He lays down the final brutal truth: Sutton is literally his mortal enemy's roommate, and that is a betrayal she does not deserve. With a blade at his throat, Thomas tells Sutton to let Ellie make her own damn decisions for once. This lecture continues. She has the right to choose and Sutton just has to suck it up and accept it. Our boy screams back that he is just trying to protect her as if that has ever gone wrong before. But Thomas shuts that down immediately, saying this is one secret that absolutely has to come out. And just like that, the sword vanishes into steam, with Thomas basically telling him to chill out. He gives Sutton the disappointed dad talk, telling him to sort himself out because this is just embarrassing. Sutton finally caves, promising he will tell her. He just needs a little more time to stall. His friend points out the obvious: the longer he waits, the worse the fallout is gonna be. Sutton's brilliant plan is apparently to fix everything and then just dip, claiming he can always move elsewhere. Reluctantly, Thomas agrees, warning him not to do anything stupid he will regret down the line. With that settled, he turns to leave because the cows are not gonna milk themselves, you know. Meanwhile, Ben is hauling a massive bag of feed, wondering why chickens have to eat so dang much. This bag immediately rips, of course, spilling grain everywhere as the kid yells in frustration. Before he loses the whole thing, Thomas's hand swoops in to clamp it shut, saying, "I have got it." Ben insists he is a big boy who can handle it, but Thomas just smiles, saying he is doing his part. Thrilled, the kid offers to pay him back with a glass of milk, and Thomas casually agrees. Inside, Sutton and Ellie are watching this whole bonding moment unfold from the doorway. Noticing his mood, she asks what is wrong, but Sutton just says he is watching Ben with his new superhero. He then admits he is just not a fan of surprises, which is putting it mildly. At that moment, Thomas and Ben walk in, proudly announcing the farm work is done in record time, a perfect team. Thomas immediately takes charge, calling Sutton speedy and announcing he has got a task for him. He then ropes Sutton into building a bathroom, who immediately suspects this is just a stall tactic. With a deadpan "it is necessary," Sutton leads them outside, clearly having his own agenda. This task is a massive plumbing project for the whole farm, starting with a proper washroom. Thomas just smirks, calling him out for being the same old project-obsessed perfectionist. Ellie looks over at Sutton, who cannot exactly deny he is a total control freak. Even Ben is won over, running up to say he likes the new guy, much to Sutton's visible annoyance. Suddenly, we cut to a dark cellar where something is clearly getting smashed to bits. Turns out it is Sutton having a full-on temper tantrum and punching stone walls with a flaming fist. He's just raging about Thomas and his stupid, judgy face, a totally normal way to process emotions. Our boy continues his meltdown, absolutely furious that his old friend is questioning his new life. With his hand still on fire, he rants about Thomas showing up on his farm to judge his choices. He then channels that rage into work, using his fire to literally melt a stone pipe into shape. But in his fury, he realizes he has messed up, muttering a defeated "crap. This pipe is now a glowing, warped mess, and he has got miles of this stuff left to do, oops." So now he is stuck playing blacksmith, hammering the superheated pipes back into shape by hand. This former warlord is now a one-man pipe factory, churning out perfectly crafted plumbing parts. Meanwhile, Thomas is just calmly digging a trench while Ellie brings him a drink, completely oblivious. Sutton finally emerges from his rage forge, carrying a whole stack of pipes like it is nothing. And just like that, the framework for a new building is up, with all the plumbing ready to go. This whole crew is now hard at work on Sutton's grand plumbing vision, a truly wholesome family activity. Ellie asks Thomas what is up with Sutton, and he just deadpans that the guy's got a bug up his butt. She admits she has absolutely no clue what John is even trying to accomplish with all this. Thomas explains that Sutton's specialty is digging himself into holes he cannot get out of, literally and figuratively. He then gets all mysterious, saying Sutton's a good guy but his past is his own business to share. Changing the subject, Ellie offers Thomas a snack since their boss is too busy having a meltdown to eat. Time passes, with the farmhouse standing quiet against the sky, and Ellie's worry is clearly growing by the minute. Inside, Ben is chugging a drink while she just stews in her concern. This kid starts complaining that it has been 2 days and he cannot do all of John's work alone. Meanwhile, Sutton emerges from his man cave, having single-handedly produced a mountain of perfect stone pipes. Of course, he has to double-check every single seam because perfectionism is a disease. Night falls again, and our boy is still Mia from the main house. He finally sneaks back in, finding Ben passed out at the dinner table waiting for him. Sutton looks genuinely touched to see they left him a plate of food. He gently pats the kid's head, feeling a little guilty for making them wait up. With his dinner in hand, he tries to tiptoe away without waking anyone, but a creaky floorboard immediately rats him out because of course it does. Ben jolts awake, demanding to know where the heck he has been all this time. Sutton completely blanks, asking how long he was even gone. He has been in the ragework zone. Ben is absolutely livid, yelling that Sutton's been gone for 2 days and they saved him dinner for nothing. Just then, Thomas kicks the door open, announcing he has finished the piping holes. Talk about an entrance. This reality of his 2-day rage-crafting session finally hits Sutton, who just sheepishly apologizes. He thanks them for the food, but immediately makes an excuse to leave, saying he has to finish the bathroom. Thomas puts a comforting hand on Ellie's shoulder, telling her to just give the guy some time to figure himself out. Back outside, Sutton gets right to work, cranking the handle on his newly installed water pump. He stares up at the shower head he built, begging it to work as it just sputters pathetically. And then a glorious spray of water erupts. His obsessive plumbing project is a success. Overjoyed, he immediately calls for Ellie to come and see his masterpiece. But his smile fades when he spots her in the distance, talking quietly with Thomas. Standing fully clothed under the running water, he admits Thomas was right. He is just stalling because they do not need him. At that moment, a stranger approaches the farm, calling out to see if anyone's home. Sutton meets the new guy on the porch, who gives a cheerful greeting that our boy is clearly not buying. This stranger asks if he is here to cause trouble, casually dropping that he has news about those murders. He then clarifies he is from the Red Coral adventuring team and they are actually looking to hire Sutton. When Sutton asks why, the guy says he is obviously powerful and they need support exploring some ruins. This job is a simple fetch quest: explore a mage tower, retrieve an heirloom for a noble, be back in a few days. Thomas watches this whole exchange from the fence line, and his face says this is a terrible idea. This adventurer adds a little warning, mentioning they do not know what traps are inside, so it might be dangerous. And Sutton, looking for any excuse to run away from his problems, immediately says, "I am in." Ellie finds Sutton packing his bags again, asking where he is running off to now. He literally just finished the pipes. He announces he is leaving with the Red Coral adventuring team, and she is immediately like, "Those vagabonds." Why? Sutton explains his brilliant plan is to join them because he suspects they are the murderers, a flawless infiltration strategy. Terrified, she begs him not to go, reminding him he is going to get himself killed just like George was. He just smirks that he is pretty hard to kill, which is exactly what someone says before things go horribly wrong. Our boy tries to justify it, saying the village has it out for them and bandits are still a threat. Besides, he adds she's got Thomas to protect her now, casually outsourcing his own responsibilities. That is the last straw for Ellie, who tells him to just go do the one thing he is best at: running away. That brutal honesty stops him dead in his tracks, and he turns to ask what she just said. With her arms crossed, she doubles down, stating plainly that he is running away again. She then asks why he feels the need to solve everyone's problems by himself, but he just says he has to. He claims it is to keep them safe, and she immediately calls out the logic fail by leaving the farm. Grabbing his collar, she reminds him he runs a business now, and his sort of knowing where he is going is not helping. She tells him he cannot just go play vigilante, but he pulls out his trump card: they are offering money. Defeated, Ellie's tone softens, just asking him to come back safe because Ben looks up to him. As he walks out, Sutton bitterly mutters that the kid looks up to Thomas too. The jealousy is real. She immediately shoots that down, insisting Thomas is not his replacement. But he just says they might all be better off if he was, gently pushing her hand away. In tears, Ellie is left watching him go, admitting she does not understand him at all. Outside, Sutton pauses for a moment, looking back as if he is having second thoughts about this terrible, terrible idea. Ellie confronts his closed door, demanding to know why he is abandoning the farm, Ben, and her. In tears, she reminds him he promised to help her get her life back. He was supposed to keep her safe and teach her how to fight, not just run away. Crushed, she realizes that after everything, she must still be a complete stranger to him. From inside, Sutton listens as she admits how nice it was to finally have a partner. She finally breaks, asking if she can be selfish for once and just beg him to stay. Her desperate plea clearly hits him hard, but he only whispers her name. And with that, he steps out the door fully geared up, announcing he is going anyway. Ellie warns him he'd better have a damn good explanation ready for when he gets back. He just tells himself this hurts, but it is for the best, a classic emotional avoidance tactic. At the fence line, Thomas and Ben watch him go, with the kid asking when he will return. Sutton puts on a brave face, promising to come back with a satchel full of money. Out on the trail, he meets the Red Coral team, and their leader, Reese, makes the introductions. Reese immediately gets down to business, telling the crew to move out because they are losing light. This other members are already sizing Sutton up, hoping this new guy is not a mistake. One of them tries to make small talk, promising enough coin to fix up his dinky farm. Sutton is visibly unamused, and another member apologizes for his partner's total lack of a filter. Someone asks why they even recruited a farmer, and the answer is simple: rumor has it he is a killer. One of the women is immediately smitten, wondering why he is an herbalist when they need a healer. This leader cuts them all off, getting straight to the point: "I do not like you, you do not like me." But the woman on the team is immediately smitten, cooing that she likes him, oh boy. With that sorted, the whole crew takes off at a breakneck pace through the woods. Reese gets right in Sutton's face, telling him to do the job and then get lost forever. This rest of the team is visibly terrified of their own leader, which is always a great sign. Yeah, everyone's just stammering yes sir like their lives actually depend on it. One of the older members, Grimes, has to tell Reese to just take it down a notch. Later, they are all gathered around a campfire, and the camp cook is getting roasted for his mom's terrible recipe. Catherine, still making hearties, offers Sutton a bowl, but he just shuts her down with a flat no. Instead, he pulls out his own food, which turns out to be a sandwich. This crew immediately starts mocking his hick food, while Catherine is somehow even more into him now. Sutton asks why they are stopping, and Reese says they need to rest because the ruins are full of beasts and they need his strength. When Sutton asks why him, Reese drops a bomb: two more powerful people are coming, and they are the ones who recommended him. Our boy is completely blindsided by this news, just staring into the fire. He immediately gets pissed, saying he hates surprises and demands to know who else is joining this mess. Reese and the others just stammer, clearly not wanting to spill the beans. Just then, footsteps are heard approaching their camp from the darkness, and in walk two new adventurers with a pair of wolves, announcing that the party has arrived. Sutton knows them, greeting Haver and Rosalie. Looks like he has got history with these two. Haver confirms it was them, telling Sutton they knew he'd be a great asset to the team. And Sutton immediately realizes Ellie was right, he should have never trusted these vagabonds. Reese immediately starts sizing him up, mentioning he heard Sutton has an artifact-level shield he'd love to see. Our boy just stares him down, promising it'll be the last thing he ever sees, so the team building is going great. Grimes has to step in, telling his own leader to back the hell off before this goes sideways. Sutton then turns on Grimes, asking if he wants a demonstration of what happened to some guy named Gemmel. Haver smoothly intervenes, telling him to save that energy for the gnolls they will be fighting. He then lays out their whole party composition, which sounds suspiciously like a well-balanced D&D group. Getting straight to the point, Sutton asks how the loot is getting split because he is not here for friendship. Reese explains the heirloom is off-limits, but everything else gets divided 8 ways. Haver immediately scoffs at that, muttering he could take it all himself instead of sharing with this crew. With a growl from the wolf, Sutton offers to make it a 6-way split, a not-so-subtle threat to Haver's pets. Reese jumps in to play peacemaker, desperately trying to get everyone to cooperate like a real team. Playing it off as a joke, Haver just asks what is for dinner, completely deflecting the tension. But Rosalie is not having it, getting right in Sutton's face about him killing Gemmel over some cows. She is absolutely furious, yelling that they were starving and that royal knights are all just selfish takers. All Sutton can do is say her name as the rest of the camp watches this personal drama unfold. Haver warns her to back down, reminding her not to poke the thorn bear, a nickname Sutton has clearly earned. He then hands her a bowl of food, calming the situation and even feeding his wolves. Sutton is just baffled by this, wondering why they are not already at each other's throats with daggers. Trying to regain control, Reese announces they have a long hike tomorrow and everyone needs to rest up. And Catherine, ever the optimist, offers Sutton a spot in her tent, which he immediately shuts down. Haver mid-meal casually asks Sutton why he is even on this job, offering him some of their stew. He explains he is just here for the money since the land is barren, a simple, relatable motive. Rosalie jumps in with some top-tier sarcasm, roasting Sutton for being a terrible farmer. Haver just laughs it off, saying farming is a big change of pace from his old gig as a royal knight. Sutton is done with the campfire chat, telling them if they are gonna talk, it will not be with an audience. Smirking, Haver totally picks up what Sutton's putting down and agrees to a little walk. So they head to the river for some privacy and Sutton cuts right to it. You want the shield. Haver turns to Rosalie, all smiles, asking if they should just settle for the shield, like it is just one option on the menu. But Rosalie has bigger plans, revealing there is a much bigger payday and a bounty for a mage who escaped the eternal flame. And Sutton is absolutely floored. Wait, he is the escaped mage they're talking about. Haver gets in his face, demanding to know which side he slaughtered for as a royal knight. He tells Sutton to drop the act, revealing that they have got no love for the eternal flame either. Turns out Haver's dad was a mage on the losing side, and the eternal flame torched his whole country. This left him an orphan, forced to wander the burnt-out wilds just to survive. Rosalie eventually joined him, and they got branded outlaws for life after trying to steal food from an army storehouse. So now she hates mages, but Haver sees an opportunity. Sutton could be useful with all these murders happening. Besides, he adds with a grin, everyone knows Sutton's kind is notoriously hard to kill. With all that laid out, he offers his hand, proposing a temporary truce. Sutton's not buying it, flatly asking why he should not just end him right here and now. And Haver reveals his insurance policy. If he dies, a runner brings dragonfire down on Fairford. Haver holds out his hand, telling Sutton to shake like he is training a dog. Sutton's mind immediately goes to murder, kill Haver now before the ecclesia gets tipped off. But then he remembers Ellie's words, realizing he'd just be running away again. So he forms a new plan, use Haver to find the messenger, then wipe them all out at once. He takes the deal, making it crystal clear this is a temporary truce, not a team-up. Haver plays it cool, ready to forget the whole "you killed my buddy" thing and go get paid. This whole crew finally arrives at the ancient ruins, staring down into the massive stone complex. And what a welcome wagon, the entrance is guarded by a dozen gnoll archers. On top of that, it is a mage tower, so it is probably loaded with traps and maybe some thorn bears. Rosalie immediately freaks out about the bears, but Haver just points to Sutton like he is their new pet monster. This group's brilliant strategy is to run from 4 bears but fight 12 gnolls. Math is hard. While Catherine is still trying to flirt, Sutton cuts her off, telling everyone to look up. He points out the gnolls are active during the day, meaning there is a matriarch and probably 24 of them. After Sutton roasts their recon, the guy who missed it suggests maybe they should just go home. But one absolute genius tries to yeehaw his way into a solo charge before Reese tackles him. That brilliant move immediately earns him a spear thrown right at his face. This gnolls are officially alerted, loosing a volley of arrows from their perch above. With nowhere to hide, the whole party is about to get turned into pincushions. Suddenly, the arrows shatter in midair against some kind of invisible shield, and it is Sutton who is already casting, single-handedly protecting the entire chaotic crew. This battle finally kicks off as one of the mercs lands a clean spear shot right through a gnoll. Meanwhile, Catherine is playing medic for the guy who got shot, promising her field surgery will only hurt a little. He immediately discovers she is a liar as she yanks the arrow out with zero anesthetic. Reese tries to get a handle on the chaos, ordering a coordinated rush to the tower entrance, but Haver completely ignores him, joyfully leaping into the horde and declaring it a feast. Sutton just watches the Leroy Jenkins routine, muttering about what idiots he is stuck with. Rosalie snaps right back, warning the royal knight not to write her partner off as dead. Our boy is so over it, giving her the most dismissive yeah wave in history. Down in the pit, Haver makes a superhero landing right on a gnoll's head, ready to throw down. He immediately follows up by caving in another one's skull with a glowing weapon, so he has got skills. This gnoll archers quickly retarget, aiming for the wild man and his wolves, causing havoc below. Suddenly, a flaming bolt zips through the air and takes out another gnoll mid-shot. It is Grimes, the older merc, providing cover fire and telling Haver to watch his back. Haver just scoffs at the help from a nasty royal knight, clearly too proud to accept it. Right on cue, a gnoll grabs and snaps his arm, making him wonder where his backup actually is. This rest of the Red Coral team is finally engaging, clashing with the gnolls head-on. From his vantage point, Sutton notes that they seem to be holding their own just fine. One of the mercs even unleashes a massive flaming spear attack, cutting a path through the monsters. His weapon slams into the ground, creating a huge explosion of earth and rock. Seeing this raw power, Sutton starts to wonder why they were even hired, just as a gnoll sneaks up behind him. As the gnoll lunges, Rosalie just watches, saying she is not in the business of saving murderers. Sutton easily guts the beast, reminding her that one save for two of his does not make them even. Just then, one of the mercs shouts that he has found an entrance and the team makes a run for it. Inside, the shirtless maniac starts howling like a wolf, which is not at all concerning. Rosalie and Haver are completely over his whole battle-crazed shtick. Looks like this is a regular thing. Reese congratulates the team on shaking their pursuers, pointing them toward the main tower doors. He asks his ranger if the path is clear, and the guy confidently promises he scouted it, it is safe. Meanwhile, Catherine is happily harvesting gnoll parts, much to Rosalie's absolute confusion. Getting down to business, Reese orders Haver, Rosalie, and a guy named John to take point. And Sutton immediately gets it, they are not teammates, they are just thorn bear bait. Even Haver sees the obvious play, noting that their own wolf maniac understands the plan. For once, Sutton tells Rosalie to stay behind him and she just gives him a wary look. This shirtless guy is just relieved there are no thorn bears in the entrance hall, priorities, I guess. After a quick scan, Sutton declares the room clear and the whole party cautiously files in. This hall is a total mess of rubble, so Reese asks Catherine where the hidden tunnel is. She starts clearing a pile of rocks, saying the entrance should be right under there, which reveals a single glowing red eye staring back at them from the darkness. A massive beast bursts out and Reese immediately starts yelling at his scout for that all clear. This monster slams down with incredible force, sending the entire party scattering in panic. It is the gnoll matriarch, and while everyone else is terrified, the shirtless guy just calls it dinner. Reese immediately starts barking orders, telling everyone to swarm the matriarch while Catherine finds the exit. This matriarch responds to this brilliant plan by swatting a merc like a fly. So far, so good. Haver, meanwhile, is just thrilled, telling his wolves it is gnoll-gnawing time as he charges in. He yells out a plan to distract it so someone can go for the eyes, but Sutton's still hung up on trusting Rosalie. Haver just tells him to trust his bloodlust instead, which is honestly the most reliable thing about him. Taking that as a green light, Sutton decides to just clear a path himself. He straight up catches the matriarch's fists, holding the beast in place and yelling for Rosalie to make her move. Rosalie sprints forward, blade ready, clearly hoping this insane plan actually works. She leaps into the air and lands a clean slash right across the monster's face. As the beast recoils, Haver calls Sutton a decent farm boy, earning a death glare for his trouble. Another merc seizes the opportunity, plunging a glowing spear deep into the matriarch's leg. This combined assault is finally enough to topple the massive creature, sending it crashing to the floor. With the boss down, the whole team descends on it like vultures, hacking away while Reese laughs maniacally. Sutton and Rosalie just stand back, watching their new teammates' blood-crazed celebration with concern. But Sutton notices the dying beast scratching at a window. It is sending out a call for backup. Right on schedule, a fresh wave of gnolls smashes through the stained glass. Suddenly surrounded, Reese is back to panicking, screaming at his team to get the escape route open. Catherine is trying to activate a rune on the door, but it is completely stuck, perfect timing. While she fumbles with the lock, the rest of the crew is getting overwhelmed by the gnoll reinforcements. Done with waiting, Sutton just grabs the stone doors and tries to pry them open with his bare hands. With the doors finally open, a merc yells for everyone to pile in so they can seal it shut. This whole crew scrambles through the new opening with a gnoll hot on their tail. One of the mercs turns and fires an explosive arrow right back at the entrance. It detonates with a huge blast, bringing the entire stone archway crashing down. Now they are safe but also trapped, with one guy pointing out the 100 gnoll problem outside. Catherine just casually reveals they never planned on leaving through the front door anyway. This news sends the shirtless maniac into a full-blown panic. They are trapped in a mage tower. He is absolutely losing it, screaming that this was a deliberate plan to kill them all. Even Sutton is furious, demanding to know if trapping them was the real mission. A merc tries to calm everyone down, claiming this tower was for studying food, not war machines. Sutton is not buying it for a second, wondering if they are lying or just ignorant of the forbidden spells here. Trying to smooth things over, Catherine tells Sutton they have a token for an emergency escape portal. Rosalie immediately cuts in, reminding them about the thorn bears and traps still in their way. Our boy just scoffs that thorn bears are the least of their problems, earning a jab from Rosalie. Meanwhile, the rest of the mercs are getting hyped, already dreaming of artifacts and becoming mages. He tells them to lead the way if they are so eager to die, calling the shirtless guy a chicken. Taking point himself, Sutton admits he knows it is a death trap, but he has nothing left to lose. Looking at Rosalie, he figures she is in the same boat, and she admits she just wants to retire. This sentiment resonates with him, and he smirks at the universal dream of getting out of the game. But the shirtless merc interrupts, asking Sutton why he is here when he has a farm and a girl waiting. This shirtless merc calls Sutton out, saying he is not a man with nothing to lose but one running from everything he has. Suddenly, one of the crew stops dead in his tracks, staring ahead in absolute disbelief. They have entered a massive, multi-level library, an ancient and forgotten hall of knowledge. Catherine points them onward, explaining their real target is the laboratory one floor below them. When a merc suggests looting, she shuts him down. The place is already picked clean and loaded with traps. But their archer suddenly freezes, telling everyone to be quiet because he hears something coming. Haver's wolf is also on high alert, growling at an unseen threat as he tries to figure out what is wrong. This scout is now in full-blown panic mode, screaming that they need to get out of there immediately. And it is already too late as a giant, monstrous foot steps right out of the shadows. This beast makes its grand entrance with a ground-shaking stomp, revealing its terrifying form. Rosalie's worst fear is realized. It is a thorn bear and the whole party is officially losing it. This shirtless guy starts yelling about how they are all doomed because someone blew up their only exit. Sutton tries to be the calm one, telling everyone to back away slowly as the bear sniffs them out. That plan immediately fails as the bear unleashes a massive volley of deadly crystal spikes. Sutton instantly throws up a flaming shield, just barely protecting himself and Rosalie from the attack. This rest of the team is not so lucky, with two of the mercs getting impaled by the flying thorns. More of the crew, including Grimes and Catherine, get hit as the spikes rain down on them. Even Haver's wolf gets skewered by a thorn and he screams in absolute anguish. As one guy chugs an antidote, Catherine helpfully yells that the thorns are poisonous. Great timing. Rosalie gets tagged in the arm while Sutton is busy parrying another spike with his flaming hand. This bear's armor is so thick that two energy blasts just comically bounce off its skull. One of the mercs decides to go full rodeo, leaping onto its back to deliver some medicine, and his swords immediately shatter against its hide, which is just fantastic planning all around. This bear just roars and sends the poor guy flying through the air, sending him crashing right into a bookshelf with a very undignified thud. As the team gets absolutely wrecked, someone realizes the bear is affected by its own poison, a small comfort. Haver yells at the flaming spear guy to shut up because you cannot beat things with happy thoughts. So Haver decides to do the heavy lifting himself, getting right in the monster's face to draw aggro. And the bear immediately obliges by swatting him into the air like a ragdoll. Meanwhile, the scout loads up multiple arrows, preparing for a volley shot. His volley of arrows just thunks into the bear's hide, doing basically nothing. Reese orders everyone to protect the spear wielder, sensing he is charging up something huge. While the spear guy charges up, another merc yells for the team to hold the monster still. Reese himself leaps in, driving a flaming dagger right through the beast's paw to pin it down. And the female merc joins in, stabbing it from above to keep it distracted. This combined assault finally gets a reaction as the bear roars in absolute agony, but it manages to throw her off, sending her crashing hard onto the stone floor. Seeing their opening, Reese screams for the spear wielder to unleash his attack now, and he unleashes a massive pillar of fire, completely engulfing the thorn bear in the blast. This beast is down but still breathing, so Reese tells everyone to run while he finishes it off himself. As the team bails, one merc says Reese has it covered since he is a royal knight. But Reese is not fighting it, he is telling the bear he believes in it, which is definitely not suspicious. On its back, he gloats that this is much easier without any witnesses around, and shoves his flaming hand deep into its spine, muttering that it is nothing personal. This poor beast just erupts in a massive fireball from the inside out. While back with the others, Haver's only concern is the smell of cooked meat as Rosalie struggles. She is clearly in agony, telling him this whole job just is not worth dying for, which earns her a sharp glare from the guy in the black coat. Haver decides he has had enough and is leaving, but the merc tosses a vial, saying no one's going anywhere. This guy starts handing out antidotes, explaining they cannot afford any dead weight on the team, but Sutton tries to refuse until Rosalie collapses from the poison, forcing him to beg for help. This merc just watches them with a completely cold expression, offering zero assistance whatsoever. To make things worse, Catherine announces they are officially out of the thorn bear potion. So Sutton immediately turns on her, threatening to let his wolf help if she does not do something. She just smirks back, completely unfazed and daring him to make a move. Just then, Reese comes running back, screaming that he saw tracks for at least 6 more thorn bears, a revelation that sends the mercs into a full-blown panic, demanding to know who planned this mess. This scout immediately points the finger at Reese, reminding everyone he claimed they could handle 3. And the excuses start flying. Apparently, the contractor said they were only 4 feet tall a century ago. Sutton is not moving, demanding Catherine hand over the potion she is obviously hiding, with Rosalie backing him up. Catherine tries to play hardball, but Sutton just tells her he is out of this death trap. This bald merc actually backs him up, saying they cannot waste resources on a poisoned teammate. He then marches past Catherine, telling her to stop wasting time so they can get moving. But out of nowhere, a hooded woman with white hair appears, looking absolutely terrified. The shirtless merc immediately lunges, grabbing her as dark energy swirls around them. He screams her name in total shock. Wait, that is Rosalie, as she is consumed by shadows. Sutton and the real Rosalie can only stare as this mysterious doppelganger just collapses. Catherine immediately starts panicking, screaming that it was a trap and asking if everyone's okay. This shirtless guy is in full meltdown mode, declaring Rosalie dead while she is standing right behind him. Even the bald merc is just confused, offering a very helpful whoops to the situation. Another merc puts on his best sad face, calling it unfortunate with zero conviction whatsoever. He immediately tries to rally everyone to move on, but Sutton cuts him off, demanding they check for more traps. Now the shirtless guy is blaming Sutton, screaming at him for not saving the fake Rosalie. He gets right in Sutton's face, blaming his power for not doing anything and telling him to watch it. This unfortunate guy tries to play peacemaker, but the shirtless merc tells him to shove the quest. And then the guy in the black coat just grabs the body, smiling as he says the only way out is forward. With everyone on edge, they wonder what kind of trap that was, suggesting their scanner check the path. This scanner's eyes glow green as he checks the area, and reports that he is detecting absolutely nothing. When the shirtless guy asks for assurance, the scanner just smirks, earning a worst ranger ever from Sutton. This shirtless guy then confronts the merc in black about dragging the body, who just calls it standard protocol. This merc in black is disgusted by the crew's total lack of concern for the dead doppelganger, but the shirtless guy immediately calls Sutton a hypocrite, reminding him he tried to kill Rosalie himself. Sutton clarifies that he is not sad she is gone, just worried that nobody cares * they could be next. Still, the shirtless merc keeps pushing, asking if Sutton really cares since he was getting so friendly with her. Our boy admits he does, but only because it is one less person who could out him as a mage, a truly noble reason. He then launches into a whole speech about how killing without purpose eventually drives you insane. This merc in black cuts him off, ominously stating their real problem is much bigger than just thorn bears. So the shirtless guy tells Sutton to channel his feelings into action, but Sutton points out they have no proof of who is behind this. This shirtless maniac reveals his grand theory. They were brought here as monster bait and want Sutton to just kill everyone on a hunch. Sutton quickly reminds him of their deal, basically holding the runner hostage to keep him in line. Meanwhile, the rest of the mercs are getting organized, announcing they are close to the portal and need to pick up the pace. This shirtless guy suggests putting himself and Sutton at the front of the formation to move faster, but the bald merc shuts that down with a deeply unsettling smile, insisting Sutton is needed for the rear guard. This immediately raises red flags for the shirtless dude, who warns Sutton they are being split up on purpose. As the group moves forward, he keeps a very suspicious eye on the other mercs. Catherine then sidles up to him, asking if he is enjoying the view and making a snide comment about him liking the other girl. Sutton turns to a big, quiet merc, asking if she is always this charming, and gets a simple grunt in response. He tries to pry for information, asking the big guy about the team's history with Reese. But the guy just tells him to shut up, right as a mysterious clicking sound echoes through the hall. And in a flash, a blade of light slices clean through the big guy's neck, with Sutton barely dodging the fatal blow. This big guy's head hits the floor with a solid thud, taken out by a completely unseen blade. Sutton can only stare in shock, realizing that attack was absolutely meant for him. Immediately, another merc accuses Sutton of setting the guy up, screaming that he did it on purpose. But Reese plays it cool, brushing off the death as a simple trap and telling everyone to press on what a leader. This shirtless merc just grins maniacally at Sutton, asking him how it feels to be the target. Without missing a beat, Reese warns Grimes and the archer that thorn bears are on their way. This archer confirms it, panicking that they only have 2 minutes before 6 of them show up. Reese calmly corrects him. It is actually *8 bears, which is so much more reassuring. With that delightful news, the entire crew starts sprinting for their lives down the corridor. This shirtless guy corners Reese, accusing him of knowing about the trap, but Reese just claims it was a hunch. They finally reach their destination, a long, ominous hall with a single doorway at the end. One merc is already thinking about loot, but Catherine directs them to find the client's item first. Of course, their path is blocked by a pack of snarling, wolf-like beasts with glowing eyes. As the mercs panic, one of them points out a target, insisting they cannot leave without the goods. Sutton immediately figures out their plan. He and the others are about to become monster bait. And right on cue, Catherine yells for her group to go, leaving the others to fend for themselves. This leader of the bait squad orders Catherine to open the portal while they hold off the beasts. Watching them flee, Sutton just deadpans that he totally saw this betrayal coming. This shirtless guy is not having it, screaming that he refuses to be left behind as he charges forward. His escape is cut short as a wall of magic blades erupts from the ground, blocking his path completely. This bait squad's leader decides to go rogue, planning to torch everyone and take the prize himself. But his fire magic just fizzles out in his hand, leaving him completely stunned. Turns out someone activated a device that seems to be nullifying their powers. And at the far end of the hall, Catherine yells for her team to get through the now open portal. This cowboy merc stares at his powerless hands, realizing the horrifying truth of their situation. Another merc's arrows just comically bounce off a monster's head, doing absolutely nothing. He panics, screaming that his mana is gone while the traders make a run for it. It dawns on them that this is a trap specifically targeting them, leaving only the mages with power. As the shirtless guy fights for his life, one of his own teammates takes aim at his back and sinks an arrow right between his shoulder blades with a sickening thud. He collapses to the ground, wounded and surrounded by the snarling beasts. This traders finally drop the act, with the bald merc saying it is just orders to eliminate competition. He then twists the knife, threatening to pay a visit to Sutton Farm next. Sutton's eyes go wide in pure shock and rage at the mention of his home. This bald merc gloats that this was the plan all along, bringing them as disposable pawns for a two-part job. In a desperate move, the cowboy merc hurls his daggers at the traders, but the bald merc just casually parries the attack without even breaking a sweat. With a final taunt, he wishes them luck with the bears and vanishes into the portal. Left behind, the cowboy realizes the beasts are now targeting Ellie, forcing Sutton to get ready for a brutal fight. We get a quick flashback to a peaceful day on the farm, with a woman remarking on Sutton's kindness to animals. Back on the farm, a man named Thomas fondly compares Sutton to a stubborn but good-hearted bull, while a kid named Ben is locked in a desperate battle with a demonic-looking rooster over some feed. A woman named Ellie stares out the window, consumed with worry over whether Sutton will ever return. Thomas tries to comfort her, explaining that Sutton just gets restless and needs to get out sometimes. She asks if she looks upset, and he just bluntly tells her she looks worried sick. So he gives her the day off, insisting he and Ben can handle all the farm's deliveries. Thomas then approaches the bull, revealing he knows its secret weakness, a trick Sutton taught him. That secret weakness is apparently a giant, slobbery lick to the face, which is both gross and adorable. With the animals sorted, he rides off on a wagon to make deliveries, leaving Ben in charge. Inside, Ellie is still lost in thought, unable to shake the feeling that something is wrong, when a sudden, sharp knock at the door breaks the silence, making her jump. Her face immediately lights up with hope as she calls out Sutton's name, thinking he is home. In her excitement, she slams the pitcher down on the table, her relief almost overwhelming. But when she opens the door, she is met not by Sutton but by the dark silhouettes of strangers. A group of adventurers greets her with a smarmy, not quite lady, and the bad vibes are immediate. She instantly gets defensive, demanding to know where Sutton and Thomas are. This leader just smiles, cutting her off to say he knows who she is and that Sutton is not there. He then spins a story about how Sutton invited them over to celebrate with her world-famous cheese. When she asks why Sutton is not with them, one of them gives a flimsy excuse about him taking a shortcut. Ellie notices they are missing a member, and they just casually mention an unfortunate accident with a chilling smirk. Ellie's suspicion finally boils over, demanding to know how they are so sure Sutton is even okay. This leader just smiles, inviting his crew inside to wait and make sure Sutton gets his cut. Yeah, right. She reluctantly agrees, but her gut is screaming that she needs to keep these guys away from Ben inside. She apologizes for not having enough chairs, trying to keep up appearances during a home invasion. While offering them tea, her eyes dart to the window, desperately hoping to see Thomas returning. She then offers them her famous cheese, a classic "please do not murder me" hospitality gesture. One of the mercs tells her not to rush, smugly adding they are still waiting for one more person. Her mind races, realizing Thomas has only been gone for an hour and will not be back anytime soon. Trying to fish for information, she casually asks what kind of adventure they were on. This cowboy merc almost starts talking, but his leader quickly and quietly shuts him down. Instead, Catherine pulls out a box, calling it a trinket and telling Ellie she can take a look. Ellie has no idea what it is, her confusion and fear growing with every passing second. With a chilling smile, Catherine reveals the box holds everything needed to become a mage. Ellie immediately denies any interest in magic, but her denial only seems to disappoint Catherine. This merc then pushes harder, asking if she knows about any other kinds of magic. Before she can even answer, a sharp knock at the door interrupts the tense interrogation. And in walks a huge, intimidating guy in a black coat, calling out Ellie's name like he owns the place. This others identify him as Jonas, confirming this was a planned rendezvous from the start. One of the goons grins that the gang's all here, and Ellie drops her cup in pure terror. Jonas immediately asks Catherine for the artifact, and she hands over the box, their hostile takeover now complete. Ellie finally connects the dots, realizing this was a setup and demanding to know where Sutton is. But this new creep Jonas tells her to forget Sutton and focus on the handsome town leader instead. She is having absolutely none of it, smacking his hand away with a furious warning. Grabbing a knife, she tries to take him hostage, but he just dares her to try something. This whole crew finds it hilarious, with Jonas patronizingly calling her feisty for the attempt. Then he drops the nice guy act, his eyes glowing as he brings up poor Ben to threaten her. And just like that, the kid is magically yanked into the room, screaming for Ellie. She panics as the goons move in to restrain her, her desperate plan totally collapsing. This cowboy hat merc gets his cheap shot in, punching her while saying he has been waiting to do that. She hits the floor hard, completely overpowered and at their mercy now. Jonas looms over her, finally getting down to business and asking what he wants with her. He gets right in her personal space, revealing he has come for her power. Her response is to spit right in his face, denying she knows anything about it. Unfazed, Jonas just wipes it off, his eyes glowing as he promises this will not hurt much. He claims he can draw the beast out of her while raising a hand to strike, but her own eyes flash a brilliant green as she snarls for him to let Ben go, revealing her power. At that exact moment, Thomas returns with the bull, asking what the hell is going on here. Ben, still floating in his magic prison, points out the ugly man trying to take his sister. Thomas draws his sword, standing beside the bull and declaring they will have to go through them first, and also through the demonic rooster because the entire farm has officially pulled up. Thomas and the farm animal Avengers square off against the home invaders. It is a real barnyard brawl. This mercs just burst out laughing, completely unimpressed by the rooster and bull combo. Jonas cracks his knuckles with a smug grin, thinking this whole situation is just going to be interesting. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, the shirtless guy is fighting for his life against a horde of beasts. Sutton's cowboy ally is also going berserk, dual-wielding daggers against the snarling monsters. He sends one of the creatures flying with a brutal, desperate strike. This shirtless guy points out they are still outnumbered 6-1 and begs for some magic. But the cowboy just yells back that magic is useless here, his only thought on getting back to Ellie. His ally screams that they have to find whatever is blocking their powers or they are dead. Leaping over the pack, the cowboy tells him to get up and fight instead of complaining. He lands right on a beast's back, stabbing it wildly as it thrashes around. Overwhelmed, he growls that this is taking too long and he absolutely hates thorn bears. With a dagger in his teeth, he looks absolutely unhinged, whatever it takes to win. Watching him fight, the shirtless guy swears vengeance on the traitors if they harm Ellie. A sudden blast sends the cowboy flying into a wall, making his partner think it is all over, and things get worse as the thorn bears start launching a volley of massive spikes. This shirtless guy accepts his fate, about to die in a mage tower with a madman. But the cowboy, down but not out, catches one of the deadly projectiles midair. Now armed with a giant thorn, he leaps back into the fight, absolutely furious. Just then, a beast steps on a glowing tile, revealing what looks like a puzzle piece on the floor. This shirtless guy points out the glowing tiles, yelling at his Blades for Brains partner to focus. He explains they need to activate 3 of the gold stones to trigger whatever this trap is. Sutton's ally is a little busy though, pinning a monster's foot to the ground with a flaming dagger. His wolf companion then darts forward, moving to help clear a path for them. With the wolf drawing aggro, the cowboy leaps over the pack for a diving attack. He lands a brutal strike right on the biggest beast's skull, a direct hit. After dodging another swipe, he takes a quick head count and sees only one major threat left, which is, of course, the one that immediately grabs him and lifts him off his feet. His partner starts sprinting for another tile, complaining he has to do everything himself. A beast immediately lunges to cut him off because this day just keeps getting better. He manages to swerve out of the way, still desperately trying to reach the glowing square. Then his wolf gives him a helpful assist by dragging him by the leg right onto the target. He slams his hand down, activating the final tile just in the nick of time. Now free from the monster's grip, the cowboy finds himself surrounded yet again. Suddenly, massive chains shoot out from the floor, all converging on a block in the ceiling. This cowboy just smirks, recognizing this as another one of the tower's lovely little puzzles. With the block's weak point now glowing, he hurls a dagger straight at the ceiling. It hits dead center, triggering a fiery explosion that shatters the mechanism. He is sent flying as the entire stone structure begins to crumble and fall apart, and the whole thing comes crashing down, crushing the remaining monsters under tons of rock. And just like that, the cowboy is back, his eyes glowing with some serious fiery intent. He unleashes a massive wave of fire, ready to absolutely incinerate whatever's next. Which turns out to be a giant, multi-headed monster, because of course it is. With his sword ablaze, he calmly promises to kill every last one of them. He immediately clashes with the beast, meeting its fangs with a wall of pure fire. After that first strike, he is already asking who is next while the apocalypse counter happily ticks up. His shirtless partner is justifiably freaking out, realizing Sutton is no ordinary mage. Turns out our boy Sutton is the Eternal Flame, which is a * way cooler title than Cowboy. He hurls a concentrated fireball right at one of the beast's heads, no hesitation. This resulting explosion is absolutely massive, blasting the monster's face apart. Landing on its back, he tells the giant beast that running is not an option. Then he charges up a final massive fire orb ready to end this whole thing. It detonates in a huge explosion, and hey look, another doom point for the collection. With the fight over, Sutton stands over his unconscious ally, telling him he will not hurt him. His wolf, however, gives the guy a big ol' lick to the face, a classic is he food. Check. Sutton checks his pulse, grimly noting the guy is breathing but definitely not going to make it. He then casually considers a mercy kill to make his life easier, which is a choice. But thinking of Ellie, he decides to let his wolf say its goodbyes instead. He turns to leave only to find the exit has been conveniently destroyed by the thorn bears. Meanwhile, the wolf just whimpers over the dying guy, looking genuinely concerned for him. Sutton's a little confused, thinking his wolf just set off another explosive trap, but instead his companion is just engulfing the unconscious guy in a shadow vortex. And just like that, the shirtless guy is spat back out, totally unharmed and very confused. A shadowy wolf form lunges at him before vanishing, sending him into a full-blown panic. This shirtless guy is furious about losing his loyal wolf, while Sutton just notes he is alive. His new partner is freaking out, demanding to know how Sutton is totally fine amid the inferno. With his power flaring, Sutton asks for one good reason not to just incinerate him on the spot. This threat triggers a memory of his childhood dream to be a knight, a dream now turning into a nightmare. Coming back to his senses, Sutton's eyes are still glowing as he asks what just happened. His mind flashes back to his youth, watching his father and other soldiers in a sepia-toned memory. He recalls seeing brave men get broken by war, turning into something they were never meant to be. So back in the present, Sutton offers a deal. He will get them out if his identity stays secret. This guy immediately agrees, promising total silence and to fake his own death if needed. With the deal struck, Sutton unleashes a massive explosion, blasting a hole straight through the ceiling. Standing in the rubble, he vows that when he finds those traitors, he will not need any help. His new ally asks if he is ready to go, and Sutton confirms he is as ready as he will ever be. Then he grabs his partner and launches them skyward like a human rocket, screaming Ellie's name. While ascending, the guy asks about the healing, and Sutton reveals his wolves were rare spirit twins. It was a spiritual sacrifice where a bonded animal gives its life to save its master. He then explains that one wolf can return, but the other, Seek, is gone for good. His new partner points out the rubble and gnolls blocking their path, which is a minor inconvenience. But Sutton just scoffs, asking if gnolls are really a problem for the Eternal Flame. He then unleashes a massive explosion that completely obliterates the entire hallway, problem solved. Landing in the aftermath, his ally just calls him out for being terrible at pretending to be normal. While flying through the forest, the shirtless guy suddenly stops, saying he smells something. He points out a woman nearby, one of the traitors, who seems to be all alone. Sutton drops him, ordering him to secure the farm while he handles this loose end. In response, the guy lets out a massive howl, ready to show off why he is the Wolf King. This sound echoes for miles, sending a huge flock of birds scattering into the sky. With fangs showing, he clarifies that is the sound of thousands asterisk of wolves, not just 100. Sutton seems impressed enough, telling the Wolf King he is leaving the farm to him. Elsewhere, the blonde trader from before is struggling to open a mysterious box she stole. She is getting desperate, needing to open it before her boss realizes she gave him a decoy. A sudden presence makes her look up and she spots Sutton's silhouette in the distance, and then he is right behind her with a casual boo and a blade to her throat. She is absolutely horrified, stammering that she thought he was dead. He sarcastically apologizes for the scare, noting that betrayal is tiring work and he is on a schedule. Panicked, she immediately offers him anything and everything if he will just spare her. Sutton grabs her, demanding to know who hired her and what they want with Ellie. She spills that her client is someone incredibly powerful just like him. Sutton is not impressed with her dodging the question, keeping his blade right at her throat. Desperate, she offers him the box, claiming it holds the secret to becoming a mage. This name, Jonas, immediately gets his attention and his expression turns absolutely lethal. He immediately demands to know where Ellie is, but the traitor just plays dumb. Sutton's not having any of it, getting right in her face with a glowing red eye of pure rage. He calmly informs her that lying is pointless since her entire party is about to be wiped out. She tries to threaten him back, but Sutton reminds her she is the one in a losing position here. So she pulls out a glowing crystal, deciding a surprise attack is her best and only option. While powering up, she asks why he is so obsessed with Ellie, as if that is the real problem. He just casually bats her wind blade attack aside like it is absolutely nothing. Turns out he recognized the sound of her wind blades, even calling her by name, Rosalie. He then gives a chilling speech about how he was sad she died because she was improving. Then the fire comes out as he tells her it is time to face the consequences of her choices. Sutton then lectures her on the difference between her little artifact and an asterisk real mage's power. With a terrifying smirk, he asks if she has ever met one because he certainly has. He agrees that mages rule the world, calling them more dangerous than an army of thorn bears. And as he juggles a few fireballs, he casually mentions he has killed every single one he has met. Her face says it all, pure, unadulterated terror as she finally understands the stakes. A massive explosion lights up the entire forest, which is a pretty clear no to her plea. And just like that, the traitor is completely incinerated, another problem solved by overwhelming firepower. With the traitor dealt with, Sutton stands over her ashes as the Wolf King's pack finally arrives. He gives the wolves a simple order to eat up, waste not, want not, I guess. Meanwhile, the Wolf King leads his massive pack on a high-speed charge toward the farm. He arrives ready for a huge fight, expecting his allies to be waiting for the signal. Instead, he finds a very angry rooster pecking a corpse, not exactly the epic battle he pictured. Looking around, he sees a flaming bull clashing with some other fighters on the property. A swordsman in a vest is locked in a fierce duel with a woman in a long coat. She leaps in for a strike, but he manages to parry her blade just in time. But she is faster, disarming him with a clean slash that sends his sword flying away. This Wolf King casually greets the swordsman, who is now on his knees trying to catch his breath. This guy politely asks for a timeout to recover if the Wolf King is here for a fight. Taking in the flaming bull and killer rooster, the Wolf King just wonders what kind of farm this is. This swordswoman spots him and is completely stunned, stammering that he is supposed to be dead. He just smirks back, asking if she is asterisk alive, which is a fair question at this point. From the ground, the swordsman just groans about how persistent this guy is. Surrounded by his wolves, the Wolf King gets down to business and demands payment for the mission. This swordswoman absolutely refuses, telling him he will get it over her dead body. And just like that, she is on the ground, making the Wolf King remark that his help was not needed. This swordsman gets up, asking if the Wolf King is here to kill him, but gets a surprising not today. Instead, the Wolf King asks for help hunting a necromancer, which definitely gets the guy's attention. This Wolf King suddenly remembers a minor detail. He has 1,000 very hungry wolves to feed. Meanwhile, Sutton makes his grand entrance at the farm with a casual wave of fiery destruction. He crashes the party so fast the locals can only scream as he demands to know where Ellie is. Pinning the swordsman, he learns the town leader, a necromancer, dragged her into the woods. Sutton is absolutely livid, asking why this guy did not just, follow them. This swordsman points out he is a little busy being injured, which is a fair excuse, I guess. Turning to another fighter, Sutton asks if he needs help, his sword still very much on fire. But the Wolf King is already here, casually telling Sutton he has got this and is ready to bounce. As he leaves, he mutters freaks while his wolves just sniff the unconscious swordsman priorities. Deep in the woods, Sutton finds his target and prepares a fiery little welcome gift. He then unleashes a massive fire blade that carves a path straight through the forest. In a flash, he is on the necromancer, his flaming sword ready for a very pointed conversation. Grabbing the guy by the collar, he gets straight to the point. Where is Ellie? This necromancer does not answer fast enough, so Sutton starts the beatdown with a solid right hook. A shadowy substance spews from the guy's mouth as the punch connects. That cannot be good. Sutton just keeps hammering him, each blow punctuated by the same single-minded question. He gets right in the guy's face, patience completely gone, demanding answers one last time. When that fails, he just winds up for a haymaker that sends the necromancer flying. This poor guy gets launched into the stratosphere, probably rethinking his career choices, and he comes crashing back down to earth with an impact that shakes the whole forest. This necromancer, now a crumpled mess on the ground, finally spills that he took Ellie and a boy. With his hand glowing red, Sutton demands their location, only to learn they split up in the forest. Suddenly, the tough necromancer act is gone, replaced by a blubbering mess begging for mercy. Our boy Sutton, however, is fresh out of sympathy, telling him he has made his bed, and then he follows through with a massive fire blast, adding a casual "now die in it." Meanwhile, a new villain with glasses has Ellie captive, casually asking if he should kill the floating kid now or later. This kid, Ben, is apparently not impressed by the whole imminent death thing and just blows a raspberry. This villain just smirks, deciding it is the perfect time to test out a brand new spell on the boy. From his purple bubble, Ben starts roasting the guy's taste in books and his life choices, zero fear. Getting annoyed, the villain flips him upside down, wondering why he used the version of the spell that lets him talk. This does not stop Ben, who just dares the villain to get on with it already. This kid is something else. When asked if he is scared, Ben proudly declares he is not because he drinks his milk. Flawless kid logic. To prove his point, he then chomps right down on the villain's finger as soon as it is in range. This villain recoils in genuine shock, calling him a little stinker. The master plan is going great, clearly. Okay, playtime's over and the villain blasts Ben with a concentrated beam of purple energy. A massive spectral form of Ellie materializes, watching in absolute horror as Ben is attacked. Her ghostly form lunges forward, desperately screaming Ben's name as she tries to reach him. This new development just seems to intrigue the villain, who watches as a now solid Ellie charges him with a dagger. As her dagger gets inches from his face, he calmly tells her to get away from the boy. He effortlessly catches her wrist, chiding her that it is not polite to interrupt a murder. What a gentleman. This villain smugly points out that her little dagger is completely useless against him. Ellie agrees, but then asks if he knows what is better than one dagger. And the answer is 2 daggers as she sinks another one right into his chest. He stumbles back in shock, clutching the wound as his glasses glow with rage. But instead of dying, the guy just starts laughing like a complete maniac. Pulling the blade out, he laments that they could have been a great team, a weird thing to say mid-stabbing. His chest wound magically seals itself with purple energy as he decides she has to die too. With that, he lunges forward to deliver a finishing blow. A quick trip sends Ellie tumbling to the ground, completely off balance. Towering over her, he mocks her for being pathetic, claiming magic cannot change that. From the ground, he corrects her, saying that actually magic changes everything. Suddenly, purple tendrils erupt from the earth, wrapping around Ellie's ankles. They hoist her upside down as he asks how it feels to be the one being hunted. Grabbing her by the face, he starts whatever twisted spell he has planned. Her eyes glow purple as she screams, clearly being subjected to some kind of mental assault. In a vision, a starving woman begs a shadowy mage for a piece of bread in a burning town. This mage, unimpressed, just says they will have to do things the hard way. Then he tosses the bread on the ground, sarcastically offering her a bite. Desperate, the woman drops to her knees to grab the food from the dirt. She clutches the bread, her face a mask of pure desperation and humiliation. This swordsman in the vision pulls back the bread, sneering that he was just kidding. He then holds the loaf on his sword, taunting the starving woman in the burning city. But suddenly, the swordsman himself starts screaming, clutching his head in absolute agony. Back in reality, the villain is still forcing this twisted memory directly into Ellie's mind. At that exact moment, Sutton arrives, announcing he has already killed twice to get here. With a glowing eye, he vows he'd kill 1,000,000 more to get her back. Our boy is not messing around. He then screams Ellie's name, finally spotting her trapped in the villain's spell. In a flash of fiery speed, Sutton launches himself right at the kidnapper. This villain barely has time to register the incoming threat before it is too late. A flaming kick slams right into his side, sending him flying across the clearing. Catching Ellie as she falls, Sutton turns to the villain with a chilling question about his last moments. He stands over the downed necromancer, dagger ready, repeating the threat for good measure. But the villain just smirks, slamming a hand to the ground to cast a spell of his own. Purple skeletons erupt from the earth as he turns the question right back at Sutton. Surrounded by his undead army, he mocks Sutton for being a mere royal knight. Big mistake, dude. Sutton's eye glows with pure hatred as he mutters about how much he despises necromancers. He reveals he thought he'd wiped them all out, but worries using magic will expose his identity to Ellie. Completely unaware of who he is facing, the villain smugly asks if his blades can even cut bone. A skeleton lunges, and its arm is immediately sliced clean off by Sutton's blade. He then effortlessly parries another attack, proving he does not need magic to handle these boneheads. Our boy just scoffs at the Bone Brigade, boasting he has killed far worse than them. This villain immediately grabs another hostage with his creepy purple tendrils. A new guy just entered the chat. Bony hands start crushing the new guy, who immediately starts screaming in agony. And look who shows up, the swordsman from the farm, screaming for the villain to release him. With a furious cry, he lunges in, slashing his blade right across the villain's face. His blade makes contact, shattering the guy's glasses, but the wound just sizzles with dark magic. Completely unimpressed, the villain just smirks, asking if that is really all he has got. Meanwhile, the hostage, whose name is apparently Cheon, is still getting the life squeezed out of him. Suddenly, the swordsman is ambushed by more goons, forced into a whirlwind of defensive slashes. This necromancer just watches this circus, hand glowing as he dismisses the swordsman as pathetic. Then he follows up with a massive blast of purple energy, sending the swordsman reeling. That blast sends the swordsman flying backwards, slamming him hard against a tree. With the swordsman out of the way, the villain makes a beeline straight for Ellie. In an instant, he traps her inside a cage of glowing bone spikes erupting from the earth. He casually warns her that one wrong breath will be her last. What a charming guy. Just then, the swordsman launches a surprise attack, a glowing ball of fire magic. For the first time, the villain actually looks surprised, wondering what this new power is. But the swordsman just smirks, confirming he knows exactly what this power is. He then drops the big reveal. He is a Sun Knight, which definitely sounds like a big deal, and that name completely shatters the villain's composure, leaving him looking genuinely furious. Staring in disbelief, Ellie finally puts the pieces together about the swordsman, John. This villain smirks, confirming he is a mage while Ellie is still stuck in that bone trap. And apparently, John's been waiting this whole time for Sutton to finally show his real power. With a casual finger gun, he fires a blast, declaring only dead men know Sutton's name. Getting blasted in the face just makes the villain grin, calling the attack delicious. Okay, weirdo. But the joke's on John because this guy is already undead, phasing a skeleton right out of his body. Without a moment's hesitation, the purple skeleton leaps through the trees, aiming for John. John gets a bony foot to the chest, admitting he has never seen a move like that before. In a truly bizarre move, the skeleton then rips off its own head and hurls it at the villain. He gets absolutely clocked by the flying skull, completely caught off guard by the friendly fire. Unfazed, the villain just summons a fresh skeleton, calling it over like a lost puppy. That new skeleton immediately dissolves into purple energy and gets absorbed right into his body. Looking totally revitalized, the villain cracks a smile, feeling much better after his bone snack. Done with the games, John charges in with a massive fireball, screaming that the villain is going to die. His attack hits dead on, creating a massive fiery explosion that swallows the villain whole. Yet he just stands there in the inferno, completely unharmed, mocking John for who Ellie chose. From her cage, Ellie can only watch in pure terror, completely powerless to help. Holding up a glowing purple crystal, the villain claims he knows John's secret, that they are the same. Furious, John just tells him to shut up, already preparing another massive fire attack. But the villain says it is useless because knowing John's identity lets him pull off a brand new trick. A massive purple magic circle erupts from the ground, trapping John completely. Forced to his knees by the spell, John can only listen as Ellie screams his name in terror. This villain gloats that he has just bound John's mana, asking how it feels to be powerless. Recognizing the spell as a high-level mage trap, John knows unsealing it is slow and dangerous. But with no time to spare, he decides to just force it, unleashing a torrent of his own fire. In response, the villain just reaches out, preparing to unleash another nasty purple spell. Suddenly, a system window pops up, Doom Point +1, as a beam of energy slams into John. This Doom points just keep racking up, quickly hitting 81 out of 100 and flashing a warning. Engulfed in his own power, John decides screw it, he'd end the world for her if he has to. Then a horrifying vision shows the woman from before, begging John to stop as he hurts the swordsman. That swordsman is screaming on the ground while she pleads with Johnny not to kill them. A monstrous, fiery version of John just looms over them as his doom points keep climbing. Back in the present, the spell finally forces John to his knees, much to the villain's delight. As John shields Ellie, the villain names his power, the Eternal Flame. Ellie stares in total shock, finally understanding what kind of power he has been hiding. She shoves him away, trying to create distance as he calls out her name in confusion. This villain is just loving it, mocking John for his terrible farmer disguise. He then pulls out a glowing red crystal, its purpose still a complete mystery. With the crystal in hand, he taunts John, calling him pathetic for only having one fireball spell. John just grits his teeth, clutching his chest as the villain's words hit their mark. With the red crystal in hand, the villain gloats that it'll stop John's heart. Is not that great, Ellie? John's completely trapped, knowing he cannot access his mana without destroying everything in sight. He turns to Ellie, desperately asking if she actually believes the villain's twisted story about him. This villain chimes in that of course it is true, smugly reminding her she let a monster into her home. And to prove his point, the hostage Jaejon starts convulsing in agony, screaming for help. He then drops the kid, telling John not to worry since the boy is out cold and still clueless. With a flick of his wrist, the necromancer unleashes another wave of dark magic at both of them. A throne made of skulls erupts from the ground as he casually mentions that last attack did not even scratch him. Taking a seat on his new skull throne, he claims he is not the one destroying lives. The audacity is just off the charts. While Ellie desperately tries to wake the boy, now calling him Ben, our villain just watches from his throne. He is just thinking about how different he is from them, how they are not like him at all. That seems to be the last straw for John, who starts getting up, absolutely seething with rage. Screaming that he has had enough, John charges full speed at the necromancer on his throne. Their blades meet with a loud clang, sending sparks flying as the two finally clash directly. John is completely stunned by the impact, wondering if this guy is literally made of steel. This villain reveals his trick. He has reinforced his bones with the mana of every victim he has ever killed. Then he blasts John away with a massive wave of energy, saying he cannot wait to take his pure mana next. As John slams into a tree, the villain gives a little backstory about finding necromancy way more fun than regular magic. He then casually pulls two corpses out of a bag, admitting that yeah, it is a dirty business. Using his spellbook, he reanimates the bodies, bragging that his magic is way better than anything from the Mage Tower. These two corpses get mashed together by dark magic, screaming the whole time, lovely. Their bodies twist into a massive stone golem, which now towers over the entire clearing. He then asks someone named Rosalie if she agrees with his masterpiece, a name drop out of nowhere. And it turns out Rosalie is the reanimated woman who greets John like some kind of horrifying old acquaintance. Our necromancer offers John a chance to get reacquainted with his friends, a reunion nobody asked for. That golem immediately swings a giant stone arm down, aiming to flatten John completely. He leaps back just in time as the blow shatters the ground and snaps trees in half. Even the shockwave is enough to send him flying backwards through the air. This monster's voice, Rosalie's, asks why he let them kill John, claiming they were friends. John just screams no, refusing to listen and charging right back at the creature. Its other arm transforms into a scythe, swinging down as the voice calls him a killer. This resulting explosion rocks the forest, leaving Ellie to scream his name in terror. Seizing the moment, the villain asks Ellie if she really cares about the guy who deceived her. Ellie is just frozen in shock, completely unable to answer his manipulative question. He then tries to recruit her, claiming he wants her asterisk, not just her power, sue your buddy. This guy gets way too close, calling her a goddess and laying the creepy flattery on thick. Crying, Ellie actually seems to agree with him, whispering that he is right. But then she asks if he knows why they call her a witch, her eye flaring with green energy. It is because she curses people and she unleashes a massive blast of that power right in his face. He is hit dead on, realizing he is bound by her magic for breaking the #1 rule, never eat a witch's salt. Ellie's curse hits full force, making the villain scream in agony about cheese of all things. His face literally starts crumbling away while he rambles about how the town is his now. In his final moments, he is still screaming that he is the strongest man in the world for beating John. With a chilling smile, Ellie explains her witchy trick. She turned his own mana into poison. His last words are a desperate, creepy "I love you" to Ellie as he completely dissolves. Yikes. She lands with a cold goodbye, admitting she always hated him before stomping his skull to dust. Meanwhile, John is still locked in combat with that golem, apologizing to Rosalie as he fights. Suddenly, the golem just explodes in a flash of that same green light, leaving John completely baffled. He's just left standing there as the green energy and golem chunks rain down all around him. And just like that, he feels his power return, his hand immediately igniting with fire. Looking up, he sees Ellie falling from the sky and calls her a monster. Wait, what is his problem? Using his fire, he rockets towards her, demanding to know what she did, and of course a doom point pops up. He manages to catch her midair, finding her completely unconscious in his arms. Holding her close, he looks totally lost, asking himself what he has just done. At that moment, the kid Ben finally starts to stir, blinking awake. He sits up and sees the scene, immediately calling out Ellie's name in concern. This kid rushes over, frantically asking John if she is okay. Now in tears, he is shaking her gently, begging her to wake up. John just looks on, completely devastated, wondering if all of this is his fault. Trying to stay calm, he promises Ben she will be okay and tells him to run get Thomas from the farm. Sniffling, Ben gives a brave little salute, promising John he will go get Thomas. This kid then bolts through the dark forest, leaving John alone with an unconscious Ellie. Overwhelmed with grief, John just smashes his fist into the ground, screaming her name. He stares at his hands, lamenting that he is not a healer and can only destroy things. And to make matters worse, he just killed the only healer for miles around, so that is just fantastic. Holding her tight, he spirals into a full-blown existential crisis about being a walking disaster magnet. He'd literally give his soul to save her, so why is he so completely useless right now? Forcing himself to focus, he desperately tries to think of any possible way to fix this mess. He can feel her mana leaking out, but it is corrosive, poisoning her from the inside out. Carrying her through the woods, he realizes she is a rare non-class holder who can somehow use mana. He gets a wild idea to try and draw the poison out, like reversing one of his own explosions. But this is incredibly delicate work, and one wrong move could get them both killed instantly. Placing his fiery hand over her, he pleads for just one more miracle to save her life. Meanwhile, Ben is booking it across the fields, finally reaching the farmhouse in the distance. Inside, Thomas is just relaxing at the table, completely unaware of the chaos about to hit his door. Ben slams the door open, screaming Thomas's name in a total panic. Thomas immediately jumps to his feet, startled and asking the kid if he is all right. This boy just crashes right into him, clearly relieved to have finally found him. But Thomas cuts right to the chase, grabbing Ben and demanding to know where Ellie is. With tears streaming down his face, Ben is about to deliver some very, very bad news. Ben finally gets the words out, telling Thomas that John sent him, but he thinks Ellie is already dead. That news just hits Thomas like a physical blow, sending him crashing to the floor. Ben tries to pull him up, insisting they have to help, but Thomas just mutters that he'd slow them down. But what really sinks in for Thomas is that John, the guy who never asks for help, sent the kid. A sudden shift in his demeanor gives way to a plan, and he tells Ben he knows what to do. His brilliant strategy is to wait, arguing John's a smart cookie who works better alone. This kid, understandably, is not totally sold on the let us just sit here approach. Taking a seat, Thomas lays on the false confidence thick, promising Ellie will walk through that door any minute. Meanwhile, the actual situation in the woods is a *bit more dire, with John trying to heal Ellie. He's performing the most delicate reverse explosion surgery ever, pouring his fire into her to draw out the poison. All the while, she is completely unconscious, caught in the middle of this magical balancing act. Her body is just limp as the two opposing forces of magic rage around her. For a moment, the chaos seems to fade, leaving her looking strangely serene. But even in her unconscious state, a single tear traces a path down her cheek, and then we are in a completely different scene with Ellie staring up at the swordsman from the vision. She starts to collapse and he immediately moves to catch her in his arms. Kneeling with her, he gently promises that he is going to get her home safely. He then scoops her up and carries her away through the dark woods. This scene then cuts to the familiar farmhouse, but now it is bright daylight. And inside, the swordsman is just casually cooking some eggs. What is even happening? Okay, we are in a flashback with someone cooking up some very dramatic eggs, and it is Thomas asking John if he has finally learned his lesson about taking on strange missions. John is not having it, pointing out that Ellie and Ben were almost killed. He gets serious, reminding Thomas that he could have died too, But Thomas just waves it off, saying John knew exactly what he was signing up for. Our boy gets all deep, saying you can retire from the battle. But the war is what lives inside you. Okay, settle down, poet. Thomas actually gives him some props, thanking him for holding things down. Then he offers some friendly advice, maybe do not bury the bodies in the vegetable garden next time. Getting back to business, Thomas asks if John is ready to return to the capital. John's answer is a hard no, insisting he can never go back to that life. He tells Thomas to just report that the eternal flame is dead, so that is what they called him. This memory fades, and Thomas's voice asks what he is going to tell Ellie when she wakes up. Back in the present, John looks down at her and says he will tell her the truth. Then we cut to a completely different scene, a terrified woman with a sword in a burning town. From the shadows, a crossbow trigger is pulled with a sharp click. A bolt zips right past her head, a warning shot that was way too close. Her attacker, a masked man with a nasty grin, promises the next one will hit its mark. He scoffs at her, saying she cannot even handle a sword, let alone kill anyone with it. As he slowly advances, she stumbles backward and falls to the ground, completely helpless. He then offers the terrified woman a piece of bread, a real gentleman's move in a burning village. As she reaches for it, he stomps his boot down just to be a complete and total jerk. She picks up the bread anyway, a single tear betraying her absolute desperation. But he immediately slashes it out of her hand, laughing that he was only kidding. This guy then complains that all this witch hunting has made him hungry, so that is his deal. With nothing left, the woman just kneels in the dirt, completely defeated. He skewers the bread on his own sword, telling her it is time to run for her life. Offering a head start, he has no idea she's got a little green surprise waiting for him. This hunter suddenly freezes, seeing her hand crackling with that very familiar witchy energy. And it is a full-on power-up as she unleashes a torrent of green magic right at him. He immediately starts screaming as the curse takes hold, his body contorting in pain. That green energy just completely consumes him in a violent explosion of light. This whole memory is framed by a close-up of Ellie's glowing green eye. And back in the present, she jolts awake screaming with John right there by her bed. She has clearly just survived a nightmare, clutching her head in the farmhouse bedroom. John tries to comfort her, but she flinches away, pointing at him with pure accusation. Still terrified from the dream, she demands to know what he is doing there. Our boy looks completely lost for words, stammering that he just wanted to help. Her eyes flare green again, demanding a reason why she should not just kill him on the spot. And John, looking absolutely wrecked, just tells her that she should. With her eyes flaring green, she is completely stunned by his death wish. John just tells her yeah, she should kill him, but not like this. It is a suicide move for her. This flashes back to him warning her that her own mana is pure poison, but she could not care less. He is practically begging her to stop, insisting she is too weak and this attack is just self-destruction. And with a sudden gasp, she finally relents, breaking off the magical assault. Our boy looks massively relieved, thanking whatever gods are listening that she finally stopped. Then we are back in the present, and she is pointing right at him, dropping the bomb. She knows he is the eternal flame. He throws it right back, yelling that she never told him she was a witch, and she twists the knife. She is only half of one thanks to him. Completely baffled, he asks how that is possible, and she reveals her grandmother was a witch who was supposed to pass on her class. And the reason it never happened. The class ceremony was interrupted the night the eternal flame burned her village to the ground. Flashing back to that day, her grandmother asks a nervous-looking Ellie how she is feeling about the big event. A younger Ellie admits she is nervous, but this is the moment she has been waiting for her whole life. This grandmother just smirks, gently mocking her for saying she has waited her entire life for this. While taking a drink, she gently teases Ellie, saying she talks as if her life has been so long already. Ellie tries to give her credit, saying she is wise because of her, but Grandma's not taking the bait. Then it is time. Her grandmother takes her by the hand to lead her to the barn for the ritual. Within the barn, the ceremony is underway, green magical energy swirling as her grandmother holds up an ornate vessel. That power then floods into Ellie, who looks like she is in agony as the magic takes hold. Her grandmother, looking totally unbothered by the magical vortex, calmly asks if everything's all right. But Ellie is panicking, voicing her deepest fears. What if it does not work? What if she is no good at this? Her grandmother offers some last-minute encouragement, telling her she will be a great witch. With the ritual in full swing, her grandmother tells her to trust the process and close her eyes. A confident smile spreads across her face as she thinks about her powerful lineage. And that is when a massive explosion completely blows the ceremony to hell, sending Grandma flying. Ellie screams in terror as she sees her grandmother lying on the floor surrounded by fire. This entire barn goes up in a massive inferno, the ritual totally shattered. Inside the burning structure, the roof starts to collapse right on top of them. Her grandmother shoves her out of the way just as a huge beam is about to crush her. But the move leaves Grandma trapped under the falling debris, and Ellie can only watch. She desperately tries to reach her, but the old woman is completely pinned by the wreckage. Back in the present, John pieces it together. The ceremony was not a failure, just interrupted. He figures out she is basically stuck mid-ritual, which explains her weird mana and offers a dangerous fix. Ellie's eyes widen at the very idea that this curse could actually be fixed. So John breaks out a teapot analogy. A person's mana capacity is a teacup, and you cannot pour a whole pot into it. He explains that a class ceremony is all about the bestower using their own mana to build a bigger cup for the recipient. A successful ritual lets the new class holder use that extra mana to forge a permanent bowl for themselves. But if it fails, the temporary bowl shatters and the original cup cracks, making future attempts impossible. And here is the twist: he tells her that her grandmother's temporary bowl is still inside her. Standing by the window, he lays out the path: learn to control her mana and she can finish the ritual herself. And then he adds she could kill him for real safely this time without it being a suicide mission. Furious, Ellie snaps that he is patronizing her, insisting she could have killed him whenever she wanted. John calmly admits he knew, saying he sensed something was off about her cheese from day one. She is completely floored by this, asking why he'd eat it if he was already suspicious. Our boy just lights a matchstick with his fire magic, smugly confirming that he absolutely did. And now he leaves the choice to her, saying it is her call what to do with her curse.